观众朋友们，大家好，欢迎收看《斗阵特工太平洋职业锦标赛》第2天的赛事，我是今天的主持人小熊。今天呢，非常感谢大家热情的参与，我们馆内做的是满满的。那么呢，在我身后的有来自于韩国跟日本的 coser， 那我们就先来欢迎来自韩国的死神 Dangerous Man。哇，非常的帅气，对不对？再来还有非常可爱的哦，来自日本的闪光 Sweet。哇，真的是非常可爱。但是呢，还有最后来自韩国的 Diva 超级正的 Aki。是的，相信大家一定有看昨天的比赛吧？昨天的闪电狼是非常强势，拿下4-0的压倒性的胜利。但我相信呢 ，Blank 今天一定是拿出破釜沉舟的意志来准备迎战啦。那么接下来，斗阵特工太平洋职业锦标赛第2天的赛事正式开始。
拿刀再砍对方的2名成员，配合上技炯，哇，这边1刀3命。
真的突然想往一个目标前进的话，真的会充满干劲。你挺到这里的时候，你回头去看曾经做过一切，都觉得很有成就感。
I guess it's just the realization that you can't always win every game, and losses aren't as bad as you think they are because you can learn and improve from them. Just watch over VODs and see mistakes.
I guess it's not a surprise that we're here. We kind of expected to get to this point before the tournament started. We honestly expected to do better, I guess. We're going to be working really hard to win the playoffs as well.
马上要登场的就是今天的主场队伍，掌声欢迎 Blank Esports。掌声欢迎 BLK。好的，今天 Blank 是有不能输的理由，相信他们一定会拿出全力来应战强敌闪电狼。那么接下来要登场的就是昨天拿下4-0胜利的闪电狼。掌声欢迎闪电狼！是的，今天这个欢呼声非常的剧烈。现在请我们2队选手站好，我们来对我们正中间的镜头拍一张照片。等一下呢，气氛是非常的紧张，因为今天呢 ，Blank 有不能输的理由，而闪电狼再拿下1胜胜利就可以拿到今天的冠军了。那么接下来，我们请2队选手准备就战斗位置了，2队选手请入座。再来就是也是大家很期待的我们的这个赛前喊话时间。好，我们这边就请我们的主场队伍 Blank 教练先来开始。
其实啊，昨天输了4-0，其实都是计划的一个节奏。
thoughts from the coaches here as well?
昨天也让我们创下了那个画出进攻的世界纪录，所以今天很期待再创下，不说4个啦，就说3个纪录就好了。
哇，教练真的非常幽默，但想必你压力应该是蛮大的吧？
睡得真香甜。
教练，我真的非常欣赏你的态度，你真的太厉害了。好了，闪亮的教练来。
And Ray on the other side.
说实话，我在这圈子这么久，我不痛不痒。对，我真的不痛不痒。昨天
I don't feel anything from that.
对，就是
I'm neither itching nor hurting.
我觉得我是很认真啦，我一点就觉得不好笑。
I've been very focused so far, and
其实会
it's been nothing to laugh about. And
就是
today will be the same result.
哇哦！最近这个赛前访问我越来越 hold 不住了，实在是火药味非常重。那我马上把画面交给我们专业的分析台。
All right, so there it is.
Certainly,
Serenity still firing blanks.
And
I'm kidding.
certainly
No, he's-
rising to the BM occasion, but let's be honest, it is actually Blank who have to rise to the occasion in terms of gameplay today. Flash will set themselves up, not just with a win yesterday, but with frankly a dominant win. The 4-0 was absolutely resounding.
Absolutely.
The saving graces for Blank were many, but saving graces that don't amount to map wins are not enough. So today we have to see if they can convert those saving graces into actual improvement, into real tangible changes, and see if they can actually come back swinging on this day too, because that is their chance to do this.
And do apologise for the audio issues that we'd had early on. I do believe those are all fixed now. As you know, teams are getting ready into their seats. Blank are of course on their home day today versus the away side that they were on yesterday. So that's going to be a change up as well. So we talk about Blank coming back on today, maybe something a little bit more to prove. They get the opportunity to do that with a little bit of advantage because they do get map picks 1, 3, 5, and 7 as well as the starting sides.
And of course, you can see there yesterday, Flash Wolves with the 4-0. You can see that up top with the round 1 result there. Of course, Flash Wolves had the home side yesterday, hence the blue. And that's really the strength of that home side advantage across the finals as a whole, is even though yesterday is Blank's home day, they have this chance to maybe equalize the score, and we really do feel like there is the ability in this team to do that. If they come out firing on all cylinders, this is their chance to strike back against Flash Wolves after what happened yesterday. But even after doing that, actually, day 3 will still come around, and it'll be Flash Wolves looking to do the exact same thing to Blank, looking to fire back themselves. So it is all uphill here from Blank, no matter how you slice it.
And I do want to specifically say the advantages of the home side, to me at least. Yes, you do get more map picks. You get the 1 extra map pick. But what it really means in the context of what those game modes are, specifically for Blank, they want to be on home because you get to pick the control and you also get to pick the assault. And for a team like Blank that specialize in control as a very favorable game mode and also have assault as a very weak game mode, they need to dictate what both of those map picks are going to be.
Exactly, and of course last night we saw the exact result of that not being the case. Flash Wolves were able to take Blank to their weakest assault map. I will say though, in their defense, the opener was stunning for Blank. They actually yesterday, for those of you who don't know, set a record on Hanamura for fastest double cap time in a professional LAN.
1:23.
1 minute 23 seconds. That is on record as the fastest one, according to Winston's Lab on Twitter, which was an interesting stat to kind of get partway through that, but it does go to show how strong they can be. But they did actually go on to lose that.
They did indeed, and today they're going to have to come back with a bit of vengeance and to explain the format of how this playoffs work. We are in of course, the grand finals. It is a 3-day event, and you have to win 2 out of the 3 days as a best of 3. Now, each day is a best of 7 within itself, so you have to be able to win 2 of these best of 7 days, and you swap the home and away side. So Flash Wolves started day 1 as the home. Today they will be away, and if we get to tomorrow, Flash Wolves will be home again.
And that is why, of course, during the tournament itself, we were talking about the importance of that seed. That double home side advantage, if you do go to the full 3 days, is significant. Sure, it's only a couple of map picks on each day that you get over the other team, but you add that up over all 21 potential games, and it really does stack up. It is a significant kind of difference there. And like you said as well, especially when you got 2 teams like this, because it's not just from the perspective of Blank of wanting to be able to pick that control and shore up the weakness on assault. Actually, Flash Wolves are extremely strong on control as well. You know, you want that to be a pick that you have in your favor, and Flash Wolves are going to potentially get that twice, whereas Blank are only guaranteed to get it the once. And if they lose that, then they just lose it altogether anyway. They won't have even got the maximum mileage out of that.
And I do think Blank today as well, they want to get an early lead on, which is why the first couple of map picks do give you a decent amount of momentum. I said yesterday, if Blank were going to go down 0-3, it's very likely that we're going to get the fourth loss as well. In terms of momentum for wins, Flash Wolves had that under their belt. Now for Blank today, they have the ability to dictate the early pacing of the first few maps. Unfortunately, they're not going to get the Assault pick, which is going to be a little bit of a hurdle they have to get past because they might not get the Dorado early.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, they do get the first one, but they don't get the second one later on down the line.
No, they don't get the first escort, they get the last escort.
You're right, escort. You said assault there, my
did I?
Man. You
okay.
did, but that's all right.
Escort
I
is
forgive
what I'm
you.
talking
Yeah.
about.
You're completely right, though, and that is actually completely fair because they did get the escort pick yesterday, and even then weren't actually able to convert something off it. And that could well be, if they get 4-0 tonight, that could well be the last chance they ever had to pick escort or indeed escort and hybrid both actually. And at that point, you'd be kind of kicking yourselves, you know. I don't think they picked a bad map by any measure, right? Dorado is a great escort map for Blank, who are already strong on escort, but you'd be kicking yourself for not getting more mileage out of that when you had that in your favor. And we said at the top of this is Blank's chance to strike back. I want to talk about the specifics of how they can actually do that. Do you have any thoughts? But when I say I want to talk about it, what I really mean is I want you to talk about it.
Right, okay. Because I was waiting, you're like, I want to talk about it. Like, okay, well, please. No, well, it really comes down to Blank's adaptability across the 24 hours that we have had we get to see the rosters coming up as well. So there's Blank on your screens. We'll get into the details of exactly who the players are, what they're going to play later as we get the player cam pass-throughs. But for Blank, they need to show how well they've adapted overnight. They said themselves they haven't had a chance to see Flash Wolves now for about 2 weeks. Now they have seen Flash Wolves. They know what they're capable of. What have they done in the meantime?
Here we go. Gunber taking up the support slot. A bit of the brains of the team at times. Certainly does a lot of the work in that, that 24-hour turnaround time. He will have been really hitting the books. Atar holding down the DPS as well. And we'll get the full flyby. This here right now is probably one of the most impressive superstars of the team. Really the only Tracer to be matching Bacon Jack this entire tournament. Or indeed, is it Bacon Jack matching him? RQT, so the other half, the left side of that Gunber brain, if you will.
Yeah. And the captain of the team, of course, the other support. We also have Trill on the tank side. Got a decent amount of DPSs listed here for him. Something he hasn't had a chance to bring out for a long time now. No. Blank have recently been sticking onto very strictly 2-2-2. And of course, Kiki, the flex tank player, got a backup Winston on there as well. But, it does seem like Blank have found their pacing in terms of what they like to play. And a team that has also done that is Flash Wolves. And a team that has, I would like to say, set the standard for the Tracer Soldier composition in this particular tournament as the team that has mastered the Soldier Tracer.
And you saw on your screens there for a moment Zonda being the Soldier half of that combo and one of the most impressive Soldiers in the entire tournament. To be honest, you can look at some members on an individual basis and go, oh yeah, there's this other player who's maybe a bit better than them pound for pound, but at the end of the day, this team put together is just making more use of Zonda on that Soldier than any of those other teams are as it is. Now here kind of moving through the rest of the squad as well. K-Momo, their sort of resident diva and also taking up the flex spot. And here, this man, Jongi, the main tank.
And this is probably one of the, I would like to say that Jongi is the big difference across the two teams. When we talk about Bacon Jack, when we talk about Eat Up, these are two Tracer players that really meet each other head to head. It's hard to say, look, who's better is up for debate. Some people think it's Bacon Jack, other people think it's I Eat You Up. I like to think they're very close in. It's a big test to see which one actually is better, but when we look at the tank side, that's where I feel like Flash Wolves really have that leg up over Blank. It's not necessarily to say that Blank's tanks are not very good. They're good, but Jongi is phenomenal, and that makes a difference.
He absolutely is. Excuse me. And then, of course, when you put that into a team like Flash Wolves that just seems to have all that team synergy down, they just gel, they just work together. It's this innate thing they seem to have. Yeah, sure, Blank have the same, but when you've got that little bit of extra pound for pound weight on your tank and you're Blank and you don't quite measure up in that particular regard, look, that is just a weakness that you have when you look at the on paper, and it's a weakness that has to be made up for elsewhere. And honestly, the question really is actually, is there somewhere else on that team where Blank can kind of make up for that weakness? I don't know that there is. I will say yesterday, they didn't quite seem to be firing on all cylinders. And I think if they come out today doing that, look, this is so achievable for Blank. They're not as far behind Flash Wolves as I think a lot of people would have thought.
And I think there's a compounding effect from some of these individuals as well, because when we look at the DPS side, ignoring the traces for a second, when we compare the soldiers, Atar's been a pretty decent soldier. He's had some fantastic moments. He also had some fantastic moments on the Genji yesterday as well. He was one of the key factors as to why Hanamura actually ended up being so good for Blank. But when Atar has suffered on soldier, a direct response and a direct reason for that has come down to Jongi being extremely good on his end and Troll not being as effective against Zonda on the other side. And the first map pick does come through, and it is Ilios from Blank.
Not surprising.
Their number one pick.
Not surprising at all. I think one thing that is very interesting though about this is that head-to-head you see at the bottom there. So both teams have a 100% win rate on this, right? Blank have a 100% win rate on that. By the way, that actually doesn't include their game against AHQ in the semifinals. They did actually lose Ilios in the semifinals to Blank on day one. But that aside, regular season, undefeated, and this is in about 8 games on Ilios. It is an incredible number. Flash Wolves, they had a much, much smaller number by comparison, and these teams never had a head-to-head on Ilios as well. So there's some questions about that, but Blank certainly have the stronger on-paper stats coming into this.
And I think Flash Wolves needed to have been prepared for this. Flash Wolves are aware, and they should be very well aware, Ilios is Blank's best map choice for that control, and of course you see a lot of Flash Wolves fans in the crowd tonight as well, and surely from yesterday, lots of banners in there. A lot of Bacon Jack fans I'm noticing, to be honest.
I was noticing that as well. I'm wondering what the paws are. What's this? What is this?
That's actually the hostess. That's Unico. Unico has her own banners, and she's not even playing in the game.
Wow. Well, there you go. And pretty packed crowd.
I'm looking out for a Pixie banner in there somewhere, but I'm sure it'll show up.
Just someone with like a stick-on moustache.
It's actually just Gumba.
It's just Gumba.
Gumba is
honoring me. Thank you, Gumba. But this is not at all a surprising map pick. But you touched on something there, and I kind of want to extrapolate that a little bit further because look, Flash Wolves will know that this was coming, right? They should have absolutely expected this. And the thing is, right, AHQ were exactly the same. On the semi-final day one, AHQ expected Blank to take them to Ilios when they had that control pick with that home side advantage. And they had prepared. And it showed. It showed in them winning. Flash Wolves are also a team that will have prepared for something like this. So the question is, has Flash Wolves' preparation been enough to overcome how good Blank are on this map? And have Blank pushed themselves even further on this map to a level to which Flash Wolves could not have prepared for?
The biggest question I have is when we get to the Ruins, and in fact I think we're starting on Ruins, so this is going to get answered very quickly. We know Eat Up is going to play the Widowmaker. What are Flash Wolves going to do? Because it doesn't look like they will play the Widowmaker. When we see AHQ beating Blank on Ilios, they did that because they put Dizzy on the Widowmaker as well, and he beat Eat Up in that 1v1 matchup. So Eat Up was severely muted. How are Flash Wolves going to do it? Because they're not going to run that.
It's interesting, yeah, because when I was talking about that pound for pound with Zonda in terms of other soldiers in the tournament, Dizzy was on my mind, right? Flash Wolves don't have that. They're not opting into the Widowmaker. So this is just Blank able to go straight out the gate with exactly what they want. What's going to come down to, though, is whether Eat Up can actually get a pick here. Zonda is trying to get aggressive, and Flash Wolves do have a lot of ground here. He is indeed low, so he's actually just going to have to go ahead and back off instead. And Blank are kind of keeping Flash Wolves on lockdown. They're not really able to take the ground that they're looking for, and that means that Blank are able to start moving in and taking it themselves.
I actually think Gumba got the health pack control early because they've really forced a position using Eat Up's sniper rifle to sort of zone out Flash Wolves, and now Sinclair, he doesn't have that big health pack. That's going to affect the way Flash Wolves can approach this point. They're so far behind in terms of where their Sombra lies. At least Sinclair has got that EMP first. They got to make use of it.
Yeah, exactly. They have to make use of it, actually, and they started to get cleaned up slowly off the back of that fight. It wasn't in this kind of blowout way, but it was just because Blank had a little bit more pressure positionally speaking, and it does actually feel like Flash Wolves don't have too much room to breathe here. Blank have come out looking very strong off the top of this. Not Eden is that pulse, but I'm going to be able to demech K-Momo. Going open, yeah, and also caught Bacon Jack in there, and this is a very strong opening now. The two of those down and out of the picture means Gunba will be able to get his EMP up now as well, as Sinclair had blown his to no effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to mention, Eat Up with the infra sight on the Widowmaker is actually a good counter to EMP in the sense that you can preempt where the Sombra is going to come from. You see the pathing, you can really play around the Sombra positioning and make sure you're not caught by the EMP in full effect. And that's exactly how Blank have been able to play. Now an EMP in their own book, they can really do something with it.
Wow, and that was without that infra sight actually running. It's like Sombra's like been here all along, and Widowmaker's like, yeah, I know. Yeah.
I paid you to be there.
Gunva also able to keep control of this big health pack off to the side. By the way, note that he hacked it quite late. He waited until they knew how close Flash Wolves were so that they can maximize their uptime on this during the fight that is about to ensue. And now with that EMP available, plus the self-destruct, we can see Gunva already, if you will, gunning for it. Gonna try and get right on top of K-Moment. This is sick, right on top of him. The follow-up is straight in there, and the pick here onto Sinkler as well. I mean, once again, Flash Wolves, no room to breathe. They do need to convert. They're having a bit of a hard time. Now Jongi's actually going to be able to stall, but Kiki able to throw in the self-destruct into the room. Does mean Flash Wolves still don't have that room to breathe. Zonda has finally dislodged EDU up, and that is their moment to go. They need to still get past some of the crucial ultimates that Blank have. I think that was just barely eaten, that pulse bomb, and now with the sound barrier running, they press the go button. Taking out the DPS now as they're getting all over this point. It is going to get as high as, I believe, 99%, indeed it is, but they have at least finally got themselves a cap.
We've actually seen the first mistake of Blank so far in the series. They had a really strong start. The EMP, however, was not strong at all. They used the EMP in a questionable situation. I saw the Diva come out, so K-Momo was a target for Gumba. However, where were the rest of Blank? They couldn't actually dive into K-Momo. They couldn't convert any kills of the EMP. They would have been better off saving that. They already had a player advantage. They didn't need to get greedy. They did, and Flash was punished.
The thing with this though, as much as Flash Wolves have punished, as much as they've got this, EDU up can still just swing any given fight by getting one crucial pick at the top. But D-Mech and K-Momo, great way to start now for for Blank in general rather. They haven't quite got that pick, but they're able to crack this one open. They force Zonda back, and now they're just brawling and skirmishing off in this little narrow part of the side of the point. They just absolutely destroyed Flash Wolves there. I'm not even sure what Flash Wolves are all doing clustered in that one spot, but it is indeed going to be it. The overtime will tick down here. No one from Flash Wolves anywhere close to it, and actually, never mind. Zonda able to get a last laugh in, but that's all he's going to get. I don't really think the team can quite reinforce off this. ATAR keeping himself alive. Actually, they are going to pile in, don't quite touch the point in time. And Blank are going to set themselves 1-0 up, a much better start than yesterday.
Yeah, and if it's home day time, you're on our home turf, and Flash Wolves, it's time to get out. Eviction mode, I believe, for Blank is the name of the game for them tonight, and that was definitely a way to start things off on Ilios, their best map, and it shows exactly why this is their best map. If you come to Ilios, you know it's going to be Ruins, you know there's going to be a Widowmaker. Your plan was to run Tracer and Genji, it didn't work. Your plan was to run Sombra, it didn't work. Our Sombra got there first, we bullied you out, we took the health pack, you stayed on Sombra for another 2 fights, that's a big mistake. Then you change onto Ana, it's a little bit too late, you're already at 99%, you lose.
And that is Ruins. That is a slightly different kettle of fish to Lighthouse and Well both, so we'll see how they stack up here. But what that Ruins has told me is Flash Wolves did not prep for this the same way that AHQ did. AHQ's performance was better.
Now that we're past Ruins, though, this is the big question, because we're back to the Soldier Tracer playstyle, and Flash Wolves have been better in this specific playstyle, in the specific composition. They had the Sombra before, they had the Widow before, they don't get it now.
Look at this, Bacon Jack is sat around the side to try and deal with Trill when he dives in, but Blank are sat on the point instead with EDU up. So they're going to try and pressure Flash Wolves out of this position. Trill isn't really interested in diving just yet, and they're going to try and force Flash Wolves' hand.
So far, it does appear Flash Wolves, at least Bacon Jack has control of the health pack room. Blank actually went for the early contest onto the cat though, so that's going to be an interesting fight.
And they forced Flash Wolves' hand, like I said, exactly what they were looking to do there. And because they weren't able to catch any members trying to pile into the point, good pick out onto Zonda as well there. And honestly, the rest of these members of Flash Wolves are just too far forced back now as Jongi gets picked out as well. And this is really, really nice maneuvering by Blank, just honestly throwing Flash Wolves for a bit of a loop there. They didn't really react to it adequately.
I think, T-Up gets the punish onto Bacon Jack as well. Nice convert over after Zonda was killed. And Zonda, he's a big strength of this Flash Wolves team. He can also be weakness. You see the way he was positioned that last fight, so aggressive onto Trill. He wanted to get the kill onto Trill. He got reflected instead. The shield came down. Zonda had nothing in that fight. He was just completely taken out. Bacon Jack punished off to the side as well. Blank, they had a great start on Ruins, and now on Lighthouse it's looking like the same.
Yeah, it's certainly not over yet, but yeah, absolutely. Flash Wolves just aren't reacting to the plays that Blank are making. They're not really respecting that Blank are good at this map, and they know how to make you dance to their beat.
Double support ultimates already available for Blank. So for Flash Wolves, if you want to take Visor here, hell, even if you want to be a Pulse Bomb, it's not going to be as effective. They've got to play around this.
Looking for ATAR and a good dive. Actually, the follow-up is there, and that's the open up. They're not going to blow any defensive ultimates here. EDU the only one to throw anything out, and they're just going to take this one on the chin. They have actually got a good number of strikes back, though, so really if Bacon Jack can't convert more, they might just have to back off, actually converting onto Zonda as well. So despite the rough start, they just barely kind of held on to the right things at the right time, and a couple of environmental kills scraped through.
I think the big difference there was the sound barrier. I was kind of surprised we didn't see an earlier transcendence, considering that Gumbar actually died, considering that Atar died very early. I don't know why Atar was that far out. He got caught out. This is a mistake that Blank need to sort of shape up and make sure it doesn't happen again. They need to use the tactical visor in the next fight. That plus the transcendence is how they're going to win.
Pound for pound, Flash Wolves are going to have a few more ults coming up for this one. But if EUR can get this pulse bomb up and get a lot of mileage out of it, that is the one advantage they may have. It's going to be a hard ask here. Flash Wolves pile onto the point. They have to stay on it, though, in this overtime. And that's already 2 support ultimates out the Transcendence from Blank. And now from Singler as well, as the barrier is gone and Zonda's opening up now. There's nothing to keep the members of Blank alive. They're playing discipline, though, holding on to those last few ults. They're going to draw as much as they can out of Flash Wolves. They get 3. They'll take the loss on the chin and try and come back into recap.
I'm very surprised no one saw Zonda in the back there. He was wrapped around the back of the cap, and I mean, he got his first kill on Edip, and Edip had no idea Zonda had made that flank. It was a big mistake. 3 members is what Zonda got out of it, and it was a huge pickup, and Blake had no response. At least they're going to come back with a bunch of ults now. They are still in a decent winning position, but they do not have control of the game.
They don't quite, but Eat You Up getting the pressure on the Bacon Jack Pulse Bomb out doesn't quite find anything, but they've still got the ultimates up, and there's nothing defensive for Flash Wolves. That's crucial because RQT is about to get Sound Barrier. They need to convert something quick here, Flash Wolves, if they want to stay alive, but too deep goes Jongi, and came over against D-Make. That's going to force out the self-destruct. Blank can now just hold off for a moment as Triller's getting aggressive on the point itself. Atar doesn't find too much, but it's just enough. By the way, K-Momo killing Kiki with the recoil of the mech. That's not one we see all that often, but it doesn't matter anyway because Blank have the regrab. They're going to set themselves up now 2-0.
And Jongi's have to dive into this one. He'll probably get killed really quickly. Gets the Primal Rage in time, but he's already discarded. I think he's going to go down anyway.
He did catch Atar, but I don't think there's anyone else here who can extend this overtime anyway. So same as what we saw last time, actually. Someone was just barely able to keep the point alive for Flash Wolves, but they weren't able to reinforce anyway.
Honestly, I'm a little bit surprised Jongi got caught out in the way he did. I'm not talking about the Primal Rage at the end there. That was a result of him dying to the earlier fight from one fight before, and I don't know, Edip kind of just got that free kill on him, and this isn't something that happened yesterday. Jongi was not the person that was getting caught out of position, getting those early deaths. He was doing the opposite. He was able to find openings in Blank, get the early kills on Blank instead, and this time around, we're not seeing the same Jongi we saw yesterday, and it has made a difference in the play. The fact that he died early, the fact that he was the only one coming back, yeah, he Primal Rage, but absolutely not enough to save the point. Blank at 2-0 up, this is great.
This is exactly what they were after here. Like I said, already looking way stronger than they did against AHQ on this exact same map on day 1. We went to all kinds of 99 to 99s, and AHQ then took it out, but Blank 2-0 up without too much contest from Flash Wolves, and again the pressure on Zonda, and Bacon Jack both low. Means they're just going to have to cede this ground or risk going down now as Edu Up is finally set up for this flank here, and now Blank are all set to dive if they so choose. There is nowhere good for Flash Wolves to retreat. This is on a knife's edge for them.
Now for Blank, they need to actually pressure out this position. Yeah, they got the DPSs low, but I don't feel like they've really moved forward and put that pressure onto Flash Wolves that they needed.
They've tried to kind of reverse the positioning here to cut off Flash Wolves' retreat, but Flash Wolves smartly haven't retreated. They've just traded spaces here. It does mean the cap is going to go the way of Blank because Flash Wolves can't really go in. It's too risky and they can't retreat, but now they can actually go in for a fight. Never mind that. Atar already picking up the supports means it doesn't matter really what they pick up from here. It's not going to be enough. Zonda desperately trying to keep himself alive actually may just work, and they're starting to pop some mechs here, but there we go. Finally the aggression in from Trill. Had the health pool to just barely get in there, and that's the cut off retreat path from Flash Wolves, costing them at last. Blank will be able to reinforce and get the hold.
Atar getting the first pick onto Realman as well was really important. Usually, by yesterday's results, it was always Flash Wolves getting that opening, getting the early pressure, getting the opening, getting the positioning as well. That's something Flash Wolves haven't gotten so far, at least not on Ilios. But the fact that Blank are getting these opening picks, I mean, something's wrong with Flash Wolves compared to what we saw before.
Oh, that's a good response though. Soldier for Soldier, they'll be happy to take that. They do lose RQT, but they have a Transcendence. They have some ultimates to go off here, and they're about to demech K-Momo. The follow-up is going to come through there. And really, there's no DPS to be contesting that anyway. So, despite getting that early pick, Flash Wolves won't really be able to convert it. What they have done is drawn some ultimates out of Blank that will help them for next fight. But if Blank convert more kills off the back of this, then it may just not help Flash Wolves at all, and that is what they're trying to do. Bacon Jack going to come to the end of Jongi, safe, shore up his retreat path, And Blank will hold on, but Flash Wolves have an opportunity now.
I think Blank are going to hold on for a little bit longer. Flash Wolves do have a little bit of an ultimate advantage. It's nothing really to write home about when you consider that Blank about got the same here, and they're going to get the pulse bomb up very soon as well. I believe Blank should be able to hold on to this to at least the 99%.
That's crucial. Trill staying alive is great, but it does force out the Transcendence. Sound Barrier forced out though in kind for Flash Wolves. Now Zonda has to kind of go aggressive, zoned out by the self-destruct. Good placement by Kiki. They get a boop onto Bacon Jack. That's huge for the opener here, and this is probably going to be Flash Wolves' last fight. Now Pulse Bomb stuck onto Realman. He is done so, and now they're looking to get aggressive, route out the rest of them. Sinkler will keep the remainder of his team alive for a moment with Transcendence, but down the back top, abandoned him on the point. They did get a couple of catches through onto the members of Blank, but they can't quite close out the rest. John gets ulting on the point, but this kind of feels like stalling. Unless he can really convert hard here, it's not going to do much, and Atar is just running them in circles, wasting all their time, wasting all their ultimates, and now that's run out. Blank may want to reinforce, or they may just see this one over, knowing that Flash Wolves have used everything they had.
And if Blank want to see this one over, they should do that immediately, because Flash Wolves are still diving in. Blank are not going to get any extra progress, they're just going to feed out extra kills. This is where Flash Wolves have the opportunity to now try and stabilize. Blank don't have any ultimates available, they lost a lot of members, they're still waiting for respawns. Blank are going to struggle for the next couple of fights. I'll be very surprised if Blank can win it on this immediate next fight.
That being said, one pick is often all it takes to secure it, and that may just be what happens here. And they are a little bit closer to their ultimates than Flash Wolves, so they may just look to get those defensive ultimates in and pile on top of Flash Wolves.
Still, time is definitely ticking. We've got 25% since Flash Wolves have camped, and Blank haven't made a move just yet. You do want to make sure you're not wasting too much time. It does actually look like the Pulse Bomb came down. Didn't get a kill in there. Now comes the commit.
Yeah, that's that sound barrier that they have up on Realman. He hasn't used his just yet, but losing Eat You Up is very unfortunate for Blank. They're going to have to back off from this point. Good explosion there. Catches Trill and Kiki's mech. So Blank will just have to go ahead and retreat. Don't want to use up any more ultimates in there. Kiki does go down. They've got a few more up this time, so they have a more favorable fight now, but that was a little bit longer than Blank would have liked.
And I'm a little bit concerned about the fact that Blank used a couple of ultimates there. Over 50% is gone. Now, in that 50%, we only saw one fight. Blank are taking a lot of time to be able to set up for these fights, and they're only going to get one more based on the fact that we took 50% just to get a single one in there. So I'm going to put out there and say, this is probably going to be the make it or break it fight for Blank, and they will commit their ults.
And they do at least have more to commit. And that is the one thing that works in their favor here. There
nice
is a commit.
stick.
What a stick. That's that. Catches Sinkler in it too. Flash Wolves now deeply on the back foot and with very few of the ultimates they had. They didn't really have many to start with, but Atar going to close out the rest. Now Jongi is the last man standing. Attempting to stall here. Not going to work. Blank get the cap through. No one is going to get that extra bit of overtime for Flash Wolves, and they needed to do it right then. They absolutely did it, and this is Blank firing on all cylinders.
And if you've ever wanted to see a game-winning play, that was exactly the one. One Pulse Bomb to secure 2 kills at the most crucial point on the entire map and the entire series of Ilios. That's where the 3-0 comes from. I Eat You Up, the Tracer play of the game. Not the one you're going to get to see because Zonda stole that one away, but the one that won the game went to Eat You Up.
Yeah, not surprised though that this one was play of the game. You kind of touched on the positioning when it did happen, but all right. Blank are now 1-0 and up. It was a resounding win. It was a 3-0. Flash Wolves, the closest they actually got to really getting a map of their own on that was on Well, and even then, not massively so. They only really ever won one fight while they held the point, and that was on Well. I'm going to go ahead and say Blank are looking better than yesterday. That's just that's a truth now. But they're also looking their best on their home day with their map pick, which we know to be their strongest control map anyway. So this is a good sign, but it's not necessarily indicative of how the day is going to go.
Exactly.
If they can start to take out a few more here, especially if they can convert this next hybrid, I'm going to go ahead and say that Blank can really take today, but this could just still be Flash Wolves.
So here's the thing, you're absolutely right about that. One thing to take away from this is Blank have now ended the Flash Wolves map win streak. It has stopped at what I believe
You're
to
quite
be,
right.
Is it 60 or 61 maps?
We
It's
were
one
at
of those
61 after yesterday.
Yeah.
We were at 57 and they picked up a 4, so there you go. 61 and they're done.
And they're done. Everyone can go home. No,
Yeah, see ya.
but for Blank just walk
Blank
out. They're like,
home.
we win.
Yeah, it's their home days.
But for Blank, you're absolutely right. They got the win on Ilios, and this was the most expected, resounding victory for them because they needed to win Ilios. If they didn't win Ilios, we would have a very rough night. It would be almost, it would start to look like a repeat of yesterday where Blank come out looking, you know, they don't have all cylinders firing just yet. They're still starting up their engine, and it's too late. They're starting a little bit too slowly. especially if it's your best map. If you're not going to win on your best map, how are you going to win on something that isn't going to be your best map?
Yeah, exactly. There are a couple of other things at play here that I sort of want to touch on, and the first kind of goes off the back of this. You know, they've ended this win streak now. That's really big. They're the first team to actually beat Flash Wolves on a map in that many wins. 61. In 61 map wins, 9 weeks of competitive play, in which they have met 3 times. That is not at all to be discounted. But what this also says is, after yesterday's 4-0, Blank can still beat Flash Wolves. That is important. That's something that they're going to really need to cling to moving forward, and that needs to be their kind of bastion of hope. The other side of this, though, and this is something that is a little bit more theoretical, but based on how the semifinals went as well, you can start to suggest that maybe Blank are a bit of a slow burn kind of team, because day 2 against AHQ looked better than day 1. It just so happened to be that they won day 1, and they dropped the first 2 maps on day 1 as well.
Yeah.
So it's a bit different when you drop all 4 on that day 1, but now picking up this 1 map win, and we were saying over those 4 map losses yesterday, they were getting better and better at each one. Maybe this is the moment where they've turned the tables, and maybe they are a slow burn team that are slowly going to get better and better and better to the point where they overwhelm Flash Wolves. That has to be the fear for Flash Wolves right now.
They're the kind of vehicle where if you want to get to work in the morning, you've got a little bit of an older car, you've got to start your engine like 30 minutes. You got to start your engine like 30 minutes prior.
It's like a winter day and your heating's a bit bunged out. Like, it's not until you're like you're 3/4 of the way to work, and then finally it comes on. You're like, oh.
Exactly. But then you're already at work, so what the hell? So
there's nothing worse than like you're driving and shivering.
I do feel like Blank are exactly what you said. They feel like a slow burn team. They feel like a team that takes a little bit to get going, and the AHQ series was evident of that. They dropped the first 2 maps, one of which was Ilios, and look, Ilios was meant to be their best map, and Enup got outsniped by Dizzy. They kind of got outplayed on Well and Lighthouse as well. It was just a bit of a disaster on their best map. And now we look at this, 3-0 in resounding fashion, and a very convincing victory over Flash Wolves as well. I mean, the Flash Wolves of yesterday versus Blank, totally 180 from that.
Yeah. The other thing I kind of want to touch on here, we talked a lot about Eat You Up, and of course we talked about him in the context of him versus Dizzy. We've touched on that a bit, but the other factor there that was really big was that Sombra mirror. Gunba outclassed Realment, full stop. And that's actually really important for them, because the other thing is the assault map we went to yesterday, Hanamura, is the only one where you just don't see the Sombra at all. That's something that they're going to hold on to today.
All right, well, let's take a look at the replay now. We're of course going to start with the Well, and this is going to be from Edup's perspective as well in the bottom left here. So it is the opening fight. You can actually see Edup already getting the pressure onto the health pack zone. He knows Bacon Jack's going to go there. Also, both Traces go for this early duel against each other, and the damage does seem to go in a little bit in the favor of Edup as well. And finally, it is Blank. They now press the go button and they get aggressive upon Flash Wolves. Atar finds a double kill on both supports, and pretty much after that, there's no way for Flash Wolves to come back. They lose Jongi straight afterwards as well, so any opportunity to get a counter dive is out the window.
And the thing I kind of touched on here as well was, I sort of mentioned it during the game, but the teams that actually swapped sides, that is the opposite side of the point to where both of those teams' spawns were. That was Blank's move to do that. I liked it. They were looking to kind of cut off Flash Wolves and maybe catch them by surprise with a full team flank. Flash Wolves reacted to it well, I'll give them that. But that's the second half of that strategy for Blank is, sure, Flash Wolves reacted to it. They occupied the space that Blank had left. They were just completely reversed. But Blank still had the positioning of the point itself. And what that meant for Flash Wolves, they could either commit to a fight, knowing that if it started to go pear-shaped, they had no retreat path, and they were attacking into Blank. You don't really want to do that. But you also can't just retreat, because Blank are between you and your spawn anyway. They had no good options there. And that was very smart maneuvering by Blank to put them in that situation, because that's the exact situation Blank were in yesterday time and time again.
Exactly. Specifically on Nepal, Flash Wolves were the ones backing Blank into a corner and then going for the throat straight afterwards. Now we're going to get into the next replay. Still onto Well. This is
the winning fight.
It is the winning fight.
And look at that.
That double pulse bomb kill as well.
And by the way, that was a very unusual mistake from Zonda. He is normally phenomenal at knowing where he is relative to his team, especially his healers, but he tried to wheel back from Eat You Up knowing he was going for a pulse bomb. The pulse bomb connected anyway, and that's when he really started moving and backed it up into Sinclair as well. Sinclair can't get away from that. So look, your soldier going down is a really, really rough way to start a fight. You don't want to do that, but maybe you can strike back after that, and you really need to. You had to commit to that fight anyway. Backing up and killing your own healer as well, because you weren't paying attention to where they were, because in the heat of the moment, you reacted poorly. That costs your team the fight out and out.
I think him dying would have cost them the fight regardless.
Probably,
but I think,
but it certainly secured it when Sinclair died too.
I don't really think it was a big mistake on his part, because, to be honest, he did what he needed to do there, which was, I think Eat Up got I don't want to use the word lucky or fortunate because it was calculated, but however, if you've ever seen a max range pulse bomb throw, that's what it looks like. That's it. If Zonda was like a little bit further back, it would have missed, and Zonda would have been absolutely fine. So Zonda reacted with the time that he had to react, which is very little. I would not have expected Eat Up to make that kind of play. It was a super risky play that could have been easily punished. And Flash Wolves, for Zonda, you're an experienced veteran of the game right now. You don't expect Eat Up to make that kind of an aggressive play as well. It surprised him, and it surprised him enough with the fact that Eat Up got a great toss, a max range toss, probably one of the few you'll ever see in professional play. And Zonda did what the natural thing to do was, which is back off. Unfortunately, he already got tagged.
What do I do?
He already got tagged when we started backing off. And for Sinclair as well, it's just like, whoa, no, don't come back here, but it was a little bit too late. I also did want to address the other thing you said, which was onto Ruins as well. With this double Sombra play, I think maybe there were some good moments from Gumba, but I feel like it's more to do with the fact that Blank as a team played that situation better, because the Sombra 1v1 to me isn't really a thing. You're not going to meet up in a Sombra 1v1. What it really is how do the teams go for the health pack control early? Here's the strategy for Blank. You get sight lines onto the actual health pack with your Widowmaker, where you get sight lines on the back line to prevent them from moving forward. You put the fear into Flash Wolves so they don't try and take that early positioning or the open positioning. Then you get very aggressive on the health pack. You get the hack first, and suddenly the other Sombra can't do anything. This is a big risk for control points running a Sombra, because you know if you're the Sombra that loses on the health pack, you're done. And for Sinclair, or rather was it Realman, to stay on the Sombra after losing the health pack, that's a big mistake. I don't think he should have done that. He should have swapped onto the Ana far earlier, or swapped onto something else far earlier to try and leverage the fact that, look, the health pack is gone. It's not worth us trying to get that one back. And the thing about Gumber as well, before I pass it back, is essentially, yes, he did play the Sombra good, but that one EMP that was a little bit greedy, I know what he was trying to do there, but there's no way his team could follow up. That did cost him a fight, so it's something that needs to be addressed.
And that's completely fair. Just by the way, next match about 5 minutes away, but I kind of want to touch on something else that kind of comes in there. Realman was clearly planning to hold the EMP and try and just use it in the next fight, maybe try and swing it back. You can at least understand the logic. I do completely agree with you there. Yeah, really should have just swapped off, and really that's the nature of the beast with Sombra. When you lose that early health pack control, you're behind the 8 ball, you're probably not going to get back in front of it, especially when you're fighting against things like Infrasight by that point. And it did end up costing their team a lot more time on Ruins than was absolutely necessary. The thing we have to remember, though, is Blank didn't just win Ruins. They actually won everything there. Sombra wasn't a factor on the other ones, but on the whole, Blank was still just firing on all cylinders. And it's a lot of what you were just saying there is not just the fact that they had the Sombra and Gunba played it well, whereas Realman maybe made some mistakes, especially in terms of not swapping off. At the same time, Blank, on the whole, executed better on everything they did across all of Ilios. That is very, very significant there. So Sombra is a factor in that, and maybe it'll be a factor if we see Sombra again, but on the whole now, Flash Wolves have to really start respecting what Blank are going to be able to do today. They are looking like they've really gone away and turned it around.
And if you have just joined us, the next match should be starting in roughly about 5 or so minutes, as the next map pick does, of course, go over to the Flash Wolves. It is going to be hybrid, and Kings Road did not look pretty for Blank yesterday. So should Flash Wolves go to something like Kings Road again? If Flash Wolves go to anything, I think it should be a concern for Blank. I do not expect Flash Wolves to go to Numbani. I think that would be a bit of a mistake to then give Blank another good map. Blank have now proved the fact, which is, if we go to a preferred map for us, we do well on that. In the case of Ilios, that's a win. In the case of Dorado, that's nearly a win, or at least it's contesting to threaten a win. So that's essentially what you're playing into.
And when you're Flash Wolves and you're looking at Blank today, you'd probably look at that and go, oh, if we go to Dorado again, we might have actually just, we might just lose. But you're completely right about that. The only thing to remember with Kings Row, though, is that is where they went yesterday. So Blank will also be expecting that. I guarantee Blank will have prepped for that. So you now end up in this really mind-gamey situation where Flash Wolves, like, we can't take them to Numbani. That's a bit too risky, even if we feel like we can do it. Maybe we don't actually take them to Kings Row because they will have prepped for that specifically. And you end up in this really compounding thing. Okay, but where do we go then? Or maybe we shouldn't go there because this, or maybe we're untested there, or they're untested there. And it actually means that there's no good option. They really are going into this blind.
I think there is a good option, and that good option is going to be Eichenwald, because Flash Wolves have proven to actually be a team that knows the Eichenwald map quite well. They know exactly, specifically, they have set plays for it. One of their set plays has been the Torbjorn or Rissa on the first cap. That's something they do very often, something they do very well as well. Other teams have tried to emulate it, they have also failed. Other teams have tried to emulate a lot of things Flash Wolves do, and they have failed. So for Flash Wolves, they're a well-practiced team and a well-prepared team on Eichenwald. If they went there, I would not be surprised.
That's
And I
actually
actually
fair.
think that Blank are underprepared for Eichenwald.
Yeah, I think you actually made quite a good point there. Certainly Blank have struggled a lot on Eichenwald themselves, both in their kind of, you know, we do overuse this a little bit, but during their kind of slump between round robins 2 and 3, but also beyond that as well. Outside of that, even when they've won, they haven't looked as convincing as they do on most other hybrids, and you're completely right. The other thing is, Eichenwald may be a bit of a risk for Flash Wolves to do. They're not actually going to go to Eichenwald anyway, but the thing I was going to say, because this could still be relevant later, is because Flash Wolves had the day 1 win, and because we're only 1 map in today, they can afford to go to some more question marky kind of maps for their picks here, because even a loss today wouldn't be the end of the world. It doesn't just mean it's over for them.
Okay, well, all speculation aside, the map, of course, has been revealed. It was Flash Wolves' pick. They do go to Kings Row again,
Sticking
and
to their guns.
there's a very good argument for that. Of course, they won yesterday, and I do want to go over how they made that victory happen, how they made it possible, and what Blank maybe need to change around to sort of avoid that loss and a repeat of yesterday's scenario. So I want to start by talking about Cap 1, because Cap 1 was a big difference between the two teams. Zonda and K-Momo specifically as a team held the high ground exceptionally well for Zonda on the soldier role. When you look on the flip side, you had Blank on the high ground as well. Gumba and Aita, they abandoned it straight away.
Yeah,
They tried to
yeah.
go for some sort of wraparound play that, to be honest, kind of worked because they got an early kill on Realment, but had they not gotten that kill, it would have been very tough.
And they didn't convert more anyway.
And they ended up losing anyway, which is a bit of a problem. So I would like to see Blank attempt to hold that high ground with a bit more finesse, with a little bit more stubbornness and strength, if you will.
Yeah.
And for them to try and break the high ground off of Zonda in a more convincing fashion as well. So I think confidence is key here. You need to be confident to say, we can hold this high ground.
Yeah.
And you need to be confident to say, we will also try and take it off Zonda and make more of not just a token effort, but really put our all into it.
You're completely right there. I think the thing that's interesting about this is, of course, yesterday, Kings Row was actually Blank's pick. They did get the second map pick, and you're right, they lost it as well. And hey, Blank fan in the audience.
We actually do have a Blank fan in the audience.
Whoa, stop the presses. There's a real live Blank fan in the audience right now.
Right, I know,
This
right?
is, wow. I thought they were all just,
They
in
exist.
their homes.
No.
I thought they were all just in their homes in Australia trying to avoid the deadly creatures or something. But
There's snakes outside.
none of them could risk getting to the airport to
Tell you
fly
what, there's a
over
lot
to
of snakes.
Taipei.
There's a lot of snakes in Australia, and I'm not just talking about Overwatch. So
Hey, but okay, in all seriousness, it was Blank's map pick yesterday, and they lost it. But they were also saying they hadn't really been able to see much of Flash Wolves. They had prepped for Kings Row, but they didn't know exactly how to prep.
Sorry, I just had to.
They didn't know exactly how to prep for Kings Row versus Flash Wolves. Now they actually have had that opportunity. So, to me, Flash Wolves going here is an extremely confident move, and I'm a little worried that it may be an overconfident move. And the reason I say that is because Blank today are not going to look how they did yesterday. So this is Flash Wolves saying, we know that, and we still think we're better.
And Flash Wolves are a team that very much play on confidence. Confidence is one of their, I would like to say, keys for
Get it, by the
victory.
way. Why the turkey?
I have no idea. A little bit of context is.
I just realized the guys at home couldn't see what I was looking at.
A little bit of context was someone in the fan had a turkey sign up with Unico's face on it, but I don't know. Look that one up. Maybe that's a Google question.
Turkey Nico.
Siri, why is there a turkey? I do want to address sort of Flash Wolves' playstyle here, because they do rely on a lot of confidence. Confidence is a very key factor for Flash Wolves. So when you look at the way they play, it's confidence saying, we will hold our high ground here. It's confidence in saying, when you look at even Nepal, they make the kind of plays where, to be honest, oftentimes it doesn't look like they respect Blank a lot. They make the kind of plays which I would say are even overconfident. They sort of overstep their boundaries a little bit. They really push Blank into a corner. And most of the times, at least yesterday, Blank were unable to punish a decent amount of it. They did punish some of it. And that's kind of where Blank's strengths were yesterday. Where they sort of showed up was when Flash Wolves did try and get overconfident, Blank pushed them back. But very much Flash Wolves, confidence, that's exactly how I describe that team.
Well, let's see. Now, we talked about confidence as well in the context of Blank as well a little bit earlier, so let's see if that confidence can shine through in how they execute this first point attack.
Like I said, high ground is key here, and for Blank, they need to make a very strong effort to dislodge Zonda. If they fail to dislodge Zonda, I don't see this going well.
Yeah, absolutely not. Ilios is going to try and secure the lower half of this, while Atar and Kiki set up on the higher ground off to the side here. Kiki's going to have to drop off though, but they are slowly starting to move in on Flash Wolves now, trying to get themselves on the point to sort of force Flash Wolves out of this position. They don't want to leave them permanently entrenched. Trying to get the follow-up onto K-Momo here is Eat You Up. They found
Jongi low.
Jongi. That's dangerous. Oh, good grenade from the Ana to keep him alive. But it means they have to back off. It does skew their positioning just a little. And Bacon Jack is kind of struggling to get in for any kind of contest here. The gentleman's duel between the Tracers is actually coming out of the top. Oh, Eat You Up not able to retreat to the healers. They're not going to be able to strike back onto Bacon Jack here, as Blank are just going to have to kind of go into retreat mode. A little unfortunate there. It did certainly seem to be on the cusp, but good hold by Flash.
And it does seem like Blank are overly relying on Eat Up to make the opening play. Here they're relying on Eat Up to go in first, find something, poke a hole out of Flash Wolves, and the rest of the other 5 Blank members are kind of waiting onto the side and just letting Eat Up do his thing. Unfortunately, if Eat Up can't do his thing, Blank have nothing to play off of.
Wow, that's a good open up actually out of Bacon Jack. Atar was trying to ult there, but Zonda kind of shuts him down. And Blank, they're just kind of piling into ults that Flash Wolves really have. They do get a few more off that as well, had caught Realman in that, but they're not converting the extras. They weren't quite able to take out Jongi, and Bacon Jack just kind of beating them back now as well. They had at least got that initial third on the first push they made, but they're not really going in any concerted kind of way right now.
And that's a problem, because one of the concerns I have about Blank is how slow they make these plays, how slow they actually get into position and actually, you know, execute the things they're trying to do here.
Oh, the sound barrier as well makes it really, really hard to close out on Dumba. It does keep him alive. Jongi forced to ult. This could be a window now for Blank. They're going to have to get aggressive, but they need to not get outflanked by Bacon Jack, and that is unfortunately what has just happened to Atar. They don't convert a kill now. They really just do need to back off completely.
And by the way, 2 minutes have been gone. They get that 1/3 so to start, but you know, you're getting a 1/3 on a stage where you kind of favor in terms of respawns anyway. Here comes that full commit, so a little bit more speed.
That's what they needed.
Does come out of Blank, and this is something I wanted to see earlier.
At last, they're able to get through. The Nano Boost was able to go off, but they catch Jongi anyway, and now able to dislodge Zonda on this high ground. Yeah, Zonda is just getting his time completely wasted. Now he's going to be on the wrong side of the fight. He has to wade through the entire Blank squad. The self-destruct is good. It buys Flash Wolf space. And you're right, they haven't killed him, but Kiki gets an equal amount of space, and they're still converting kills onto the rest of these members. Picking K-Momo while out of that mech is very big for them, and they will get themselves a cap through. Looking a little bit better than yesterday.
Well, they've certainly improved since yesterday in the sense that yesterday they couldn't get the first cap. They were fully held out. This time they do. Couple of little things that still worry me a little bit. The fact that they didn't kill Zonda, misplayed by Trill a little bit. Well played to actually contest Zonda with the Primal Rage. Misplayed to secure the kill as a team. Now this is good aggression from Blank.
This is not a misplay.
This is actually good, I would like to say, area control here and also a timing attack. So as much as I have said that earlier, Blank seemed to be like a little bit of a slower team. This is very fast from them. They need to be able to make use of the speed and make use of their ability to get into situations and force Flash Wolves out and make sure they play their hand and not give Flash Wolves too many options available earlier on, and they're able to do that so far, at least on streets.
Yeah, and I do just want to say on that first point, in a way they're a slow setup team, but they were also playing quite fast. They never fully reset themselves because their spawn was close, and that meant Flash Wolves never fully reset either, and now they're just looking to keep up that pressure. Eventually it's going to get to Flash Wolves if Blank are able to keep it consistent. Yeah, Atar opening up now. They're trying to get any kind of response in. Good block out there by K-Momo, but he's going to be forced out anyways. They've already caught Jongi. Catching K-Momo out of the mech as well was Trill there, and they're just able to keep this one up. This is that unrelenting pressure. They're going to be able to get a second point cap off this if Flash Wolves aren't careful here. May try and come out for a last-minute contest, but they have to know what they're up against here. May just want to seed this.
This is good positioning for Blank because it does force Flash Wolves back a little bit. You don't get Flash Wolves area control around the corner, but Jongi's going to try and go anyway. This will be an effort.
That's a late commit.
Hold, but the cap already went over.
Way too late a commit there, and it was that good ground control by Blank. Jongi had to leap over them, and he was too late anyway. That meant they were able to catch him out of position. This is huge for Blank now. They're going to get a ton of space. D-Mech and K-Momo, they're just going to leave the baby Diva here if they so choose. He might try and go back to spawn to sort of remech himself, but it's not ideal. They did at least trade back on Kiki's mech, but the payload's moving. That's what counts.
I think Kiki should probably suicide here and get a remake a little bit faster. It does sort of slow down Blank a little bit. The fact that he's choosing not to do that means they want to commit another.
That's a good pulse bomb, and Trill following it up by catching Realman means that this is cracked wide open once again. Kiki about to get back into the mech in the nick of time here as well. They've kind of saved themselves through that part of the fight, forcing the ult out of Jongi, and now Trill can go aggressive, bumping K-Momo out of the way. Go and hunt a killer on Zonda. Corner trap, he's done so as Atar closes it out with the tactical visor, closing out on Jongi as well. The only trade back that got us Eat You Up, and Flash Wolves are getting eviscerated on the point. Bacon Jack trying desperately to keep this one alive, but he is the only one alive. Nano Boost is giving him a little bit more to play with, but that's about to run out now, and he is just the last man. All the rest of the members aren't able to reinforce him because Blank are picking them off as they come out of the base. Finally, they close out onto Bacon Jack. Zonda's forced out of the way by this self-destruct, and they're really desperately trying to hold on to this.
And Flash Wolves are trickling now. It's only a few members alive. Eventually, Zonda has to go in and get tactical visor. I don't think it's going to be enough. He does get one kill, but he needs a lot more here.
Kiki, where are you?
Down for Blank. Blank are losing members here, but Zonda and Flash Wolves are losing far more members. Eventually, this cap should go over.
K-Momo cannot lose by time with the self-destruct. Kiki made a big mistake by not quite blocking out that ultimate there from Zonda. They lost more members than they really wanted to. They can still push it over the line now, but that did buy a lot of time for Flash Wolves. They've now run a good minute off this clock. And what a pulse bomb! They might just stabilize, yeah, because of those extra kills that Zonda got. And they do indeed stabilize. Kiki making a crucial mistake, and Flash Wolves are going to get a lot more than just time off the clock.
And the respawn and reinforcement rates matter so much here. So the fact that Zonda got a couple of kills, his kills matter so much more than Blank's kills. Blank got more overall, but the fact that Blank died at all, they take so much longer to get back into the cap. Then on top of that, the compounding factor of Bacon Jack getting a double pulse bomb kill, it's almost like a payback for what Eat-Up did to them on Ilios.
Yeah, and also they were able to keep K-Momo self-destruct. That was still a tool they had if they really needed to buy even more time. Good pressure though onto Bacon Jack. Has to recoil into an awkward spot. Nice positioning there. Catching that one out now as the tactical visor forces everyone back. That's going to be the self-destruct from K-Momo, but it's nowhere. It's off in a room, and Blank just opened up on the rest, and that is indeed going to be it. Not the best time, and honestly, Flash Wolves ran down a huge amount of clock, but that is still far better than what Blank did yesterday.
Absolutely. I think Blank really turned on the heat after the first cap. There were some things that really led to them struggling in that initial cap, and I think, you know, looking at the Blank's form on that initial push through, on everything they did on cap 1, I wasn't really convinced they were going to be able to pull it all through the entire distance, but as soon as they got to street, something happened, man. They really just went for go. It's like they were revving at the ridge, at the stop sign. They were revving at the traffic lights on the first cap, and as soon as it went green, bam, they just went straight for it.
Initially, like, you're sitting at the red light, like, what's going on? Like, that's a lot of noise, but I'm not really seeing any result. But then, leaving Flash Wolves in the dust.
They're a team that revs really hard, and they really make a lot of noise at the traffic light, and you're like, is he serious? And then when the green light goes, they actually do.
Yeah, honestly,
actually do run.
That was unrelenting pressure out of Blank, and I used this phrase earlier today. I feel like I'm going to be revisiting it a lot, man. Firing on all cylinders. That is the Blank we know and love. I haven't actually seen Blank perform that well on the streets phase of Kings Row, like, in this entire tournament just about. That's something that Blank used to do a lot. They just force you well out of the streets altogether, and honestly, that was phenomenal out of them. There's still a lot of questions over their defense, and Flash Wolves were able to hold on to the end, but they were in a situation where it was their last chance to hold on.
I actually think Blank's biggest strength across hybrids and escorts is that middle section. The streets phase is consistently their best part of the map. First attack, first cap, a little bit shaky. Third cap can be quite shaky as well, but always in streets. Something happens in the streets. Maybe they're just street kids, I don't know what it is, but they're really good in that middle section of all of their hybrids, of all of their escorts. Even yesterday, we look at Kings Row, they lost Kings Row, but streets was their best part. The best part for them on that defense, because they never made it on the attack, but at least defensively, streets was their best.
You're completely right. They were also able to carry that momentum into that third point today, which really did seem to make all the difference there. And like I said, uncomfortable position for Flash Wolves to have been in, even though they did hold on at the last moment there. But now let's see how their attack goes, because this went really well for them yesterday.
They're already scouting on Zonda's early position, so this is really great pressure from Blank so far. And like I said earlier, I want to see Blank try and really hold on to ATAR's high ground as well. They cannot give it up the way they did yesterday. Zonda just ran up there and essentially ATAR said, well, I'm out of here.
Well, speaking of, they're already setting that one up, but it's going to be a bit harder now. As much as Jongi was there ready to hit the go button, Bacon Jack was down, and that means Chill can get up here as well. Needs to be careful to not get followed up on, and oh dear, they've left themselves a little too exposed. Oh, Trill just barely staying alive. Jongi does pop Kiki's mech, which is very big for them now.
Kiki pays for it.
Yeah, he really does. And that was really what it came down to. They're going to lose Kiki there altogether, which is not unsurprising at all. Oh, good catch on Eat You Up as well. And now Blank are looking cracked wide open. Zonda and the rest of Flash Wolves are set to just tear this one apart. Heck, it's not even Zonda, just Bacon Jack is doing it all himself.
And this is interesting. I think Bacon Jack, he might get pushed out here. Nice kill from Gump. That's a bit of a surprise turnaround.
They actually have an opportunity to re-aggress here because Kiki's now respawned, as has Eat You Up, and actually killing Bacon Jack means they might just be able to go for it. Yeah, I think they may just not worry about it. No, they're going for it. They don't have the full 6 versus 6 here. This is still very risky.
May be a mistake.
It does at least force the attack visor out, but indeed may be a mistake. They lose a lot of their opportunity to defend early in the streets phase now, and all they really got in return for it was Syncler.
I actually want to. Oh, they're not sort of ending this either. I think Flash Wolves are going to get a lot of free picks out of this. You can already see they're building up a decent amount of ultimates. Blank have a decent amount of ultimates themselves, but they didn't really have to give away that many jets. I do actually want to correct what I said earlier as well. I said Trill did a really good play on the initial jump on the Zonda. While that was a good play, he did pressure Zonda correctly. They just lost Bacon Jake. Now it's your opportunity to convert onto another DPS. Unfortunately, Trill possibly outstayed his welcome. He also needed help from Kiki. He was the only one that dived by himself. Kiki needed to follow up with him to protect. Because Trill wasn't protected, he had to run away on no health. Kiki tried to protect him there with Matrix and lost his mech.
And the thing is, Trill went in having also been busy dealing with Bacon Jack just before that. Pulse Bomb out from Eat Up goes wide. They're not really stopping the payload either. They still want to commit to Bacon Jack. They do force out the Pulse Bomb, but Trill is going to be forced to ult off this as well, and a lot of ultimates now committed out of Blank. Flash will still holding onto it, got a number of their own now with their sound barrier on, and Trill's just not finding much with this nano boost on him.
Kiki,
yeah, Kiki out of the mech, unfortunately, and goes down straight away. They're stopping up the payload a little bit, but it's not significant enough, not for all the ultimates they committed, and they're not converting kills here. Now they're just going to get completely routed here. Zonda committing the tactical advisor to make sure it happens.
This has been a bit of a problem because for all the aggressive pressure that Blank had on their streets phase of the attack, they tried to redo that now to stop that first cap going over, and that because of that, they failed to get any significant ground on the streets phase themselves. And the defense, so for Flash Wolves, they're pushing on through super early. Blank lost the bookshop super early as well. They lost that middle section, that very narrow part of streets, and now I think they're going to even struggle to get this final section defended.
At least they do get an opportunity to do that. That is one thing Flash Wolves didn't get, but they really have to make it work for them. They're going to have to get a lot of mileage out of this. Sticky does go wide. That's a good thing for Blank here. They keep the members alive a little bit, but they're not exactly getting kills either. And once again, Trill and Kiki are just getting so pressured. Transcendence out from Singler to negate this tactical visor, and honestly, Blank still aren't converting anything through this. They're stopping up the payload for a bit, but they need to get kills through, and Jongi going down, that's the way they need to go. Trill is barely able to keep himself topped off, and they're starting to get the aggression on now as Flash Wolves finding themselves a little bit too deep themselves now as Trill looking to get in the backside. They've just got a few more ultimates themselves now, Blank, with that sound barrier running. Flash Wolves are going to be able to retreat safely at least. They don't lose too many extra members, but that was not as convincing as they were hoping.
Absolutely, I think this is now the first time Blank have had to stabilize this TIE fight, and off the back of killing Jongi early, which again is a very interesting thing to talk about.
And again,
early,
losing Kiki's mech though, they have to commit a sound barrier Flash Wolves to keep themselves in this fight, which isn't what they wanted, but catching Eat You Up as well and forcing out the Transcendence is still good news for them. A lot of distance between them and the payload, but they're picking off more members now, and Blank might not really be able to contest this payload much themselves now. Gunba going down, Blank are in disarray now. I don't know what happened there. They didn't really respect how overextended they were. Flash Wolves going to get a cap here.
The merit that Blank have to work with here is when they win by their own sort of, they get it through their own merits. When they lose, it is also them as well, because Blank are making the kind of mistakes that are costing them in this game. But, you know, for Flash Wolves, they're just kind of riding the wave as it were so far. And for Blank to, the stuff that Blank are doing, sometimes it works out super well, but other times, look, Flash Wolves are getting a lot of mileage of very small mistakes that Blank are actually making here.
Really trying to go deep. Again, Trill needs to be careful with that because that costs them a lot.
Nice
yes, they stick out onto RQT. Doesn't run it into any other teammates. Zonda take notes, but catching Trill as well. Good response onto Zonda though. That could be all they need. Transcendence out from Singler once again, and they're converting all these kills through now as AVRL also going down, sorry. And this is just a complete rout now. Gonna get a ton of space. Blank still have time to contest this one last time, but they did not lose any members before that. They're gonna be trickling on to this point now.
It's a bit of a struggle. All they have to work with is a tactical visor as the card really approaches now. Got to keep Trill alive. You can keep your tanks alive here. You will keep ATAR alive also.
Bacon Jack trying to cut off the reinforcements, but it doesn't quite work. ATAR is still able to get some sightlines out, and K-Momo committed the self-destruct, so he didn't lock up too much of that. They're actually getting a good number through. Zonda, though, is also uncontested. This is a good self-destruct, though. May just be able to catch Zonda. No, not quite. He was forced back, but they're able to recommit anyway and get themselves a cap through. And because Flash Wolves had that protracted fight in the stabilize, they have actually ended up capping in a faster time themselves.
Like I said, you know, for Blank, questionable in the first cap, questionable on the third cap, and the streets phase are a little bit better, except I want to point out, because of the early mistake they made on that first camp when they tried to really contest with the final few members, yeah, you run Kiki in there, you got the Diva, Kiki lives for a little bit. If your tanks go down early, you got to get out. I don't know why RQT and the rest of them went on and died as well. They didn't have to. They had the option to fall back. They had the option of regroup with the respawning tanks and then try and set up a defense around the book. So try and set up a defense somewhere and actually stabilize much earlier. Because they didn't, Flash Wolves just ran through the streets, completely took all that area, and Blank were just on the back foot the entire time. They finally got their one good fight, but it was very short-lived, and Flash was back much harder eventually.
And short-lived because they overextended, and you kind of said this as well, you know, they live and die by their own calls. It's really just, like you said, Flash was riding the wave, reacting to whether Blank are executing well or executing poorly, and to be honest, they've executed well more than they've executed poorly today so far, but that was a missed call by Blank to go that far forward, and it really cost them.
And I think the big difference here is when Flash Wolves have been losing, it does look like Flash Wolves are still sticking to their game plan. They're executing their game plan. It's just that Blank are either outplaying or they're countering certain plays or stuff like that. But when Blank are losing, it's because they're doing it by their own mistakes, and it's a big problem.
Blank attacking first because they had the lesser time, and it's really only enough time for one, maybe two pushes on this point, but they're going to have to be quick pushes. They do not get that same time.
Yeah, I don't want to see Blank waste another 2 minutes trying to get Eat-Up to get a pick here, because last time it was far too slow.
They are trying to force Flash Wolf's hand, though. Good wrap around by Eat You Up, trying to get onto K-Momo. He's forced back up onto the high ground. Actually gets Jongi. That's huge. That's what they needed. That's what they were wanting. Now they're going to force Flash Wolves down onto this low ground here. They did not lose any members of their own, i.e. Gunva, but they are able to keep him alive for a moment longer. That could be all the space they need because they're pressuring out Zonda and K-Momo. They've got Zonda. They nearly got K-Momo. He's had to retreat a long way away, and Atar is running rampant in here. Now getting on the objective itself. Have lost Kiki's mech, though they do need to respect that because he can't really go back to the spawn. They don't quite have that sort of time. Flash Wolves are going to try and pile in on this one. Blank really need to convert and secure this point. And it's not quite theirs yet, but getting Fake and Jack is a good way to go for that. Pulse Bomb out. Doesn't quite get the stick, but they've got the damage through anyway, able to take out K-Momo's mech. Actually, I lied about that stick there. Picking out the pilot as well. They do get the payload underway, and this is very, very important.
We're already into the overtime, and if Blank are good on streets, they're going to have to prove it here. It's not going to be a fluke for them. They need to show they're a consistent streets team, and this is where it's going to really count for the team. They've got no ults to work with. A couple of nearly there for Atar, but not nearly there enough. Flash Wolves just have to get one good nano here. I expect them to nano Jongi right off the bat, get very aggressive, try and take an early fight with Blank before Blank can get their ultimates up.
Now, one thing I do want to say about Blank is they are great at playing in the overtime and in the time bank. That is not something a lot of teams can do, but if anyone can, it's Flash Wolves. And here we see them going for that aggressive fight. It is indeed Jongi powered up and getting in there on the backliners, but Kiki is keeping him stopped up. Bacon Jack wide on the pulse bomb, and Jongi's dead. Gunva will get traded off for it though, but Blank can still keep this one going if no one else goes down, and that's exactly what they need to make sure happens. Atar opens up, zones them off, but Zonda's alive. He's going to strike back with his own. They're trying so hard, and they may just pop K-Momo's mech. They're getting it. They're getting the momentum in the space. They haven't lost too many members, nor have they killed many people, and distance is what matters when you're in overtime and time bank.
Exactly. A second cap here would be phenomenal for Blank. I think if Blank can get a second cap, that would really give them the win on King's Road, but they need to get it in Flash Wolves. They still have the ability to defend this. They still have a primal rage. They can still out for a very long time.
This is big. Bacon Jack does get the catch through, and Eat You Up had gone wide. A great sleep in there as well, but they're converting onto the tanks once again. K-Momo is going to be forced to ult, but Zonda has cleaned up the house now. Kiki is down. Eat You Up is the only one here. It doesn't look like they'll get a cap off this. The overtime disappears, but that is a ton of distance. Flash Wolves only have 2 minutes to make that same kind of ground.
They do, and for Blank to succeed here, a very good first cap hold is going to be important. They need to, if they're not going to win their first fight, they need to hold out in that first fight for a long time, get some good trades, then not overcommit members later on. If they make the same mistake they made in the regular phase of their defense, this is over. Flash Wolves are going to win King's Row if Blank make that repeat, but they cannot do that again. They have to make sure they're very calculated, play for the longer game, play for the distance. Remember, time bank, you're playing for a specific objective here. So where the card is exactly how you should be planning your entire game plan.
And I did say Blank are good at time bank. This is going to be the real test of that once again. I do expect them to do all of the things you're saying, but I've expected a lot of things from Blank over the course of this tournament. Not all of them have been delivered on, but I tell you what is delivering is this game right here, right now. Ilios already going the way of Blank, and this is actually looking very winnable for them as well. It feels like it could still go either way, but that is very different to what we were seeing yesterday, where it was Flash Wolves' game to lose.
Absolutely, and you know, it kind of still is.
I would call this Blank's game to lose.
It does, in a way, I would agree in the context of this particular series, but Flash Wolves' game to lose in the entire Grand Finals as a whole, because Flash Wolves is still a reasonable amount ahead in terms of having already won that day number 1. We saw very early on day number 2, and I mentioned earlier, if Blank got the second cap on the Streets phase, this could be a win for Blank. Now it's going to be a bit of a struggle, and I think Flash Wolves have windows open.
All right, Let's see now how Flash will seek to practice, because they do execute very fast on these attacks, indeed much faster than Blank tend to. Heat up already here.
Just like that.
Catching
Just
Gunba,
like
that's
that.
huge, yeah. The headshots out of Sinclair is absolutely massive for them, and they're going to take full advantage of that, try and rout out these tanks. Blank have to respect this, but they still want to try and run down the clock if they can. This is really, really tricky for them now.
Yeah, Gumbo really copped that one.
They're gonna see this.
He had a headshot with his forehead, which is really unfortunate. They are still going to go for this.
They're committing. They're just trying to bleed time with this, and I don't disagree, but they need to be careful how they do it. They need to not go too deep. And ATAR going down. Gunba is not actually rejoined this fight just yet. They are at least running down the clock a good bit. They bought about a minute off this one, and the trickle kills kind of help them in a sense, but they need to make sure Kiki can go down here. Now they've got to leave indeed, but they get wiped. That sounds like a bad thing, but it's actually a good thing, because how long this payload takes to get moving, they have time to regroup long before that point. The Flash will need to get it
So
past.
this is a concern, because we are in time back. There's not a lot of time to play with, and that is true for Blank as well. And for Blank, because they gave away so many early deaths, they had a complete team wipe. You fed ultimates of Flash Wolves. If time bank is a momentum-based area of the game, and I truly believe it is, momentum counts for a lot here, especially for when you convert from the first cap into the streets. Flash Wolves have so much more resource to use here, because they're going to get the ultimates first.
They're going to look to go aggressive here. They need to respect Flash Wolves, though. They need to be able to give themselves outs, and they don't. Trill goes down. How many times have we seen that happen? Pulse Bomb tossed leisurely into the middle of the team, and no one's answering Bacon Jack. Finally able to get some hurt on him. At least Blank are running down the clock, but they need to be careful to not get overrun here. Ilios does get a good catch. They get Kim on his mech as well, and now Bacon Jack has a lot of work to do. They're forcing some ultimates out of Flash Wolves as well, and this is good. They're able to open up with attack. By as a result, it doesn't find much.
They need more.
He's
They
finding
need
a
a lot
few.
more.
They need a lot more, though. And that means ATAR had to go in too deep. They've run down the clock, and they will get another chance to defend, though, before this cap goes through for Flash Wolves. But it is looking dangerous now for
I
Blank.
think that was another mistake from Blank, because they didn't need to pull the trigger. They had the option to back off. They had the option to say, cool, you're going to take Visor, you're going to sound barrier. We don't have to take this fight. We're going to save ultimates and re-attack. Now they're going to re-attack with nothing, and Flash will still have ultimates.
And they've got to do it into a self-destruct that's going to create a lot of space. But Blank can't afford to get that space, or they'll give up the cap as well. Bacon Jack can't be reacted to here. Once again, Trill deep, forced to ult early, at least does force out the Transcendence, but here's Jongi's ultimate as well. Self-destruct hasn't found much, but Eat You Up is out of the picture. That makes this a hard ask, and still no one can really respond to Bacon Jack. He's finally in trouble. Jongi able to get one in there as well, and honestly, Blank are struggling. Freelman goes down, but that's all they're finding. They don't have DPS in here. Eat You Up is going to try and rejoin this fight, but they're just trying to pile onto the point, not converting anything. Who is going to kill Bacon Jack? Have you forgotten he exists? All the tanks are getting destroyed now. No one left for Blank here, and Flash Wolves are going to match them blow for blow now. Eat You Up, last ditch, last chance. Harvey not going to make it happen. Flash Wolves strike back, and Blank whiff it.
Yep, just like the Empire, it is Flash Wolves. They came back really strong with that as well. I think
that was decided by one Zenyatta right click.
It kind of was and it kind of wasn't, because I think it did absolutely make a big difference. But Blank had also options in that sort of the later section, and the options I said were essentially they went for that late contest again, where they sort of threw bodies onto the first cap, and they didn't need to do that again. They did that. They lost a lot of members. And because they lost so many members early, it really compounded to later effects in the streets. Because they got fully team-wiped, 6 members of Blank went down. You fed a lot of ultimates on the Flash Wolves side. They went to the streets phase of the time back with a big ultimate advantage. They were the first ones to get their ultimates up. Blank had to wait a decent amount of time, and even when Blank got their ultimates up second, they still hard committed with those ultimates, despite being at an advantage. A second mistake made by Blank, because they committed and committed hard, still lost all their members, then used all their ultimates. I mean, they came back in the final defense with nothing.
I'm going to speak to Blank's defense there, because the plan there was, first of all, in contesting that point, even though they'd already had a pretty unfortunate fight, the plan was to run down the clock as best as they could, and maybe even get some kills in there as well. And actually, had they got kills, they probably would have been able to do exactly that. So you can at least see the logic there. That's not a bad strategy in time bank. It's high risk, high reward. And then they tried to do the same as well in that later fight in the streets phase, and we're on the cusp of actually flipping it their way as well. Once again, high risk, high reward. But the thing is, that's actually exactly what happened yesterday all the time. Blank went for those plays where you have to convert kills, failed to do so and lost. The fact that they opted to do that again today and still failed to convert kills tells me that despite Ilios and despite the better performance today in general on Kings Row, they're still making similar mistakes to yesterday. They've fixed a lot, but if they keep going for those same plays, I do now expect them to fail, and I expect Flash Wolves to win.
And that's kind of the thing, because while I see the logic there, while I see the argument, unfortunately, I'm just not going to agree with it in that context. You have to play time bank to the objective set, and the objective set was exactly where the cart was. You need to play for that cart distance. You expect, where can we get a good foothold? Where can we stabilize? That's all the defense is about. You need stabilization. You need to reset the attack entirely. They never reset the attack at all because they threw bodies onto the cart. They threw bodies at Flash Wolves, and they got punished heavily for it. At no point were they ever ahead of Flash Wolves economically in terms of ultimates, positioning, player advantage, just nothing. They were just always behind Flash Wolves in the time back, and they needed to play in a much safer position. Now let's take a look at that replay. I'm going to start things off right at the top of the game, and it is going to be Blank on their first attack.
It absolutely is.
Or rather, second attack.
Yeah, and this is their, well, I mean,
second attack
second
in the
total,
first.
but yes, as in the first time they were attacking, because we did, of course, go to time bank. And what I kind of touched on here is there was a lot of pressure exerted by them because of that closer respawn. They really took advantage of it. They were often losing one member, but they were actually trading back, and they weren't retreating and resetting and giving ground, so Flash Wolves weren't able to reclaim it. They weren't ever able to reset the defense. And just by the by as well, to kind of wrap up what we were talking about a moment ago, I will go ahead and call it a bad habit by Blank, right? Because going for that kind of strategy, going for those really, really aggressive plays when maybe you shouldn't, I'm going to be honest with you, it works when you are just better than the other team. And actually, a lot of the time Blank are. They are in this semi-final, they were better than 6 other teams in this tournament. And when you can rely on outfragging the other team, you can often win off the back of those plays. But what that is Blank not respecting that this is Flash Wolves. This isn't a team they can just outfrag. So you're completely right there. Not only are they not playing the objective of where they are, they're also not necessarily playing the match they're in. That was costing them a lot yesterday. I feel they fixed it a bit, but I don't want to see them just backslide into those bad habits.
So what I saw from yesterday that really led them to losing, what concerned me, was the lack of confidence. What I'm seeing now is the confidence has returned, and on Ilios that really paid off for them. On Kings Row, however, it did actually cost them in a few times, and now we're going to look at a later stage of Kings Row. We're now into the third cap of Blank's attack, and this is when eventually they should be able to get this over the line, because they did get it in the last, I would say, minute and a bit.
So this was unfortunate that Flash Wolves had stabilized before this, but the execution after that was very, very good. If one Zenyatta right click determined the time bank, honestly, Gun beginning to pick on Bacon Jack determined this entire push, because suddenly Flash Wolves didn't have an avenue through which to exert pressure on Blank as they were going in for their attack, and you saw exactly what happened. Blank, on top of that, just piled right on, knowing that Flash Wolves couldn't give up space. They had to just commit to a 5 versus 6. That is uncomfortable. You don't have favorable positioning, and it's unsurprising that in that situation, Blank could just outfrag.
I actually think that Blank played the last fight before Flash Wolves stabilized extremely well, and Flash Wolves only really got that off the back of Zonda double kill on the Tag Visor, and then Bacon Jack securing with a double kill on the Pulse Bomb as well. But while that was happening, a lot of teams, that would just be enough. The first double kill from Zonda, that would have ended the entire fight. You wouldn't have needed a double Pulse Bomb as well, but for Blank, they held on. They got the counter trades, and this is something Blank didn't do yesterday. Blank at no point yesterday could get counter trades.
Yeah, and that's exactly it as well. It was uncomfortable for Flash Wolves. The fact that you had to get not just, you know, the double with the Tag Visor, but also with the Pulse Bomb. The fact that you were in that situation in the first place, that is unfamiliar territory for Flash Wolves. They've never really been put on the ropes that much. Certainly weren't yesterday, and that's the thing. As much as Blank did still lose, it was close. It was incredibly close. They made some mistakes that cost them the win, but when they were playing well, they were actually playing so well that Blank were being given a really hard run for their money. That is unfamiliar territory for Flash Wolves. That is somewhere Blank can now take them time and time again. And I guarantee you, if they do that over the course of this whole series, we will see Flash Wolves really start to crack and crumble, because this isn't something that they've been able to practice for.
I agree with that, and I also want to say, actually, we're going to get into the next replay, so we'll talk about that in a little bit, but just talking about this now, it was now Flash Wolves' turn to attack here, and I think Flash Wolves Flash Wolves had a much better first camp than Blank did, and that's something we actually see. This is the jump in from Trill. He kind of got punished hard there. You see that Kiki didn't support him. Kiki will lose his mech after that, after trying to save Trill, but this kind of snowballs Flash Wolves in a really big way. You got Trill out of the fight, then you got the tank as well from the mech, and everything else after that is Flash Wolves cleaning up.
Yeah, and the reason for that was because Trill had been dealing with Bacon Jack on the side along with Eat You Up, which is good. That's smart play, how to do with, that's a good way to deal with a flanking Tracer, get the Winston involved as well. But because he hadn't taken the extra half second to fully heal up before then committing onto Zonda, he had that extra little bit of health missing that caused his near death and caused the retreat to be really uncomfortable and awkward for Blank because they were constantly having to cover for Trill.
And also well played by Sinclair because he got the early Discord orb on, which really significantly allowed Flash Wolves to just get Trill away. Now, Trill even dropped the barrier, and he really tried to keep himself alive there, and I think the idea of the play is fantastic. The execution, not from Trill, but by the rest of the team to follow up, was unfortunately a little bit poor, and it does sort of give me flashbacks to much of yesterday where I noted Trill makes disconnected plays from the rest of the team. Now, whether that's Trill or whether that's the team, I think it's a factor of both at the same time. And the fact that there are these disconnected plays does cost Blank a lot. Now, we're going to go into yet another replay. And
so this is
going to be
Flash Wolves attacking on their time bank now, and you can see exactly what went wrong. There is the right click that decided the game as far as I'm concerned. Gunba going down. Blank reacted properly here. They just backed straight off. They went, look, we can't commit to a 5 versus 6 here. Definitely not without our healer.
I think this is going to be
definitely not without the healer. You know, you don't have the sleep, you don't have any of those tools that are so crucial for the Ana. This is where it got a little bit dodgy. And we were talking about this just a moment ago. It is understandable to go for this because you can sort of commit to it, but you need to convert kills, you need to outfrag, and this is not a team they can just do that against. So they did run down a bit of the clock, but here we see all the time they gained, they also gave up ultimate charge to Flash Wolves as well, and that was what Flash Wolves then moving forward. There's the full rack of kills right at the end there, and that's what determined the rest of the match.
And that's the other thing is, I see the logic. I'm going to half agree with the logic in the sense that you do want to attempt to make a play, but they attempted at 5 versus 6. Now, you already lost Gumbo. He's still respawning. He's not going to get back there. He's not Sombra yet. Yeah. He's still playing the Zenyatta. He's just walking his small... He's slowly floating his way there like a dainty butterfly.
He's like floating as fast as he can.
But the fact is, you've already committed 5 versus 6. Your chance to win that, already minimal.
Exactly.
You're already on the back foot there.
So you're relying on those miracle
the fact that they went for it at all, I think was extremely risky, and when they did get punished for it, if you lose members early, you're just not going to ever recover from that. Get out with whatever you've got. They didn't try and do that. They said, well, we're going to die, so everyone's going to die.
It's like, we're going to try and get as much time.
It's like they all made a pact as a cult, and they just all went in there. They all went and sacrificed themselves. And look, the Zonda was powered up from that. When we've all sacrificed yourself to Zonda, he comes out swinging, and everyone from Flash Wolves just completely demolished Blank and got
it's in for a penny, in for a pound.
Huge snowball, but you know. That's now 2 maps done and dusted. 1-1 is the score so far, and pretty soon we're going to get to map number 3, and that's all going to happen very, very soon, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you after this break. Thank you for sticking with us through that break, and welcome back to the Overwatch Pacific Championship. We are in the grand final. I'm AVRL, joined with me still is Pixie. We've now gone through 2 maps with a potential 5 more left to go.
And these 2 so far have absolutely delivered. 1 to Blank, 1 to Flash Wolves, and well, to kind of speak to the tone of this so far, Blank's win on Ilios was strong and resounding. Their loss on King's Row was slim and tight. It was a lot of their own mistakes that cost it, but if we extrapolate that over a series, I dare suggest that Blank are on form today, and it's Flash Wolves that need to match that if they want to take out a win here. Because if Blank only lose because of their own mistakes, then Flash Wolves aren't rising to their level.
I think it's really...
As odd as that is to say, by the way.
It is a bit of a strange situation that this series has sort of taken a turn of, but the good news for Blank is they are the ones dictating the results today instead of it being the other way around, because it means they're in control of they're in control whether they win or lose. The bad news is when they are also making mistakes that are costing them a game. So they're in control of when they're winning, and they're in control of when they're losing. Speaking of in control, we're not playing control, but they are in control of the map pick.
They got to pick their own control map
It is their
as well.
map pick, and they get to go to Volskaya where they have their best win rate on Assault at all. This is their best possible Assault pick whatsoever. And for Blank, for the first time so far in this entire Grand Finals, I'm not even just talking about this series today, but over the course of these entire 3 days of the weekend, I think Blank have what it takes now to beat Flash Wolves, to truly beat Flash Wolves, not just today, but in the entire Grand Finals. But if they're going to do that, they need to really shape up on the things that are costing them games, because they're making, I'm not even going to say aggressive, they're making high risk, high reward plays like you mentioned, and unfortunately, they're so high risk that it's just they're not rolling the dice correctly and they're not getting the numbers they're looking for.
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to roll the dice if you don't have to. Some interesting things there, by the way, in the stats for Volskaya. Blank have a higher win rate than Flash Wolves. It's 90%, the Flash Wolves is 80%. The interesting thing, though, is they do actually have a head-to-head record on this, and Blank have won it. Now, that's very important because, first of all, Blank had a big slump on Assault. They've lost a lot of Assault games, but the ones they were losing against Flash Wolves, they were losing on places like Hanamura and also Temple of Anubis. We saw them lose on Hanamura yesterday, but they have a better record overall on Volskaya. They have a better head-to-head on Volskaya, and we do feel like Volskaya has been the one map that has been largely exempt from a lot of their Assault weakness. I really see a strength in this team here, and I want to go back to something we saw in Ilios, and maybe you'll have some thoughts on this as well, because I absolutely expect to see Sombras here.
Yeah, 100%. You're going to see Sombra, maybe even on attack, because there has been more and more teams experimenting with running the Sombra in attack as well. It's a possibility. I'm not going to bank on it and say it will 100% happen, but Sombra's all round. Both teams are definitely going to run it on the defense across the entire 2 stages of the defense. And Gumba's been definitely showing up as a Sombra, and I think Flash Wolves have also, with Singlet in particular, but Realman's been picking it up as well. They're very flexible on that Sombra pick, and both teams are certainly prepared when it comes to that particular hero.
Yeah, the thing we saw in Ilios in particular was it was kind of one part Gunba's play, one part the team as a whole, and we touched on this at the time as well. It wasn't just that Gunba played the Sombra well, and to be fair, he made some mistakes as well. Realman made a few mistakes of his own, and Blank as a whole played to the Sombra a little bit better than what Flash Wolves did. That does maybe suggest that they'll do the same here, you know, if both teams pull out a Sombra at the same time, which we do sometimes see on first point there. We can maybe suggest that Blank play to the Sombra a little bit better, but it's still a little bit of a question mark because Assault is quite a different beast to control Sombra.
Yeah, exactly. The difference there being when you're playing control Sombra, both Sombras are running to the same health pack and they're just trying to fight for it. On Assault, you don't get that option because one, the defensive Sombra just has the health packs by default and you're attacking into already hacked health packs. So it is a much riskier thing to do, and it's a possibility, but I don't expect teams to really go into that. It's just a little bit too much.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that all pans out. And I just want to mention, by the way, this may be our last chance to see the dancing robots. If Flash Wolves win today, we don't get any matches tomorrow, and even then we may not go to Volskaya tomorrow if we do get there. So this may be our last chance to see the dancing robot.
I will say, you know, maybe in the OPC, but I don't think Jeff's going to patch that one out anytime
Jeff, please.
soon. He's not going to patch out the dancing robot. Or maybe it'll be one of the hidden patch notes because you know when they do that.
By the way, if you've ever wondered this, you'll notice, of course, the points there are circular. There's like a little circle in the middle of that point, and there's also one on the second point. If you look at all the Assault maps, except for, of course, the new one, they all have a circular thing going on the caps themselves. That's because back in ye old days, the caps actually used to be circular. They weren't squares.
Ye old days, you're talking about like early beta or even alpha Overwatch if you get some of the really old Overwatch footage.
Yeah, full footage of that still exists, interestingly enough. So there you go. Just a fun factoid for you.
There it is, you learn something. If you've only played Overwatch recently, well, there you go. Bit of Overwatch history in for you, and Blanco, of course, playing what we expected.
And opting to defend first as well, so once again, very expected. Gumba looking to get the early harass there, didn't really get too much, but more ult charge is always a good thing, but oh dear, really catching Kiki, and Gunba going down as well. Very aggressive and totally catching Blank by surprise now.
Even a mech.
This is so huge now for Flash Wolves. There is no response so far, only just barely going to demech K-Momo. Eitan needs to get a ton of work done, but he can't really. The Sombra is down. They don't really have that much health pack control anyway. Kiki, he gets back in the mech, but it's just not going to count for much at all here. That was an absolute whitewash.
And speed is of utmost importance on this initial attack against a defensive Sombra. You don't want to give any time for the Sombra to get set up. You don't want to face an EMP in that opening. In fact, Gumba's not even going to have an EMP prepared for the second cap. A Great White Shark would be exactly what Flash Wolves kind of look like. They're like instead of a wolf, they're more like a shark here because they get a little bit of a scent of blood, and now they're really swimming for that kill.
Flash Sharks is just a bit too hard to say though. That's why they opted for wolves.
Yeah.
But well, they will at least be able to get the EMP up in a moment, and Flash Wolves don't exactly have ultimates to snowball off here, but they are close to a good number. So Blank still have to kind of try and stabilize in this one here. Now EMP available. That is going to be potentially the deciding factor in this fight.
It is, but Gumba's going to have to get a good one, and if he does a repeat of Ilios, it's just not going to be the case. Here it comes.
And they are trying to follow up with it as well. Bacon Jack getting work done though as Zonda opens up. They catch a good number as Atar was not well set up. They're onto the point. and they should be able to get themselves a third here. Not really losing any crucial members throughout that. Aside from K-Momo's mech, they just didn't really get enough work done. Now, Blanket kind of trickling on. Kiki, I appreciate him stalling out here, but the reinforcements aren't going to come in quick enough, and that means they're not going to get a full 6. Catching Zonda might just be their saving grace, but they've got a lot of ultimates they need to fight through. Trill going to commit his, but they need to be careful to not have their members go down in this extended trickle now, as RQT is going to have exactly that happen to. They do get Singler, but again, ATAR going down. And honestly, Flash Wolves are still kind of in control at this point. The respawn advantage may start to overwhelm them, and that does seem to be what's happening here. Jongi going to hold on to his ult, but Blank, they're stabilizing, but it is not comfortable.
Absolutely not. That really hurt them, and unfortunately for Flash Wolves, losing Zonda was probably the turning tide for Flash Wolves to actually lose that engagement. Good pick out from Aita, well-connected Rockets did secure that kill, and it sort of just snowballed from there. Blank able to get these small little kills. It kind of looks like King's Row when we see Flash Wolves stabilizing off one failed attack from Blank, and you only need a couple of kills from the defensive position to start that return going on. So, you know, it's a big difference when we get to the last point of any map.
Aita now onto this Genji. I do very much like the swap off, but it definitely seems like Blank just can't quite seem to figure out where Flash Wolves are going to go. Flash Wolves just seem to, I don't know, constantly have them by surprise.
Well, you know, so far the EMP from the last fight was just not successful. They're not going to get enough. Maybe this one's a bit better.
That is looking a lot better. Catches a lot of tanks, the D.Va as well, and they already convert onto Zonda on top of that. So that is a done fight as far as Flash Wolves are concerned. Not going to commit any more ultimates, and even Bacon Jack taking a dive. Not giving up too many deaths though, which is good. They don't give more ult charge over to Blank.
Well, they only gave away one, which is a stark difference to what Blank do, because when Blank lose a fight, you know, the gong sounds. When Flash Wolves lose a fight, a couple of them suicide off the side if they can, and the rest of them try and get out, and that's exactly what Flash Wolves have done.
Yeah.
So for Blank, I'm going to say not a huge victory. They got the EMP out, was successful, got one kill, but one kill's not enough to really put yourself in a winning position.
Yeah, Gong Ringer has been able to have a good rest after yesterday, but I'm still going to have a workout yet. Let's see how Blank choose to open on this one. Early ult from Trill, actually. And again, Flash Wolves just kind of seem to have the wraparound on them. The self-destruct is going to secure it along with the pulse bomb, but they're having to use all of their resources to keep these ones because, again, Flash Wolves seem to be taking them by surprise. They're not getting a lot of kills either, so they're not getting much ult charge in response. And now Flash Wolves are going to come in with a favored fight.
Yep, Flash Wolves have been saving ultimates for some time now, still got a decent amount of time to play with, and that's coming off the back of a very quick first cap. They only have this much time in abundance because they blitzed through that first cap so quickly, and you know, Blank, I'm thinking for them, they need an equally good attack when it gets to their turn.
Yeah, they absolutely will do, and the other thing as well is they only need to get 2/3 here, Flash Wolves, which means Blank just won't have as much time to try and hold out that contest. So this is very winnable for Flash Wolves right now.
And this EMP is going to be even more important than the last.
No converts though. Kiki trying to get aggressive in here, but he can't even find an end. The EMP's run out now. They haven't found much except for Singler, which is good. Oh, that's a good trade. That's very important. And the Pulse Bomb had been committed by Bacon Jack. No further ultimates out of Flash Wolves. So that is one ultimate for the fight win. Blank will be happy with that, but this is still not over for them.
It was a really scary moment for Blank because the reason I say EMPs are even important now is Flash Wolves actually have ultimates. So if you get a good EMP here, you're going to deny ultimates and get a far better fight, wasting a lot of Flash Wolves time. They're not going to get any stronger here. When you have this many ultimates, you're already on 5. Your team's overall strength doesn't really improve from here. So for Flash Wolves, the onus is on them to have a go.
No EMP now though, and Kiki already in a bit of trouble. They're going to go ahead and open out as the Nanovisor combo through and through. He's not really got many targets though. Is Kiki going to block out the rest of it as the sound barrier was committed? ATAR going to try and open up, but honestly, members of Flash Wolves are all too safe, and he doesn't find anything. He's getting forced back. May lose his life here. A couple of members going down, but thankfully Eat You Up keeps it on lockdown as he trades back on Bacon Jack, running out all these ultimates as well, and Gunba holding down the fort of all people. Will lose his life here, but now trades are no longer good enough for Flash Wolves. They didn't get a third off that. They gave up a lot more kills this time, having committed ultimates themselves. Blank have just barely steered themselves through the roughest moments.
And that was a rare mechanical error from Eat Up as well. He misblinked into the wrong location. He could have secured the kill into Zonda, but he didn't quite get there. And for Blank, I mean, EMP coming up at just the correct time while the members were respawning and getting back in the fight together. It looked a little bit dicey because Blank lost a lot of members early, but they eventually saved the bell right at the end. For Flash Wolves, they've already committed most of their ultimates and they're running out of time now.
And again, now going for this wraparound play. Eat You Up getting spotted out here. Needs to be careful not to get sticky.
Man fight.
He's in a lot of trouble there. Has his retreat path cut off as well now, and is going to have to try and regroup with his team the hard way. Flashwolves continuing to get this wraparound, going to try and force Blank's hand on the point.
I do like this raid from Flashwolves because it really denies the back line.
Oh, that's a good catch onto RQT. Baconjack able to get out nice and safe as well. And Blank, they're not feeling safe and set up here. Again, early ultimate from Trill, and nothing's happening from it. Baconjack is still uncontested. Casually throws out the pulse bomb, luckily getting the catch on Jongi may just keep him alive. And Zonda's not really finding much either, but they are getting a third over for themselves now here. Or actually, not quite yet. Zonda getting pressured off now. Good EMP to secure it out for the team now. And that was at the 11th hour to be sure, but they don't give up the third. That is so crucial here because it makes it harder for Flashwolves to close it out now. And Blank once again holding at the last possible moment.
And I think the fight where Blank had, or rather Flashwolves had about 5 ultimates available, that was a big fight for Blank to actually have won because Flashwolves had banked up for multiple minutes just to get that one big fight with their ahead, and now they're not going to be ahead for the remainder of this match on Volskaya on their attack. They're never going to have another big ultimate advantage again. Their next fight could be their last one, and they're going to go in at a deficit. They're not definitely not going to go in with any advantages.
Kiki too deep, but they have traded out on Baconjack. That's good for them. Makes it very hard for Flashwolves to commit to this. In fact, may just opt to wait for Baconjack.
They're going to have to. They don't have a choice because every time the defense gets these kills, the offense is neutered so hard, and they need to have all members alive. They need to have the ability to sustain in this fight to actually get a win.
Atar going to go very aggressive with this blade. He does find Realment, and that's all he finds for now, able to retreat to a health pack. But just that one is good because this is about to go into overtime, and Flashwolves had to commit a ton. Gumba converting onto K-Momo. Unfortunately, Atar going down to this Z flank there. Yeah, this is just about done here because they're not really on the point itself. They're going to have to dive for it with Baconjack, but they haven't really got anything to go off. He's forced to step off straight away. He does get one with the pulse bomb, but Zonda has to use the... Oh no! Tactical Visor couldn't even get a toe on the point off the back of that one. 61% on the second point is nothing to be balked at, but after that very fast first cap and a strong early fight, for Blank to hold on and not give up the second cap at all is actually huge for them.
Absolutely, and the fight that decided all, like I said earlier, was that fight with Flashwolves coming in 5 ultimates. They needed to win that. They needed to get such a good attack, get 2/3 as a minimum, force it to nearly 90%, go into the sort of point where Blank have to play in the desperation mode. That never happened for Flashwolves, and they never got an advantage again. It's a big deal for Flashwolves to not have that comeback ability, and they never got the cap, and it's really unfortunate for this team to be so far behind.
And by the way, to have got an EMP in every single fight, even when he didn't actually have it at the start of the fight, and by the way, he only had it at the start of like 1, maybe 2 of those fights, is actually really, really good. That shows how much weight Gunba is actually pulling in terms of hacks and damage, as well as just health pack control. That's the mark of a strong Sombra.
And actually him getting the kills, I think, is really... it's swinging the fights as well, and most of these fights have been won from a couple of picks out from Blank. They don't need to even necessarily get a lot of picks. Just the fact that they're getting a few picks anywhere in that fight, when you're the defensive teams and your respawn's that much closer, you're able to... Your kills just mean so much more. So, you know, for Flashwolves to not be able to sustain themselves through the damage of Blank has been a big issue as to why they haven't won. And even when they come in with a huge ultimate advantage and they're not able to get it off that as well, that's a big question mark for the team.
I'd like to see how Blank's attack goes now. All they have to do is get it past that 61.6% on the second point. That means they don't actually have to cap out, they can play for thirds, but we have seen them traditionally struggle to get second point caps altogether on Assault.
And we tell you what, if you look at Hanamura again, they had an absolutely amazing start. 6 minutes and 37 was it that they had, and they couldn't get their second cap. So, I mean, for Blank, while they got the full hold, it's not going to matter if they still can't win it at the end of the day.
Let's see how it goes. Completely right there. Gonna be a little bit low, but they're able to get into this position anyway. They're able to get everyone through, and now looking to set themselves up on this high ground. Baconjack ready to contest. Let's see how Flashwolves react.
And actually, Flashwolves are not going to play the Sombra here, so that's an interesting turn of events. I expected the Sombra out from Flashwolves. They're just completely opting to not go there at all.
And I can't help but wonder if it's a bit of a lack of confidence on the Sombra, which would surprise me in one sense, but not in the other. Now, Blank actually are kind of set up the way they want to be in this room without the Sombra there to kind of contest it and hold it. That's a big dive from Jongi. Not quite getting punished just yet because Eat You Up can't quite blink him, but now he goes, can't quite close it out, and Blank haven't quite found their end just yet.
Blank are definitely using a lot of time here. By now, Flashwolves had already capped the initial point, so...
Oh, Atar.
I've sort of mentioned before, but Blank, they seem to be a very heavy setup team. They take a lot of time to get their fights going. They've already lost a member. They're already going to have to be reset here. 1 minute off their attack already, and nothing has really been done.
Ooh, good boot there, keeps Gunba alive. And actually Zonda might be in trouble here, trying to get the wraparound, gets punished for it. They did at least catch Eat You Up, but ATAR's respawned in this one, and now Flash Wolves, oh no, they have managed to catch them here. Blank didn't quite close it out, and the sleep on Kiki meant no blocking for the supports, and that means a huge amount of time is wasted for Blank. Honestly, they're doing this thing again, where they put themselves in a position where they have to convert kills or they're gonna lose, and then they just don't get any kills.
I also think it's the factor of the speed on their attack is they're just taking so long. We've already down 1 minute 30. It's like Kings Row all over again. They're taking minutes and minutes and minutes to get in there. And, you know, Flash Wolves one more time, they're already on the second cap by now.
And they have a ton of ults as well. If Blank want to go for this long, slow setup again and then still struggle to press the go button, they're really going to struggle.
They're pressing the Gumba button now.
Yeah, because they've noticed no Sombra on the defense, they figure they might as well run one of their own. I do kind of like this, but they have to set it up. This is going to take more minutes.
Exactly, they're playing setups again, and while I don't necessarily disagree with setups,
Gunba! And now he's dead.
So long, and now they're just going to have to wait more.
They're going to have to swap off. They don't have time to set up a Sombra at this point now, and they're going to get routed out the back of this one. He's going to stick on it, it seems, coming out of the gate another time. If no one else dies here, then Blank might just be able to hold this on. Oh, they lose ATAR, that's big, but at least caught Sinclair. Bacon Jack, good stick. They're going to pop the mech out of Kiki, unfortunately for him. Throws out a self-destruct, and Zonda is going to get zoned off because of it. They're getting a few through now, actually, as Ilios gets the pulse bomb, and they're looking to kind of hold on to this one. ATAR will be able to rejoin the fight as well, and Ilios is trying to contest Zonda. As forces came up into the high ground, Zonda did get a good one through that one, and ATAR holding onto this Dragon Blade now to secure the fight as he rejoins the fray. Ooh, this could be capturable.
It could be. I think Flash Wolves may look to try and delay here because they still have a lot of ultimates. The self-destruct would tell me they are looking to delay.
They are indeed, but they've already lost K-Moment because of that, and this is the opportunity to throw out that... deflects the sleep onto the other support. That's got a sting, but it loses his life. So does Gunba. Flash Wolves are going to come in for another fight. Blank, if they don't get kills quick, they have to retreat fast, or they're going to run out of time altogether here. Chill also needs to ult if that's the way they want to go. He is indeed going to commit, but it goes down anyway. Environmental kill, and Zonda catches Eat You Up. They need to get out now. They didn't even get that second, third through. This is really, really rough for them now.
Flash Wolves, and Flash Wolves kind of showed how you should be making sort of retake play like that because they actually had the ultimate to do it. When Blank had gone for the retake plays, they got no resource whatsoever. They're just banking on the fact that they're going to get really aggressive, maybe outflank, and Flash Wolves far more calculated, and they're going to reap the rewards.
Bacon Jack though too deep, and this could be Blank about to reap the reward of that. Gunba has an EMP as well, looking to try and set up for
15 seconds.
Yeah, ATAR off that Genji, now back onto the soldier. He's going to go ahead and look for it. Does find the tanks, but they need to follow up, getting aggressive in the room with Kiki now, but they're not finding it. Flash Wolves are going to run them around. Jongi does go down. They're trying to get this health pack control established as well as Eat You Up looking to get aggressive, but they've lost Trill. And this is the open up now from Zonda. This could decide it, this could secure it, or this could blow up in Flash Wolves' face, and it does indeed as Zonda goes down. They still have a lot of members up, and Bacon Jack could just go off, but ATAR is going to make it as difficult as possible, and they are at least on the point. Oh, there we go. They're looking to get themselves a capture as Bacon Jack finally goes down to the wire, but Blank will make it happen, and now they can very much win this.
Absolutely, and they have still got a Sombra, and Flash Wolves may look to change here. They may not, because they're also very close to the support ultimates. RQT already blew Sound Barrier. That was extremely desperate out of him, so maybe could have looked to save it. And Blank are going to look to really struggle to get the snowball rolling because they blew so many ults earlier.
Yeah, they do at least have this sound barrier out from ATAR, but Jongi is going to get himself a nano boost to go aggressive. They don't actually convert any kills. They finally catch Eat You Up. Bacon Jack had to dive in for that and doesn't get punished for it either. Blank need to kind of back off from this one. They do kill Jongi. They can play for thirds, but they probably need more resounding fights. But they've got the EMP. They want it. That's a big EMP. They can convert off this now. Good timing on the self-destruct as well to make space, and they catch a good few. This is really big for them. Yes, 1/3 indeed. Oh my goodness, are they going to be able to do it? Jongi can come out of the base and stall for Zonda. He might just lose his life here if he's not careful, and K-Momo still can't get back in the smack. He does go down. They catch Gunba, that's important, and Jongi there with the stall, but it's not enough. He steps up the point. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a finals on our hands. Blank swing back once again to set themselves up 2-1 now in the series.
And they are chuffed about that one. High fives all around. RQT still waiting for his from Eat Up, and eventually he gets it.
Cashes it in.
Like Blank eventually getting themselves the victory on Volskaya. But man, what a struggle. That first cap could have really gone entirely south for Blank. They nearly didn't get it. Went into the overtime. They were so patient. Far too patient for my liking. And well, cutting it so close down to the wire, this was a map that could have gone either way. And this was a great play from Jongi. Knocking Trill, both monkeys, both Winstons, both Winstons primal raging, and you're the Winston that comes out ahead. But that's like Jongi. That's Jongi.
That was the opening of 2001: A Space Odyssey there, and Jongi ascended to
I'll
a
tell you
higher
what,
form of being.
If he's the gorilla that came out on top of the other male, well, he's going to get all the ladies now. So there it is. All the mating rights
Have you seen?
go to that one
Have you
gorilla.
seen Sonny lately? There's just been a bunch of images of gorillas doing surprisingly humanoid things. Like, have you seen the one going around that's like the gorilla that looks like he's giving a lecture outdoors? And he really does. He really does. Like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just like,
Surprisingly.
you know, you look at that with that caption, you're like, you know what? I see it. I see it. And that's Jongi right now.
Well, you know, as
Jongi
you-
has ascended to a higher form of gorilla, and he is the one lecturing Trill.
Yeah, you put the glasses on and suddenly he looks like...
Yeah, looks like a professor.
Hi there.
I'm a scientist.
All right, well, let's get a recap real quick. So Blank did take out Ilios, which was their pick. Flash Wolves won on King's Road, which was their pick as well. So all teams have won the maps that they have chosen. And should Flash Wolves now, they're going to go into Escort. I would assume they're going to dodge Dorado here. They're going to most likely... They're going to,
probably.
I would say if the trend has been set, Flash Wolves are looking to even up this one as well. But before we get into the next map, do want to just sort of break down Volskaya just a little bit more because... It was a real nail biter for Blank, and they almost didn't make it towards the end, and they sort of just got there, but it could have very easily have fallen apart.
And once again, it feels like Blank really lived and died by their own execution. I feel like when they were winning, they were the ones playing well. I don't really see Flash Wolves making too many major mistakes. I mean, look, they make small ones, but every team makes small mistakes here and there. And Blank capitalize on those ones. Flash Wolves capitalize on Blank's small ones. But when Blank are making big misfires and big mistakes, they lose the fights. And that's a good thing and a bad thing, because it means if you can consistently execute, you're just going to win out and out. But it means if you consistently fall short of the mark, you're just going to lose and you're going to look stupid. It's a really tough spot for Blank to be in, and they only just executed well a few more times than they executed poorly.
All right, well, let's take a look at this replay now. This is going to be the initial attack out from Flash Wolves, and it was so quick. You see the speed and aggression. They went straight for that health pack from, got an early kill into Gumba, and that's usually the most important target that you actually pick out if you're expecting a Sombra on the defense. And then they just convert onto everyone else, getting the mech from Kiki, getting RQT as well, only losing K Momo's mech, and this was a huge victory for Flash Wolves. And so early as well.
It felt like at every juncture, and that first point cap was kind of a microcosm of it. We saw it a bit more in the second point just because there were more fights there. It looked like Blank were constantly surprised by Flash Wolves, and it looks like they didn't know where to look for Flash Wolves. They were clearly set up to try and get the drop on Flash Wolves as they came in, but they were the ones who got surprised, and that to me is Blank consistently misreading where Flash Wolves are pushing, not really scouting them out properly.
Actually, the play there was actually, if you'll notice, Gumbo tried to go for a bit of early damage, and it was Flash Wolves guessed correctly where the translocate position was. So you needed to sort of figure out where do you think the Sombra went, and they said, I think he went into that middle health pack. Let's all rush it as soon as they saw Gumba translocate. And of course, he was there. Gumba had no escape options.
And they weren't expecting it.
Invis was not going to do anything. Translocate was already down. Exceptionally well executed and well sort of judged by Flash Wolves. They just picked the correct spot to go
And
for.
because of the way they did it, I mean, in Blank's defense, they had Kiki there as well to make it a bit safer for Gunba so that he maybe couldn't get dove. But Flash Wolves still dove anyway and did so with an aggression that took Blank by surprise once again. And even though you've got Kiki there, that's still basically a 2 versus 6 for just a few short seconds until the other 4 members can react. And Flash Wolves in that time took out those 2. And now here we see a lot of the same now on the second point attacks by Flash Wolves. We saw them go for these flanks around the side, but look at where Blank are. They don't have eyes on this at all, really. And Gunba finally sees Bacon Jack on the side. That doesn't tell them much though, because Bacon Jack is a flanker. That's not indicative of where the team is, so they react to Bacon Jack. And then suddenly Flash Wolves are all up on this high ground. Now once again, at least Blank do react to this, but by the time they had, Flash Wolves had precedent on this fight. It constantly felt like Blank were just holding on. Now they did throughout this fight because they got a crucial pick on the Jongi there that you just saw, but it was back foot from start to finish. Closing out is still good news, and the EMPs were clutch every single fight, but it was always Flash Wolves dictating the pace, even though Blank were winning.
I think Flash Wolves made a really good play to get their flank around because they deny the back line of Blank, the position that they were really wanting there, but eventually Flash Wolves still got to be the ones attacking, they still got to be the ones capping.
And you have to get on the point.
It's like teams playing the massive wraparound in Numbani, and that's fine, you can make the wraparound, but guess what, you're capping, so eventually you have to be the one sitting on the point, you have to be the one attacking it and making sure you're pressuring it properly. So for Blank, cool, we'll lose your positioning, we'll rotate somewhere else, but you still got to attack, and we're going to wait. As soon as you jump on the point, that's when we're going to punish. The first player they killed was Jongi. And after that, it just all started going Blank's way, and the EMP coming out at the correct time, and a Gumba killing Zonda as well was a big factor.
That really was. And that's why I say reacted too well, because Yeah, they didn't scout out properly. Flash Wolves were able to get all that positioning, but you're right, again, still blank read the situation to understand, okay, we may have made a bit of a mistake there. We maybe didn't scout out adequately, but here's how we can now play the fight from there onward. And that is actually a mark of a good team, is that on-the-fly adaptability.
Yeah. And exactly. So, you know, what we didn't see in that replay was the replay following the fight where Flash Wolves lost with all the ultimates.
Yeah.
So again, I think that was the one big
That
fight
was the real
that
turning
actually
point.
cost Flash Wolves. And then we're going to go into another replay, and this is now going to be
final
into
attack
the,
for
yeah,
Black.
exactly, like final attack. And Gumba has been on the Sombra for some time now. Went for the EMP. And you'll actually kind of notice, I think they went for Zonda, but they couldn't really find Zonda there, so they got Zhongyi instead.
Yeah, they were happy with that. And one of the saving graces as well was they got themselves that first third. So you can see now, because of that Kiki with Zhongyi out of the picture, is able to sit on the point, doesn't have to play dive or defend the healer as much as he otherwise would have. And by sitting on the point, Flash Wolves knew they had to commit to it themselves at some point, and that just put the ball in Blank's end of the court. They just dealt with the members of Flash Wolves as they came onto the point, much like, funnily enough, what we just saw on their defense at the second point. So totally different scenario, but exactly the same kind of play.
And just to give a bit more context as well, what we didn't see in the replay was the events leading up to that is essentially Blank made an aggressive push onto the cap itself, and they nearly had the full cap. But you talked about getting those ticks earlier on that helped them eventually secure it. Well, they got the ticks because they went for that push, pushed Flash Wolves out, but Flash Wolves managed to save enough members. K-Moment came in, self-destructed to lead the charge back in, and eventually Flash Wolves just completely collapse onto Blank and force Blank out and put Blank in a really tough spot. So Flash Wolves actually did a decent job of holding on. Now we're going to see
this is interesting.
That second point attack.
The thing that's interesting about it is they hadn't really resoundingly won, and normally when you go trade for trade as the attacker, that doesn't favor you here. And we see Gunba, actually it was RQT I think was the first to go down. No, here we go. I'm completely wrong, it's Eat You Up. But they got a trade back early enough on Zhongyi with his ultimate still up, and that ended up dictating the fight for them, because now they decided to just go aggressive anyway because they had the EMP in the mech. They threw that in, gave themselves the space they needed, and converted kills at that key moment. Now, Zhongyi has only just respawned. K-Momo is the only tank here. He can't keep Zonda alive, so Blank take advantage of that. And now suddenly Flash Wolves are in disarray. They're trading blow for blow, but they're not doing so on the point. Blank are on the point, and Zhongyi, even though he finally got in and had the ultimate, it was just too late. They were at the point where stepping off meant defeat, and that's exactly what happened.
And actually for Flash Wolves, I believe they could have held on to the cap there. They may have actually held on long enough to fully defend it up, because, like you said, they just needed to play for the fact that you cannot get off the point knowing what you kept up to is the objective. So this is now an example of Flash Wolves unfortunately not being able to play for the objective, similar to what we saw at a Blank on Streets phase on King's Row in the time bank as well. Now both sides have sort of cases where they kind of forget, oh wow, this is actually
that's right. This is how we
this
win.
is actually what you got to play too. Flash Wolves still acting like they have the full 100% to play with. Unfortunately, no. And it's just Blank finding just enough, you know, with the 1/3 they got quite early, and then Flash Wolves kind of dropping the ball a little bit towards the end, and they snuck in with the extra cap, and well played to Blank at the end of the day. Now they now lead 2-1. We're going to get to the fourth map in the series very soon, and that's going to be happening after a short break as Flash Wolves get ready to pick up their escort map, and that's all going to happen extremely soon, so don't go anywhere. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back again to the Overwatch Pacific Championship English broadcast. We're about to head into map number 4 of the grand final. We actually have here Dangerous Man. You didn't quite catch the little name tag popping up, but that's who he is.
Dangerous Man.
He's not Reaper, he's Dangerous Man.
Dangerous Man. I think that might be his cosplay name. It's like Dangerous Man cosplaying as Reaper.
Yeah.
But maybe that is how it translates. I wouldn't know what they call Reaper in Taiwan. Just Dangerous Man.
I would actually love
Dangerous
it
Man.
if he was called Dangerous Man in Taiwan. It's like,
because we call him Edgelord. Like, I feel like Dangerous Man. Like, I don't know. I see the vein there. I see what they're going
Can someone
for.
please change onto Dangerous Man? We need
a Dangerous Man.
We require a Dangerous Man for this push. Please. I do actually want to speak to Reaper a little bit, because we actually don't see as much Reaper now. And the reason I say that is we saw more Reaper in the past, I want to say in the last month, where Reaper was used as a counter strat against Sombra. You would run a counter Sombra with the Reaper, and so try and combo that together. And that's now kind of thrown out the window, and people have stopped doing the Reaper thing altogether.
We even saw it, if I'm not mistaken, as recently as the semi-final. I may just be a little bit wrong on that, but in any case, this is surprising to me. Deeply surprising to me.
It is.
Flash Wolves have never played Dorado.
It is and it isn't. And I think I know. I am actually surprised as well because the surprising thing is you shouldn't want to take the escort to Blank's best escort map. You should want to take. It's like when you get the control pick and you say we'll go to Ilios.
Yeah.
I think that's a mistake. So for Flash Wolves, what I'm going to try and get out of this is they're more prepared for Dorado themselves. I know Flash Wolves are not the type of team to say we're just going to take you to your best map because if they wanted to do that, yesterday we would have seen Volskaya instead of Numbani.
Yeah.
So for Flash Wolves, it's more about actually we're also the best on Dorado.
Yeah.
Actually, it's not about giving the best map over to Blank, but also it just is also our best map. So actually, that's quite exciting.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually quite exciting because both teams are now playing their best escort.
And there's two things at play here. The first is exactly what you were just, exactly what you were just touching on, and like this does really feel like Flash Wolves picking into Blank a little bit, but I mentioned it there. Flash Wolves have never played Dorado in Season 1 of the OPC. Also, they weren't in the semifinals, so this is the first time they're ever going to play Dorado. For all we know, they are just as good as Blank on Dorado, if not better.
We saw it
They've
yesterday.
seen Blank play Dorado. Actually, you're quite right. And they did, of course, win it. We've seen Blank play Dorado. We've seen it happen a lot. We haven't seen much of Flash Wolves playing Dorado. And that means that Blank won't have been able to prepare for it in the same way that Flash Wolves will have. So this is a confidence pick for Flash Wolves.
And even if they have prepared for it, they prepare for it off of one match. So they get to watch what happened yesterday. They get to learn the lessons, which, mind you, is still a very good.
I feel like they're more learning their own lessons.
Yeah, but it's still very strong. And actually, I'm noticing something in the crowd, which is there might just be more fans of Unico than of either team here. Because you get a lot of her fan signs, but less of any other players.
Just by the by, though, because of course we did go to Dorado yesterday. When we went to it, it was Blank's pick, but the interesting thing was we felt kind of the tune of yesterday was the matches were getting closer and closer and closer all the way up to Dorado, which nearly went either way, right? It could have very much been held by Blank, but unfortunately wasn't. And today I feel Blank already looking better. We've kind of described them as maybe this slow burn team that has to ramp up. They're now well ramped, and going back to Dorado, it may just be that Flash Wolves feel they have been able to change enough that they can just overcome Blank no matter what, but I'm still actually kind of expecting Blank to just play better than they did yesterday, and I still think this is really risky for Flash Wolves based on how close yesterday came.
I think Flash Wolves, I agree they're 100% taking a risk here, and it may well pay off. I don't believe Flash Wolves will ever make this kind of choice without it being an informed decision. They will never blindly go into this. There's a very good reason we are here, and I'm gonna back the fact that Flash Wolves do know what they're doing.
And there is another thing at play here, and I mentioned this earlier in the night. Unfortunately, it didn't apply then, but I said I was going to mention it anyway because it may apply later, and it applies now. It is safe for Flash Wolves to take risky picks here because they have the first day win. They also have a map win of their own now in the back pocket, and with that in mind, they can lose this map. Like, I know that sounds silly because, yeah, well, you want to just win naturally, but maybe they feel that they can just win again on Dorado anyway. And if they can't, well, no hard feelings, you know? They can just go ahead and win on other maps instead.
Yeah, certainly that may be the case. Certainly at the same time, it's still a massive risk. I'd be very concerned about dropping another map because as soon as you drop this, you're into match point territory for Blank.
You certainly are. You luckily have tomorrow to swap to strike back if it goes all the way to match for Blank. But in any case, Dorado stands between us and that at any rate. We will have to see how Blank execute because it is Flash Wolves on the defense first. See how they route through this one. Good aggression onto Jongi. Actually, his retreat is a little bit dicey, but he will get out, and Flash Wolves are stopping this payload for now, but K-Momo finds himself too deep, and now D-Mech could follow up on that as well. And now ATAR looking to open this one right up as they pressure up Bacon Jack, going very aggressive into the courtyard. No one's actually moving the payload. They're really wanting to get a dominating fight win, but it can blow up in their faces if they're not careful, and they lose Kiki's mech, so that's exactly what seems to be happening. At least they're back on the payload now, but that wasn't quite what they were looking for.
Exactly. At least Blank can understand. They know when to back off here. They lose Kiki's mech. Previous occasions, they lose Kiki's mech, and suddenly a team wipe. In this occasion, they say, no more, we will regroup, we will reclaim our calm territory and just go for a slower purpose of play.
This does force Flash Wolves' hands a little bit because they are the ones who have to make the aggressive move here, otherwise the cap just goes through. And Kiki can just barely get his mech back in time potentially, but here's the aggressive move now as it works. They get Kiki, who is still not quite back in that mech a little unfortunately. Blank are looking like they might just want to back right off here and wait for Kiki to come back, and I wouldn't disagree with that.
I wouldn't disagree with that either. And for Flash Wolves, they buy a decent amount of time for only a nano boost. They didn't have to commit too much there. They didn't have to throw everything at the entire wall. Just a little bit of pressure, poke a little bit of holes into Blank, and suddenly you get a lot more breathing room. And that breathing room is important because Flash Wolves needed to charge the rest of their ults because Blank already have, and Flash Wolves got to meet that.
And now Blank go ahead and commit, and these DPS ults could just absolutely decide it. Good pulse bomb out, forces the defensive sound barrier, and they haven't really got much more to go on here. Flash Wolves going to have to commit this Tac Visor eventually. There it goes, right into the Transcendence, and ATAR is already contesting it anyway. Going to go ahead and open up, and he takes out Zonda nice and quick. Smart now looking for more. Isn't going to actually find too much more. Realman kind of giving him the slip there, but they've made the space they needed anyway, and they will be able to get the cap through, and a good number of kills, so all's well that ends well.
Absolutely, the cap should come through at any moment, and like you said, a lot of kills, which means they're going to give them a lot of momentum, something they can really snowball through. Like I said, Blank are a very good streets kind of team, and how they're good at streets is their ability to snowball past the first cap, really continue their momentum. They still got ultimates, they spent a few ultimates, but they didn't throw everything. A Dragon Blade and a couple others is all they really needed. Now Blank are in a decent position to keep things moving forward. They even got the high ground.
Last time around though, they were able to make big moves with the Dragon Blade to contest this high ground. Going very aggressive here, but losing Kiki is rough as they don't quite get the corner trap on Zonda. Finally close it out, but Trill may just lose his life for it. Ooh, he's able to get out, just luckily, despite that bad jump. Yeah, it has still given them a good amount of space, but it's not as resounding as last night.
Certainly not, but they have gotten a decent push so far, which I think is definitely going to work in Blank's favor. At least, you know, Trill didn't make it out alive. Gets the kill into Zonda, still has the pressure. Stick does miss.
Does go wide, but Eat Up has at least forced out Real Singler for a little bit now. He has that nano boost, and they're just waiting for him to commit it. They don't really have any ultimates of their own to go on here, though, Blank. And there's going to be the commit with the nano boost that does pay off as they catch Gunburn. Now, Blank don't really have a good retreat path, not really able to trade back either, and they've got no ultimates to commit to this either. They are going to be able to back off, but they're not going into a favorable fight for the next one.
I think Blank had a decent advantage. You know, it was sort of mentioned as they were coming through the streets phase. They had a good amount banked up. 3, I think, was the number of ultimates. Flash Wolves had barely any. Now the tables have sort of turned for Flash Wolves. They're the ones in control. They have stabilized. They have ultimates as well. Blank's going to need a lot of time to try and work their way back in. At least the card's in a good position.
And it's because Trill went very aggressive with his Winston ult. Ooh, able to stay alive through that pulse bomb is very, very important. That's one of the resources Flash Wolves did have. Now they're just kind of down to these tank ultimates, and Blank have kind of evened up in terms of those defensive, nearly have the aggressive ultimates as well. And they're going to look to take advantage of that as they go aggressive onto this high ground. Atar needs to keep himself alive, but the collapse is so far so good. Transcendence comes out from Gunber, and this gives them an opportunity to go. Pulse Bomb is out from Eat You Up, doesn't find much, but honestly, the self-destruct from K-Momo isn't going to buy Flash Wolves really anything. Double kill though, and no one's actually on the payload, so despite them getting aggressive, they didn't take advantage of any of the space while Flash Wolves are stuck off in that corner there, and now they're just getting routed back anyway. Blank honestly misfired totally there.
They didn't get any control over the actual objective, and that's a big loss for them. Not only did they lose the actual fight they committed into, but not getting the card movement forward, and now losing Kiki here. He's going to get staggered out. This is more time, and time has been a big factor for a lot of Blank's mishaps so far. Time has not been something they've been very good at managing, and they're going to run out of it if they're not careful now.
Yeah, and again, now Flash Wolves actually have a good run of ultimates available. They used the tank ones, and they weren't even used well. Blank were the team that miscommitted there. They were the ones that played incorrectly. Honestly, everything was in their favor there. Now they're going to have a much harder fight. We'll see if they can do it.
And they can't flank again because they need to play for the cart. This time they need to push with the cart, maybe commit a few members to flank it, but if they go for a full 6-man flank again, the cart just slides further and further back.
Good enough read there on Bacon Jack, who was trying to get him behind. Excuse me, try and get him behind them, so he's not quite going to be able to do that. Kiki throwing in the self-destruct to make space for the play is a good start. Trill put to sleep, but he's going to be able to retreat anyway. Sound barrier kind of forced out, and they're attacking into this corner again. They need to make it pay off this time. They can't afford to have a mishap like last time around, and again, Trill with this aggressive ult. They are going to pop K-Momo's mech. That's a better start than last time. But Flash Wolves, yeah, they got a lot that they could use. There we go, Atar able to find K-Momo. He needs to find more, trying to get Zonda, who has taken out Gunba, who has taken out RQT as well, and is just cutting off all these members. No one's dove him. How is no one getting on this high ground? Finally, Kiki's up here, but he's got no support. Atar's too low, and Trill's dead. How did no one kill that soldier?
Oh, they definitely get them eventually, but we are down to under 30 seconds remaining, and so far Flash Wolves, they do get to reinforce a lot quicker than Blanket. That's a big problem. At least the ultimates have been completely reset, but with Kiki dying late, he's not going to be able to come into the next fight. It's going to be 5 versus 6, and we've already seen what happens when Blank tries to play the 5v6.
This is a repeat of yesterday. Blanca playing into the exact same corner. Flash Wolves knew how to react to it yesterday. Nothing has changed. Blank are just not executing onto these DPS members adequately. And now Bacon Jack already looking to run rampant as Eat You Up dives for the point to force overtime. But someone else needs to dive in now. And they still need to have good enough positioning. Need to convert kills quick, smart. Bacon Jack has a pulse bomb. Eat You Up's down as very Gunba forced out with the Transcendence, but he's not finding anything as Atar is forced out. K-Momo, this is done. Blank are going to get no cap off this one. And they need to stop playing into Flash Wolves' playbook. This is the same mistake as yesterday, and it's costed them.
And unfortunately, for the first time in this series so far, it was rather Blank playing to the beat of their own drum, and for the first time, Flash Wolves, they're banging on their drum, and it's not going to be drum for much longer. They much prefer the gong.
All right, that was a metaphor. I'll assume I understood what you said, but that was
essentially it's what I'm trying to say here is Flash Wolves so far been riding a wave. It's Blank been making the plays, and Blank have been losing by making the mistakes. And for the first time, Flash Wolves are the ones making the big plays themselves and setting the standard and pacing of the game.
Absolutely,
setting the trap for Blank to come into instead. So, you know, Flash Wolves have said, what can you do, Blank? Okay, now it's our turn to do something.
Exactly, and that's the thing. That's as much as Blank were trying to be the proactive team, you're right, it wasn't right in the wave. It wasn't Flash Wolves going, okay, let's see how we deal with this. It's we know how to deal with this. Really, they're just playing into what we know how to do. Sure, they're being proactive. Sure, they're the ones executing, but we know how to adequately be reactive here. And like I said, it didn't work for Blank yesterday. I'm gobsmacked that they did the same thing again today. They're throwing themselves at a brick wall, expecting it to magically crumble.
And it's the second time I'd like to say tonight, but at least the second time across the weekend so far that Zonda's able to get these really good positions that no one really spots. Yesterday it was on Lighthouse on Ilios where Zonda behind the point comes out with the tank visor completely uncontested. No one even knew he was there. This time around, Zonda just on the high ground. That should have been a lot easier to spot out for Blank. Again, they did not spot that out. Kiki got in there, but wasn't able to get a good angle to get the Matrix on him because Zonda was looking at the point. Kiki was looking at Zonda, but not facing the right direction.
And the other thing as well, I'll be completely honest, you're half right there because they had at least spotted him out, but Atar kind of miscommitted as well. He got the Dragon Blade kill onto K-Momo in that pilot form, didn't get any quick follow-up and finally turned his attention to Zonda, got a bit of damage on it, and they were relying on Trill to close it out. Atar didn't close it out, Trill whiffed his jump, and then suddenly Kiki was like, well, I guess I'll do it, but the team was already dead. Like I said, going up with no support. At that point, you're better off just backing off altogether.
I still think the biggest issue for Blank so far is the amount of time they're committing to all of these different pushes, so they get less pushes overall, they get less attempts on Flash Wolves overall because they take just longer to do everything.
Good position by Zonda on the side here is they've completely surrounded Blank. They do at least get a kill onto Jongi, which will buy them some time and allow them to regroup a little bit, but that was not looking good for a moment there for Blank.
Still, the cart does at least get sort of stalled up for a few moments here, so, you know, progress has been stalled, and Blank are definitely not letting go of the pressure so far.
They're really not, but if Trill goes down here, then it won't really matter. Ooh, just barely staying alive here. There we go, finally going down, but they've traded back onto K-Momo's mech. That is so important for them, as they're putting good pressure onto the DPSs as well. They're making Flash Wolves fight for all this distance, but eventually they're going to have to retreat, because now they're on the cusp of getting routed. No, the retreat is called far too late, and Blank losing members left, right, and center now. And again, the same mistakes as yesterday.
Yep, retreating far too late. When Flash Wolves retreat, they get a lot of members out. When Blank retreat, you lose so many, and it's a big factor. They've actually managed to get more than they usually when they retreat, which is a good sign that will allow them to get the recontest, and they're going to have to recontest. They actually have the ultimates to do it with, so I expect Blank to be able to hold on here.
They are going to be able to go in for it, yeah, with this Transcendence out now, and they put down the Nano Boost onto Atar as well, but he's not finding anyone, because Blank is telegraphed, man. Yeah, he finally gets Jongi, but they don't close out the kill. The sound barrier is now there for Flash Wolves as the attack visor comes out. And again, they're contesting Atar. Once again, telegraphed. And the Nano Boost comes out too early. The attack visor comes out when they're not in position. Blank are just misfiring on all cylinders before. It is a complete reversal of the start of the night.
And when I say he finds Jongi, I mean he finds Jongi in his face. Yeah. But he doesn't kill Jongi, and that's a big factor. So he finds a bubble. Well placed by Jongi. Well played by Flash Wolves overall, completely nullifying Blank's sort of retake contestant. The Transcendence so early. Gumba could have probably afforded to hold on to that just a little bit longer. Aita, unfortunately, not set up to take use of the nano boost as well. Didn't have a tag visor. That's fine. The nano boost is good enough on its own, but it's not good enough if Zhongy's still there contesting you, if the tanks with flash walls are in your face and unfortunately not allowing you to get any damage done.
At this point now, Blank have to change instantly. They have no more time. They don't get to go away and readdress Dorado. They're making the same mistakes as yesterday, and they just have to turn it around in the heat of the moment. That is a hard ask. Kiki already a little bit low, will be able to retreat, but they're not really able to contest this payload just yet.
And they kind of have to, because when they don't, Flash was going to get a free push here, so Blank, they need to be the ones pulling the trigger.
They are indeed. They force out the Transcendence from Sinkler, but Trill is in a lot of trouble. They're going to try and follow up on it, and that forces the ultimate out of him. They're not converting kills, really. They're able to pop the mech from K-Momo a little bit. Well, actually, that's the self-destruct. There we go. Ilios getting a great clutch stick there, and Kiki self-destruct will close out on Zhongy as well. Had to use some of the few resources they had at their disposal, but did at least draw some out of Flash Wolves first.
And you always got to rely on Eat Up to clean up. At the end of the day, he gets the exact same stick onto Zonda that kills Sinkler with a 1-2 punch that he got on Ilios that kills and saves the day for Blake. But he's going to need more. Last time that won Ilios for them. This time though, they need a lot more of those moments if they want to secure Dorado, because the card only needs a little bit more time, a little bit more distance, and Flash Wolves can take this.
This isn't the best defensive position though. There's a better one later on down the line. So if Blank can bleed more time here and then retreat to the other one safely, they can run down this clock, and that seems to be the game plan here. Catching Bacon Jack really played into that as well, as they look to go a little aggressive. Need to not go too aggressive, and yes, they are playing a little bit more restrained now. I'm a liar. Trill is dead.
Well, Blank, they need to hold on with whatever ultimates they have. They can either fall back and try and regroup, or they got to ult, and they're not doing either. Choose one, Blank. You have one or two options. A choice has to be made.
Druid cards. Choose one. And now Bacon Jack has the aggressive positioning along with K-Momo. Look, Transcendence from Gunba just to get into position. That is terrible to open up this fight. And now Blank are going to be struggling to get into this one. Eat you up, barely staying alive. No pulse bomb for him. Atar getting pressured out. Gunba is dead. Sound Barrier doesn't save him. The DPS is struggling to stay alive as Zhongy goes aggressive. That's the 1-2 punch. Who's even on the payload as Bacon Jack is running their members on the side? Blank.
Team kill.
What is going on with you all of a sudden? This is not the Blank that started the night.
And 2-2 will now be the score line. And Flash Wolves, they felt injured, they felt a little bit wounded, and they're saying, look, actually, we're still the stronger team here. We took day 1, 4-0. Zonda's even signaling the rest of his teammates, you know, let's move along, guys. Let's get this done a little bit quicker. You see that Gumba guy? Get him.
But we're completely right. Like, we were even just saying, don't go too aggressive, and then the exact same thing that has happened way too many times for Blank happened. They went too aggressive, they botched the retreat, Trill went down, and it's all over from there. You just can't safely retreat without that Winston there. Who's going to do it? D.Va? D.Va's trying to turn tail and fly out.
It's a really 50-50, not in that particular case, but in terms of the playstyle, because half the time it's like too aggressive, should be playing a little bit more patiently. Half the time is way too patient, far too slow. They're doing it all at the wrong times. When they're too patient, that's when they actually need to be more aggressive. When they're too aggressive, that's when they've got to play a little bit more patient. They're not just reading the game correctly in a lot of moments. And a lot of moments they actually are reading the game correctly, but the times they're not reading correctly have costed them a lot. Have costed them fights, which then goes on to progress in terms of objective, and Flash Wolves absolutely run with that. You give Flash Wolves an inch, they take a mile off Blank, and so far, it's just Flash Wolves running away with the game.
And if we go back to this idea of, you know, Blank kind of live and die by their own calls, their own plays, their own mistakes. Earlier they were making more good plays than bad. You know, they were living instead of dying. And on Dorado, it didn't just flip the other way, like by a tight margin. It wasn't, you know, 60-40 in the other direction. It was like majority bad. Overwhelming majority bad, in fact, and the exact same mistakes as yesterday. I know I keep coming back to that, but something about that really irks me, because they had 24 hours to go away and address exactly these things. And the thing is, they did. They did address those things, and we saw evidence of that on Ilios. We even saw evidence of that on King's Row, even though they lost it. Definitely saw evidence of it on Volskaya. For Dorado to basically be a repeat of yesterday, if not a worse showing, I'm baffled as to how Blank can seem so inconsistent in the grand finals.
And actually, the most concerning thing here is losing Dorado, what that means for later on in the series tonight. Blank's hopes of actually winning this, not even just winning the grand final, but actually surviving this evening to make it to tomorrow, suddenly look a lot worse. the impact of losing the Dorado is actually huge because we're going to get to Escort right at the end of the night if Blank want to win it, or if Blank are going to do this. I think Blank have to go all the way to map 7.
Yeah.
If they don't want to go to map 7, they're going to win the next 2 maps in a row. That's a big ask. If we do go to map 7, guess what? Their best Escort is now off the map.
Exactly.
What are you going to choose now? They're going to go to Gibraltar. That's their next best map. Let's actually take a look at what happened on Dorado, trying to make sense of the situation.
Trying to make sense of the utter failure, as it were. Here is the initial push out of Blank themselves, actually, and to be honest, this did all go quite well. We were seeing them use defensive ultimates on their terms, and by the way, if you're ever wondering whether Blank are going to go off or misfire, it's actually quite a good litmus test. If Gunba is forced to ult rather than opting to ult, you can tell roughly where the fighter's going to go, and because of that, they were able to safely go aggressive. That is the key difference, and we saw how that executed there. It wasn't a particular individual member getting a huge rack of kills. It was the combined arms, you know. It was this 3-pronged front that Blank were pulling off there, and that is why they suddenly seem to just fire on all cylinders.
And I actually quite like Atar's point of view there that we saw in the bottom left corner, because he got the early pressure onto Zonda while Zonda was mid-tac visor. He didn't overcommit and die to the tac visor. He just said to Zonda, I'm here. By the way, I'm not going to let you get away with this for long. Just know that I'm around the corner. And as soon as Zonda was sort of distracted for a moment, because he can't really look at Atar, he has to be concerned that he actually has to get the kills everywhere else. Atar found his moment, dashed right through Zonda, collects a kill, and the rest of Blank just completely collapsed, pick up everything else. And that was kind of it. And Blank, actually what happened after the replay, maybe we'll see in the next one, maybe we won't, but actually Blank go on with a lot of momentum. They secure a lot of high ground. They actually get a lot done in that initial streets phase section. So that's something Blank do consistently. When they win the first cap, they also get the first half of the streets done very quickly and aggressively and convincingly.
Yeah, to be frank, Flash Wolves were able to actually do the same in response though. But you're right about Blank's consistency in that. Now we'll see further on in the same attack here. This was Blank close to the final fight of them getting stopped up, and this is what I say, this same play, look, Flash Wolves have so much cover to work with here.
Flash Wolves got 4 ults to use, and this is the concerning thing because Blank used just about everything here. Trill's stuck. He's pretty much, I don't know if he's going to live out of this because he's discorded as well. And Flash Wolves have still not ulted. They have so much to use. I actually think it's a mistake for Flash Wolves to save for so long because they lose K-Moment when they could have saved him.
So by the way, this is everyone failing to kill Zonda here for this moment as well. And like I said, Atar, you can even see he's still alive. He Dragon Bladed to kill K-Momo, who is demech'd, and then was on the low ground, had to go for like 3 really awkward jumps to get back on the high ground, used up most of his ult, tried to go for Realman. Tried to go for Realman to just, who retreated, then had to turn around for Zonda. And then by the time they killed Zonda, suddenly Bacon Jack is free reign anyway. It was just, the opposite, misfiring on all fronts.
And this is another example of Blank not playing the final moments of that as well. We're not recognizing the fight's actually over. You see Kiki fly to the card. What's he doing? He has the option to just fly off the cliff and just take the dive. He has the option to actually try and fly back to spawn on the high ground anyway. He has a lot of escape options. He can reset his life or just escape with his life. He chose to dive for the card, lose his mech, and then he has to run to suicide anyway while feeding ultimate charge, while wasting a bunch of time. And it's just everything compounds together. And I think what you're saying about the Zonda thing is pretty on point as well, because it did take a long time for Blank to sort of react to Zonda. By then, the guy picked up 3 kills, and actually, Flash Wolves won that fight while not playing it optimally, because like I said, they actually could have saved K-Moment. They had defensive ultimates that were available. They didn't have to let K-Moment die, but the fact that they had 4 ultimates waiting to be used, while Blank had used everything and not picked up kills, was the concerning thing, was the first sign to me that Blank were probably not going to come out on top of that fight.
And the other thing as well, by the time Kiki had committed, right, it was far too late. But it wasn't just that it was the right thing to do and try and contest that soldier, but it was too late. It was the wrong thing to do even in that moment, even by the time Kiki started that move. And it was far too late. It was far too late the moment Atar wasn't able to get onto Zonda. It was far too late the moment Trill missed his jump onto Zonda. Kiki going in there after that, again, it just boggles the mind, and you wonder what's going wrong there for Blank, because it does just seem like they miss these calls.
Some of the more micro things that are happening, let's take a look at the next replay now as well, and this is now going to be, I believe, Flash Wolves on their attack, so their initial one coming on through. And this is a good blocker. You actually see, this is the moment where I said, Atar coming back in with the nano boost, finds Zhongi right in his face, completely nullifies everything he gets there. Meanwhile, the rest of Flash Wolves are cleaning up the ground. As soon as AVRL comes back in, Zhongi recognizes it, jumps straight back onto AVRL. And by the way, just before this replay started, Gumbo started this fight with a very early Transcendence, which I believe could have been held for a little bit later.
And I even touched on that in the first one, you know, that's a litmus test of how well it's going to go. If they do it on their terms at a good time, they tend to win. If it's forced out, they tend to struggle a little bit. Sometimes they do still turn it around because, you know, that's a window to convert kills, and sometimes they do that. But the thing with that fight there is what they were banking on was AVRL getting set up and getting a huge tactical visor. By using that Transcendence early, they lost one of the major tools to keep him alive for long enough to stay set up. He wasn't really able to get set up and then was contested from that point onward, had no defensive ultimate there. Basically, their entire game plan wasn't set up for properly because it revolved around AVRL and then everyone kind of forgot to help him.
Yeah, he didn't really get peeled there, and this has been a problem coming from yesterday. He's actually had a much better time of it today because unlike yesterday, Zhongi went rampant. Today, Zhongi's been punished a lot more. Unfortunately, not enough for Blank to get a win here. We're going to go into the next replay very soon as it sort of comes up here. But you're right, it is the final moments.
And by the way, look at the time difference there as well before we get into the fight. In fact, we may not quite be able to get that one, but the time difference there was about 2.5 minutes. The reason I touch on that is Blank had that cart at the point it was at there for a huge amount of time and spent all that time failing to push it through. Flash Wolves just did it straight away on one push. So here is the fight itself.
So here we go, the sound barrier coming out pretty at a decent amount of time for Realman, already picking up the kill onto Gumba. So losing AVRL there was also a really big deal, losing the tactical visor, and it just starts to all fall apart for Blank very quickly. And it actually looks like Blank never got a good fighter because a good fight would have looked like we're going to ult, Flash Wolves are also going to ult. It's going to be a really big slogged out brawl fest and someone's going to come out ahead. But actually it was just Blank failing to pull the trigger and they get shot in the face.
And the context of that as well was just before that fight was a held defense and the opportunity to stabilize and then Blank over-aggressing. And this happens every single time. They seem to be about to stabilize as well as they over-aggress and bungle their retreat. And again, you know, by this point, you should have made that mistake enough times to recognize that it is a mistake to go for that play in the first place and risk having a botched retreat, given that you so consistently botch your retreats. Trill dying constantly is terrible for them. And then they started kind of retreating. Luckily, this time they didn't lose as many members as they normally do, but it's still a botched retreat because you A, lost Trill, and B, had to go back so far. Flash Wolves with just K-Momo were able to keep the whole remainder of Blank stuck in this one room. They weren't able to play for the payload and suddenly had to barrel for it or just lose the fight. By that point, you have no ground set up, you have no advantage, which you should have as the defender in that position, and you've effectively lost the game from your own over-aggressive play.
And Blank got a lot to work on for sure, and 4 maps already down the drain. 2 have gone to Blank, which has been good. And the 2 that have...
Better than yesterday.
The two that they picked, so the trend so far has been whoever gets to pick the map has had the leg up and has come out on top, and now that trend may get broken if Flash Wolves take the next map, and the next map is going to be hybrid instead, and we're going to get to that very, very soon. Blank, 2-2 so far as the scoreline into the grand final. When we come back, map number 5, we'll see you after the break. And welcome back to the Overwatch Pacific Championship. We're heading into the grand final, map number 5 coming up pretty soon. But first, Dangerous Man versus Tracer.
Dangerous Man versus Fast Girl.
Stop it, I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, I'm trying to be edgy. Like, stop it, Mum, you're embarrassing me. That's honestly what that feels like. I can fully see that as well. Like some kid goes to a convention, like wants to cosplay as his favorite character, Reaper, and then Mum turns up as Tracer, like, haha, cheers, love, cavalry came. Like, and you're like, Mum, it's not even the right quote, Mum.
What's actually interesting is well, we'll talk about it in a second because we have the next map come up now. Numbani has been the pick out, and that comes from the Blank side of things because they are the home team now. Numbani has traditionally been their best hybrid map, and before we get into that topic, I actually want to bring up something interesting. If you haven't realized yet, these are both of the National World Cup teams that are representing the country. So Blank are representing Australia as their World Cup team, and Taiwan is being represented by Flash Wolves, or rather Chinese Taipei, in the World Cup. So
it's actually
it's a preview. It's a nice little you know.
If they do meet, unfortunately they're not in the same group. That would be so poetic here, but certainly if they do meet in the World Cup, you wonder how that one's going to go. This certainly feels a little bit indicative, and I'll tell you, if you're blank, you'd rather it goes the way day 2 is currently going compared to day 1. They're not winning, they're not necessarily losing either, but they certainly haven't lost yet, whereas by this point yesterday they had, and they can't lose just yet on this map. You know, Flash Wolves only have 2 wins. It won't just all be over. We're definitely going to 6. We may still go to 7.
And actually going to 6 is really good because that's control. We're back in sort of blank territory where they feel quite comfortable control. Certainly it doesn't take anything away from Flash Wolves because they're also a good control team, but certainly it makes it better for blank to be on a more favored game mode. And if it was a best of 5, this would be really intense right now because we're about to go to map number 5, the final map. But actually we're guaranteed, like you said, a map number 6, and we may even go to map number 7. To avoid map 7, blank got to win the next 2. And if blank can win the next 2, I think, well, obviously they will have won today, but I think that's their best chance of winning. If we go to map 7, I'm concerned because blank's best escort is off the table and they've already lost it.
Yeah. One of the things, though, that could work in their favor is, and look, this isn't necessarily indicative of anything, but it just so happens to be that whoever has had the map pick has then won. That would suggest, look, if the pattern continues, that blank do win, just because they had that home side start, but you don't want to bank on that. And also, I'll be honest, if they then... No matter what happens, if they lose this current map pick of theirs for hybrid, for Numbani, it's actually quite dire for them because then they go to control. It is a game mode that favors them, but your back is up against the wall by that point. You have to win on Flash Wolves' pick, and then you still have to get a good run on that escort on that 7th map.
And actually, control is also dangerous as well as much as blank are comfortable in control, their best map is off the table as well. So their best map for both control and escort being Ilios and of course Dorado, they don't have those options. So you're on your last legs, you've only got 2 maps left to go, and you can't play your best maps, and that's not a position you want to be in if you're blank.
Certainly not. Numbani is interesting here. I won't call it a roll of the dice, but certainly both teams have had good performances here, and the head-to-head is 1-for-1 between both of these teams. Last time they met here, of course, it was Flash Wolves' win, as the most recent result was Flash Wolves' win was in the very first round robin. That may as well be ancient history.
The first round robin, I believe Flash Wolves won the assault, but lost the other 3 maps. It was a 3-1 victory to blank, and that was actually when blank won Numbani specifically, I believe, and that was when we used to see the Arista attack come out from Flash Wolves that will never be seen ever again.
I don't know if they. I don't think they did it against blank
the end of the game
explicitly, but
they did.
Oh, you actually
specifically?
Wow!
And it utterly failed. So never again.
And that's why Flash Wolves would like for it to be ancient history. They want this to be forgotten about.
Exactly. They want to set the standard for Numbani now. And actually, they're going to do that with a pharmacy, which is something they haven't played for a very long time. And actually, they conditioned blank into believing Tracer Soldier is all they're going to do. So I kind of think blank are going to expect that. At the same time, AVRL is on the Soldier, so they are somewhat set up for this pharmacy.
Yeah, they're not running a Tourbillon, which is interesting because often they can spot out the Pharah, but I mean, hey, they know about it now anyway. Let's see how they execute on this one. Good displacement. Yeah, AVRL off that high ground. And that was a good grenade out of Gunba, but they can't follow up on it. There we go, finally catching Jongi there, as Bacon Jack is kind of all over this point, but he needs to be careful how he plays it, and blank are going to start forcing them back a little bit. Need to actually respond to this pharmacy itself.
Oh, here's the man fight.
So that is the man fight indeed. Eat you up in trouble. Retreats to the Lucio, but the Lucio's speed boosting.
The 1v1 is also very interesting because some of the times, actually most of the times, both Tracers just say, you know what, we're just going to blink out of this situation. It's like a man fight right until the end, and then neither one wants to swing the last punch.
Okay, so AVRL was able to get back up on that high ground, but conked off it again, and this time Gunba has been lost. And they aren't really getting any damage down onto anyone in particular. Sinclair has a res as well. This is now very tough for blank. They're just getting zoned further and further back. Not at all answering the Sparrow. It's like they forgot how to play against it, man. And this is going to be Flash Wolves setting themselves up on this first point.
And the way they would like to answer the Sparrow is use AVRL. Unfortunately, Jongi is so good at pressuring out AVRL. He doesn't ever get the opportunity. He doesn't have the high ground. He gets conked off. Now it's going to be the token stall out from Trill as well. Blank is going to try and hold on to this one as they wait for the respawners.
It's actually a 1-for-1. The res comes out though to keep Zonda in this one, but yeah, 1 for none now. And blank, they kind of want to keep going on this, but honestly, it's just not working. Trill catching Sinkler was decent, but again, they're not able to get anyone in position. AVRL goes down because again, you're right, Jongi is good on the aggressive dive there, and Edu have just straight up lost the 1v1 to Bacon Jack that time around. They at least bled a little bit more time out that time, but their cap is still going to go through the Flash Wolves.
The worst part is Flash Wolves are now going to walk on through with a lot of ultimates. In fact, they actually reset too, so that's a little bit of a breath of fresh air for blank because Zonda and Sinclair would have also had ultimates, but they've reset to different heroes. Flash Wolves lose a little bit of momentum there, so I don't believe Flash Wolves are going to make an aggressive play. They're going to make a more calculated slow push.
Well, Bacon Jack is still going to try and demix someone. He has been spotted out though. Good catch by Kiki there, but they need to be careful. They need to be protecting ATAR a lot more if they're really going to be relying on him. And unfortunately, Edu can't really help respond to the dive because he's having to spend all his time dealing with Bacon Jack.
Yeah, he is, certainly, and has a pulse bomb of his own. Bacon Jack already threw one that really didn't get anything done, and now the recall is actually gone, so for both tracers actually, and they're both back off again.
ATAR is on the low ground here, so he can be contested. He's going to have to just go man mode here, but he needs to be careful with how he does it. He's trying to chase out Bacon Jack, but that's a wild goose chase, and now they've just found nothing at all. He didn't want to commit into the Diva, and that was a really over-aggressive call by Blank, being absolutely routed here.
And I actually think, you know, from ATAR's perspective, I wouldn't have gone for the Tech Visor. He got the Nano Boost on him. Make note, just because you got the Nano Boost doesn't mean you had to Tech Visor there. There was nothing for him to really target. He tried to go onto Bacon Jack. That's a mistake because Bacon Jack still had a recall on. And very optimistic and slightly naive from Blank. It cost them an entire cap. They don't even respawn and regroup in time to be able to contest it whatsoever.
This is looking very, very rough for Blank. Again, it is their living and dying by their own calls, and it was dying by that last call. Now they have to find somewhere to dig in their heels on this third point, and losing Trill is not how you start that.
Definitely not. This is certainly looking like Dorado, where losing Trill early has costed Blank a lot. The good news for Blank is they've already got their backs against the wall quite literally in their last cap, so they're going to have to be able to, they've got enough time to wait for this respawn, but while they're doing that, the car continues moving, and while it moves, you know, more and more time just slips away for Blank.
Yeah, and it gives more and more space to Flashwolves as well, who can set up all kinds of funky flanks on this last point. Gunba caught well deep. Trill again dying. At least they get the trade back onto Jongi. And with this sound barrier, they may be able to keep themselves alive in this one. But losing Kiki's mech and now Gunba as well, they've got no tanks to keep the DPS alive. The DPS can't deal with Flashwolves' DPS. How many times have we seen Bacon Jack just go uncontested today? Trill has to stall you right there because this is so close. The cap Flashwolves are on the cusp of just steamrolling Blank here. Now Blank, not only do they have to stall, they actually have to convert kills as well because they can't just give this one up and run more clock down. They need to actually try and win it somehow. They are dealing with Jongi on the side for a little bit, but all it's doing is wasting time of their own. And the cap goes through for Flashwolves. Blank look like they may have burned too bright, too hot, too fast.
Just like the brightest star, I think that's a really good, apt way to describe Blank's kind of entire journey. Actually, you know, the fact that's when you really look at that as a metaphor, they had their best performances so early on in the competition of the OPC. So, brightest star burning the quickest. It's pretty accurate.
And we had that slump, of course, through those 2 round robins in the middle there. They kind of turned it back around towards the end, but I mean, sometimes that's just digging deep and burning off that last bit of fuel. And we thought that maybe they were a bit of a slow burn team, given that, you know, yesterday looked closer and closer and closer, and then they came out swinging today. But now with the rest of the course of today, these last 2 maps, the entirety of Dorado, and now that defense on Numbani, they're not even looking as good as they did earlier today. They're looking about they did at the start of yesterday, and you wonder if this team is now just out of gas.
Well, it's certainly something to consider because after this, Blank have essentially 2 more maps to try and bring it back. In fact, they're not even going to get that if they can't get the control. And instead, Flashwolves are going to do the defense we more predicted to come out, which is more Torbjorn based. I want to kind of say that Blank had a decent one in the first cap defense, despite the fact that they got taken out quite early, but it comes down to the fact that the same sort of things keep happening, which is ATAR getting pressured out by Jongi, and unfortunately for Blank, he was their only option for actually pressuring down Zonda. And Flashwolves are taking the high ground control so quickly and effectively off of Blank that they can't do anything against it.
And now also, as much as Eat You Up and Bacon Jack come off even, it is Eat You Up playing to Bacon Jack's tempo because he's constantly having to deal with him lest he run rampant. It means Eat You Up isn't able to run rampant either, and it means the rest of Flashwolves can just kind of deal with the rest of Blank. Blank, though, on the attack here are doing decently to start with. They haven't got any kills, but they're in a decent enough position that they can just keep recommitting as they see fit. Good deflect, catches Zonda with his own Helix rocket, and this is their opportunity to go big now because they've dislodged the core of this defense, now looking to get aggressive onto the tanks. Jongi goes down, and this is looking very good for them now as ATAR are able to get back out. They're going to be able to get themselves onto this point. Good EMP to shut down the turret. They don't even need to get more kills off this, but they may just want to anyway. Trying to at least pop K-Momo's mech. Need to give respect to Zonda's respawn here and just go for the cap and wait for Flashwolves to come in and contest, or maybe just get the cap through straight away. Good work by Blank.
That was misplay by Flashwolves because Flashwolves wanted to go for the contest. You could see K-Momo positioning for it. You could see K-Momo wanting to die for it. He got in so late, and actually Blank get the good punisher to clean up a few more extra members of Flashwolves, and that's going to prevent Flashwolves from getting an early setup on the second cap. This is now Flashwolves on the back foot and Blank doing what they always do on the streets. They get a nice good cap on the first one, and then they pressure on through, snowball through the streets. The entire first half should just be easy.
They do need to get a great time and take this one to time bank. Because Flashwolves had it in just over 3.5 minutes. Gunba looking to go deep here. Oh,
Yep, too deep.
forgot to translocate back.
Well, he didn't forget it. He just didn't quite pull the trigger fast enough on that. He wanted to try and bleed out as much time as possible and just didn't respect the damage output from Flashwolves. The good news is for Blank, this doesn't really mean too much. They're still going to wait. They're just waiting for Gumba. They were going to wait for the EMP anyway. This now sets up that EMP play. They've still got a massive ultimate advantage. Flashwolves, make no mistake, are still behind here.
That they are. They do at least buy themselves a good bit of time. Oh, Sleep goes wide. That's a little unfortunate. Zonda's not really getting much with this, but he will at least take out ATAR. They found Jongi, which is good, and now Zonda's forced into an awkward spot because of the self-destruct. They catch Kiki in the pilot form, and Blank, they either need to commit more or back out. They can't really go halfway, and the more has been committed, but they still need to get these kills through because honestly, the tanks are largely uncontested. The payload isn't really moving a whole lot, and Trill isn't really doing much up here anyway. Their DPS is just not getting in on this one.
The EMP did come out in the middle of that, and unfortunately for Blank, not enough got done. Let's take a look. It's still a little bit of a stock take here. Let's look at the inventory.
Oh,
6 ultimates were used by Blank. 3 ultimates were used by Flashwolves, and they're not quite done yet.
And how was Bacon Jack allowed to just stand there? He wasn't even blinking or moving. He got a ton of damage onto Trill, who had to retreat. The rest of the team didn't have that tank. Trill didn't exactly back up the healers, and still no one dealt with Bacon Jack.
I mean, Bacon Jack's a hard one to catch, and certainly Edup's been the one to try and deal with Bacon Jack so far. Both the Tracers have been going mostly toe-to-toe, but Blank is so far behind. EMP's the only thing they have. EMP's gone 50-50 for them so far. Certainly EMP's been much better when Blank have been playing on the defense. On the offense, a little bit harder. In fact, I'm going to say considerably harder to get good value out of.
Same dive, EMP committed as well. They need to convert onto Zonda, and this time they're going to make it work. Now they're really getting what they were after there. Bacon Jack going wide on the ultimate. Natar is in trouble, but it doesn't really matter if he goes down here because Jongi is deep. He used his ult too, so he's going to feed a ton of charge over. And Natar got his ult anyway. This is actually their opportunity to now cap and maybe snowball through to the end, and they need to do that if they want to have a comparable time to Flashwolves.
I think Blank played that last situation well. While I mentioned that it was going to be difficult for them to get good value there, they actually found extremely good value. The EMP caught a lot of members. ATAR was positioned well as well, so well coordinated, well executed. Blank get the cap on through as a reward for that good play, and now they're going to be able to push a little bit further. Will they wait for another EMP? They're actually set up with a decent number of ultimates. They could actually play for the setup, or the stick could
that's
get
a good pulse
maybe.
bomb. Oh, doesn't quite catch Zonda, but now the ult is in behind him. It gets Sinclair, sorry, and that's one of the few ultimates they had available as Zonda goes down in that as well. One of the other ones they had, they used a lot of their ults for that, so they don't have much for this last bit, but they will get the EMP up in a moment. The payload will start to approach the cap.
I think this EMP is make or break because Flashwolves purposely saved ultimates. They purposely took the deaths on the chin and said, we're just going to come back ultimate advantage. EMP could stop all that. One more
Trill has the ult. Oh, Edu up on top of this 1v1 this time around, and Trill had the ult. Jongi had no such option. K-Momo goes down. This Visor, he goes down. The EMP was indeed committed, and Sinclair nano boosting no one there. That was a boostio, and he couldn't commit himself. It was indeed a comparable time, and I believe 19 seconds separate these two teams now. That was a bit of a return to form.
I do actually like the way Blank handled that attack. I feel like defense was definitely on them, making more mistakes defensively to allow Flashwolves a lot of room to breathe there. On the attack, however, it has been now Blank again, making the better plays, having the better setups, having the better engages, and just overall, the planning execution was in their favor, and they managed to get it over the line in a decent amount of time, certainly comparable to Flashwolves like you mentioned.
Well, now with that slightly less time, Blank do actually attack first, and in this situation, that may just favor them because it means they set the precedent. They set the bar, and Flashwolves has to meet it. And they can also address what maybe went wrong in that defense there the first time around. They've got plenty of time to do that. So the ball is kind of in Blank's end of the court. They were kind of able to steal it back there after what was a very rough first defense.
And I think for Blank, they were able to find a couple of good early pickouts from a lot of these early fights. In the final fight, it was Edup finding the first pick, and it's just sort of moving that momentum on through. The EMP caught a lot of members, prevented Zonda from coming off the tank visor. Those are the kind of plays that really give Blank the upper hand. And on the first cap as well, Blank got an early pick out, sort of snowballed that advantage on through and got a really good position. So that's where Blank have gotten a lot of their victories so far.
Going to be opening out once again with this Genji. Let's see how they execute this time around. Last time their first attack did go fairly decently.
And actually, Realman playing the Sombra here is extremely good. He's predicting that Gumba's going to play it also, and he's going to have pre-health packs, which is going to prevent Gumba from getting any area control in terms of health pack control.
At least to start with, but Blank are going to go ahead and take what they can. They've spotted out that there is a health pack available here, so they're going to hack it. That means that Flash Wolves know this is now in Blank's control. They know that they didn't hack that one. And they saw where they just ran to eat you up. Ooh, not quite able to get past the Winston there. The Winston not really able to get in either.
You know, definitely testing the waters a little bit, but what it does do is eating a little bit of damage, then going back to the health pack will allow them to charge, and now it's going time for Blank.
Oh, unfortunately, Eat You Up falls short of the mark, but he is going to be able to get back out of this one. And so far, Gunba is doing a bit more work. Zonda forced way back. Trill, good follow-up on that one as they round out Singler too. They get the return kills. Oh dear, catching Gunba as well as Big, and Bacon Jack scrapes out with his life. Now Eat You Up in trouble. Oh, barely coming out the better of that one. Flash Wolves are kind of holding on, but Blank are actually on the point. What can save Flash Wolves here is the fact that they have the closer respawns. But Blank are going to be barreling back in on this one anyway. If Jongi goes down here, we just have to give it up. They keep having to retreat to this health pack, but every time they do that, they give up a ton of space. 2/3 through now for Blank. They might just want to back off this time around because Flash Wolves is going to be able to recommit with this EMP. Oh, and they get the kills through now with that pulse bomb, even as Realman goes down. And they should be able to hold on.
And Blank, they really want to get this, and Blank, unfortunately, they get a little bit greedy there. They had the victory in their sights, and kind of rightfully so because it was so close to capping on out. Very well played by Realman and Jongi together. You could see the sort of duo combo there. Jongi was holding onto the camp while people respawning. Then he just jumps out. Beautiful movement onto the health pack. While he was doing that, Realman kept the contest on the cap instead, and eventually Flash Wolves just get the full reinforcements onto the cap.
This time though, Blank will have the EMP, and actually they're able to get some good health pack control of their own. So now they're looking to go aggressive themselves with no hesitation on this one as well. Really want to push the go, but an early EMP from Gunba. He may pay for it with his life, and Zonda's opened out with this ultimate anyway, which means Blank actually have to wait. They can't execute on the EMP, but they do have an opportunity for themselves. They need to be careful not to get surrounded, and they are banking on Atar's ultimate.
And there is a 6v5 here because Gumba's still trying to make it back to the cap.
Oh, Edup's down.
Yep, and
That's
now it's
really
still a 6v5 because Gumba's here, but Edup is not.
They have the ultimates though, so it's not an unfavorable 6v5, but they need to convert a kill to start it off, and they're not finding that because now Flash Wolves have been able to regain the health pack control while Blank have been stuck in this room, and if Blank aren't careful, they're going to be fighting into an EMP of Flash Wolves.
And it's difficult because the team is disconnected. Edom has to try and find his way back onto Blank. Blank has to find their way back onto Edom, and Gumba goes down, so another 6v5. If
Edom nearly went down as well. Oh no!
Yep.
Where is the rest of his team while he's busy doing that? They're not willing to commit. They're so chicken in this room, and they're just waiting and waiting and waiting, never pressing the go button, and now pressing the go button could be worse than before because they're so much more even on ultimates. They have to commit just about now, really.
And Flash was happy to wait because the time is burning out, and here we go. Blank
At
finally
last.
get in there.
Atar, what is he going to find? He tries to deflect the sleep, but he does not. Oh, he's woken back up, but he's spending all his time killing Sinkler. Now going to rejoin the fray, but the EMP is out from Realman. The team gets routed and wiped, and Blank won't get a cap through at all. They used all their ultimates at the wrong times, in the wrong ways, bungled every opportunity to fight there. It was all in their end of the court, and again, botched.
Living and dying by their own hand. It was all Blank. Unfortunately, have to say that it just is Blank's play towards the end there. Losing Gumba. Okay, you have a couple of options here. You can try and take the 5v6. They opted not to. I kind of agree with that. You don't want to take a 5v6.
It's risky.
But you're also still stuck in the corridor here. So there's no. Maybe you look for an option for escape. Maybe you'll just jump off the cliff. That's an option. You can do that. You can do that with minimal losses, in terms of ult charge, and regroup with Gumba and come back. Because they didn't do that, they stayed. They said, okay, cool. Gumba can just come back. We'll regroup with them. Edup dies.
And here's the thing. If they were waiting for Gunba, why was Edup going aggressive? If the rest of the team, if 4 members were stuck in this room waiting for the team to come back so that they could commit for that fight? Why was Eat-Up going aggressive? Why was that happening? If he was going aggressive, why wasn't the whole team going aggressive? It just looked like they weren't on the same page, to be honest.
I'm going to look at the other side of the coin as well, because Flash Wolves played that situation perfectly. You kind of wonder why Flash Wolves didn't go for the collapse there. They could have said, we're just going to go in 6v5, and that's an advantage for us. They chose not to, because the reason for that, you probably have read Blanco hit an ultimate, so maybe you're behind an ultimate, so you don't want to take the risk. Secondly to that, you know Blank have to regroup with their 6th member. You know that you can just sit outside, bleed down the timer. Blank are wasting their own time here. The longer that Blank are trying to wait for the respawners, the more time is gone, and you just kill the respawner instead, and force Blank into this perpetual situation where they can never attack you because they're always waiting.
And now we see Flash Wolves pulling out the exact same thing. ATAR not actually on the hit scan this time around. They are going to opt into the Sombra though. So let's see how this one goes, because it is a bit of a different setup for Blank.
It is. High ground already gone. Well, in fact, you wouldn't have really taken it because ATAR isn't on Soldier. I think Gumba may have been expecting a Sombra out of Flash Wolves, but they're woefully underprepared against.
Yeah, Blanket completely surrounded now, and Trill in a lot of trouble here. He's not even really got a core team to retreat to. He's just trying to run away from Bacon Jack, and that's never going to work out for you. At least ATAR gets the response kill, but Zonda is uncontested in the air now. Good catch on Sinclair, might just save it. Oh, but Zonda gets a double, and now Flash Wolves are going to sit themselves on this point. Blanket short of respawns. The popping came on his mech maybe, but nope, Bacon Jack goes off. Blanket getting absolutely beaten back, and now they're actually going to be trickling onto this. It is a long way to go until it's capped for Flash Wolves, and they are still contesting, but they don't have any kind of numerical force here, Blank.
And they need to wait because the kills were actually quite staggered. That's a really good start for ATAR. In fact, that's something I would press the trigger right now.
They gotta go.
Blank just gotta do this.
There it is. They're onto it now. Trill able to touch the points. He's gonna go down for it though, and Zonda is still uncontested. They've swapped ATAR onto the right person, but they haven't got him in the right position, and now Flash Wolves themselves have regrouped. It's still an uphill battle for Blank. They're just misreading everything about this. The positions, the picks, the everything. They have barely swung back, but the res is there from Sinclair. And now Flash Wolves are on the cusp of capping the rocket barrage to secure it. And Flash Wolves, for the first time, will take the lead in this series.
Yeah, and that's something it's interesting that that's how it ends up. It's like Flash Wolves taking the lead for the first time. You kind of expect the Flash Wolves to have had the lead already, but Blank have had a really great start to this series, and unfortunately, a great start doesn't give you a win at the end of the day. So had this been a best of 5, it would be already over, but we're going to go to at least one more map here. We are going to go to a control, and that's going to be really interesting. Now for Blank, before we even talk about control, they had some good moments here. I'm going to give it to them. They had some great moments, and this initial attack to actually go into time bank at all was Blank's best showing on Numbani. That was their biggest strength. I think Blank took a really big risk with the way they defended. They put ATAR onto Genji. They put Gumba onto Sombra. I think they should have expected Zonda to go for the pharmacy combo again. Because Zonda did go for the pharmacy and they set up for Genji Sombra, they were underprepared to really deal with Zonda. And ATAR knew it. He died. He went onto Soldier. But like you said, too little, too late. And he never got set up.
Because at that point, exactly, you can't set up that Soldier unless you get a whole bunch of kills. But who was going to get those kills? They had to dive for the point just to keep the game alive. That meant Trill was naturally going to lose his life. That means you don't have a tank, shock horror, tanking for you while you're trying to set up your Soldier, or indeed the entirety of your team. And Blank also gave up all the ground to Flash Wolves. It was because they didn't have the right comp to counter out that pharmacy, but you're right, just misread really from start to finish. And again, if we say Blank are living and dying by their own calls there, it was their misreading that caused the dying.
And this is really, we talk about Blank being a good time bank team. This is one of the exceptions to that, where Blank unfortunately did not play the time bank very well. I don't want to say it in the context of they didn't play to the objective well.
They played time bank well when they've actually got the payload moving. That's what I will say.
They didn't play the time bank well in the context of it just happened to be time bank and they played poorly. So I don't want to say it as in they played the objective of the time bank incorrectly. Just the situation they were in, because their attack on time bank was their own blunder. Their defense on time bank, again, was their own blunder, living and dying by their own mistakes and also by their own good plays.
And the thing is, actually, that's quite comfortable for Flash Wolves because they can just play their game. That's all they've got to do. And look, maybe it's a bit callous, but either you're going to win it because Blank are playing well, or you're going to, you're going to lose it because Blank are playing well, or you're going to win it because Blank are making a lot of mistakes. And right now, Blank are making more mistakes than they are making good plays. And like I said, that's comfortable for Flash Wolves. They don't have to do anything. They don't have to change anything. They don't really have to react to too much. Sure, you had to adapt a little bit, but certainly not as much as Blank have to, because they're the ones who've got to fix the mistakes they're making if they want to win.
We're going to get into a few replays now. I'm going to start things off with the initial attack on out from Flash. Was the first time we saw that pharmacy combo come out, and this time around on that first defense, it was a better setup in terms of defense from Blank. They already had the soldier out to play, but immediately Zonda conked him off, and then Jongi picks up the kill. That's very expected of Flash. Jongi always does that. Now it's about Blank waiting for the respawns. They don't try and make anything too aggressive here. This is very reserved. Trill does go in because he is concerned about the fact the time is running out. ATAR eventually does come back, but look at Zonda's positioning on the right. He's uncontested. The self-destruct comes in. I don't know if this picks up anybody. Gets Zonda.
It does get Zonda,
but you know,
the res.
Yeah,
exactly, and
one
that's
for
the
none,
thing.
I think was the call.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? Sure, Trill was able to go in, but once again, it was Trill going in a bit too deep because the rest of the team was kind of cut off. Now, that's not necessarily Trill's bad call. It's the team as a whole not actually playing the situation itself, not playing the fact that Zonda is in your way. Unfortunately, it's this kind of rock and a hard place situation because you can't not send Trill in or you're just going to lose anyway. But sending him in probably means you lose as well because you can't get anyone past Zonda. It's really, really tough. I don't think they made the wrong call, but the thing that went wrong was them ending up in that situation in the first
Let's take a look at the next clip now. This is going to be a little bit later on with Flashwolves pushing on into the streets phase now.
Actually, I believe this is, this may just, yeah, no,
You
this
see
it
the
is
tracer
Flashwolves,
door in the
my
background at the
apologies.
top as well. That happened for a long time.
Yeah, interesting enough. But yeah, so this was interesting, right? Because once again, it's Trill going down early, and we noticed this was when ATAR committed that ultimate. There was no one he could get initially because of where that D.Va was sat. But K-Momo was slept. He had an opening there, but he had gone on this wild goose chase to try and get Bacon Jack. Like, you're never gonna kill a Tracer who has recall if you've already used half your ultimate getting to the Tracer to open shots. Yeah. And if he'd stayed where he was, he could have actually been putting shots into K-Momo.
Yes and no, because I kind of want to kind of speak to the fact that Jongi was in position with the bubble anyway, so K-Momo was kind of protected there. The Matrix, yeah, was offline because of the sleep, but actually because the other tank was already available and set up defensively, there wasn't much for ATAR to go on. And terrain as well. I want to talk about the terrain because actually the cart was in the way for ATAR. He had to get around the cart. He has to position in a way where he can actually, ideally, this sounds stupid, but see through the cart. You can't actually see through the cart, but you know what I mean. He couldn't actually get an angle around the cart. And I actually mentioned, if you get nanoed, you don't actually have to go for the tech visor.
Exactly.
So now we're going to go into the next clip, and this is going to be Cap 1 again, and Flashwolves on the defensive side, Blank on the attack. And actually, all things considered, you'll see later what I'm talking about, but Flashwolves played this far worse than Blank. Both teams played the first Cap defense quite poorly. Zonda dying early was what gave Blank a big advantage.
And that was ATAR's deflect as well. It deflected the Helix rocket there is what went on, and it was close enough that, you know, it counts as a suicide. But in any case,
good EMP
this
here,
was the aggressive play, and we even saw this when the Sombra mirror was happening actually. Gunba is actually pulling more weight than his opponent Sombras, and executed the EMP at the right time. They didn't have the positioning when they went for that play, but by going for that play, Flashwolves had to either abandon or get killed, and they sort of half did both and ended up worse for it.
And I actually think, you know, later on after that clip ended, you actually see Flashwolves go in and K-Momo tried to get the contest, and by the time he did, the cap actually went over. So huge blunder by Flashwolves, and actually a very rare blunder because you don't see too many big costly mistakes out of Flashwolves. Those happen more on the Blank side. We're actually going to go into another replay here. This is going to be in the sort of final stretch with Blank pushing on through.
And this was just the ultimate advantage they had. Kiki getting a pick with the mech was huge.
Watch the EMP, by the way.
All they really needed was the zoning, and indeed, watch the EMP, because that was now what they had to rely on at the end here, and it turned out to be all they needed because they killed Zonda very quickly. That was one of the few ultimates available, and for once, Bacon Jack was having a hard time dealing with Eat You Up. Now you see them go aggressive here. Sound barrier gives them the time to go in, and the EMP is right on top of everyone. They absolutely knock down the tanks. Zonda is now unsafe, and then he goes down here with no opportunity to tack visor because he wasn't even in position to do so.
That was a very well executed attack from Blank, and we kind of mentioned, but Blank's attack through Numbani, their initial attack, was actually very well played from start to finish. Very few mistakes there. Capitalized on the mistakes that Flashwolves made, particularly the massive blunder Flashwolves had at the start, where they fed a lot of members for absolutely no result. They didn't even stall, nothing. The cap went through, and then you lost members. that was easily Flash Wolves' biggest mistake of the night.
Yeah.
And Blank took a big advantage. Even yesterday, the big takeaway and silver lining for Blank was, hey, Blank might have lost, but when Flash Wolves made a mistake, Blank capitalized and they punished well, and that absolutely showed here tonight.
Yeah, there was one moment on their attack where Flash Wolves did stop them up, but again, it was Blank's own blunder that kind of left them in that spot, and then immediately went back and executed properly. So you've got to kind of give them that one.
Yeah.
Certainly, to fix that mistake is actually a good thing. It's not like in these other situations where they've kind of made the same mistakes a few too many times, but unfortunately, it does go the way of Flash Wolves ultimately. And like I said, for the first time now, taking a lead in the series. And that means this is also the first time a team has not won on their own map pick. It is now down to the point
broken the trend.
where, exactly, it's now down to the point where Blank are going to have to win on the next map type control, which will be Flash Wolves' pick, or they're done. The final goes the way of Flash Wolves, and they have to take second.
I'm actually gonna. There's another interesting silver lining for Blank that sort of maybe works in their favor. Is I still believe they played Numbani. If we can ignore the time bank for a moment here, they played the regular part of Numbani far better than Flash Wolves did, in my opinion, for the most part, specifically on the attack. And what that really says about Blank is Numbani wasn't a write-off for them. If you just go into Numbani, you don't think, well, Flash Wolves got this. It was actually a map where Blank easily could have won that. It wasn't the time bank when that really cost them. Had the time bank got a lot better, had they didn't make the crucial mistakes. Let's consider a scenario in an alternate universe where Gumber didn't die on their flank through and they didn't spend like a minute waiting, rotating Gumber and end up dying over and over. Imagine that didn't happen. That might have been a cap through for Blank. We would have seen a very different Numbani result. So a very unfortunate set of events. And again, all Blank's fault for sure. 100% their fault. But they actually had the ability to win that map. And I think that's important to remember.
And I would have the same assessment personally of King's Row earlier in the night as well. So again, if we talk about an alternate universe, there's actually an alternate universe whereby Blank have already won tonight by this point, but they haven't, and it is all down to the wire.
All right, well, we're going to get to the potential final map soon, as Flash Wolves are now onto match point. It is map number 6. Control is coming up next, and we're going to take a short break, so we'll see you on the other side. Thank you for sticking through that break with us as we're about to get into map number 6 of Blank Esports versus Flash Wolves in the grand final of the OPC. And I like to probably, in an alternate universe, or maybe even just further down the line this year, hey, what if this was like the grand finals of the Overwatch World Cup? Team Australia versus Team Taiwan.
Well, it certainly seems at this point Team Australia would be on the cusp of losing, unfortunately. But look, it is not over for them yet. They have the opportunity to turn it around. It is do or die on this next map, but they can win it. They can push it to a Game 7. If they win that, we go to a Day 3, and effectively, they get to wipe the slate clean, and it's just them versus Flash Wolves in a single best of 7. But they have to get themselves to that point.
And the next map has been revealed. Flash Wolves, of course, pick it, and it is going to be Nepal. We've already seen Nepal yesterday. We have actually seen the results of that yesterday as well. Unfortunately, not pretty for Blank.
No, not pretty at all. In fact, about as unpretty as Ilios was earlier today for Flash Wolves.
On the other side,
I nearly said this morning. For Flash Wolves, it was not morning. It was very much late in the evening.
Well,
now it's morning.
And Ilios might be morning.
Yeah. It's morning somewhere. But yeah, that was how Nepal.
If you're just joining us from the USA, good morning.
Good morning, USA. But here's the thing, right? This is where they lost yesterday, and Blank can expect that if they went this far in the series, they could have expected Flash Wolves to pull out the Nepal pick.
Yeah.
So I would like to think that Blank had prepared for this.
I just want to quick note, we saw a few of the Flash Wolves League of Legends players there, so the League of Legends team is here to support them today. So hopefully the Blank League of Legends team can do that as well back home.
The whole squad of squads, actually. It's not just one Flash Wolves squad, it's all of Flash Wolves, all their teams. They
have two teams. Yeah. By the way, Flash Wolves, I don't know if you guys have caught the house tour of Flash Wolves, but in the final scene they had this massive trophy room. I was going to say cabin or rack, but that doesn't give it justice. It was a room of just trophies.
But is it just empty?
No, it's not empty. It is absolutely
very
not.
much
it was chock full. The fact that they got one little podium free, and it's reserved for this OPC Season 1 title cup. Wow. So they're looking to claim that. They're looking to get it, and they're nearly there. This is now match point. And look, Jongi had his birthday yesterday. He got to get really up close and comfortable with that trophy. He wants to take it, and today he might just grab it.
Yeah, he's going to extend his birthday by an extra day. And we'll make it a late birthday gift potentially, but you're absolutely right. They've got that empty space in the trophy cabinet that they are desperate to fill. And for once, I'm not saying that as a metaphor, they really have a space dedicated for this trophy, which would make it a bit disappointing. You can't help but think if they didn't get it, like the accountant will be looking at it like, shouldn't have spent the money on that podium.
And it actually does seem like, it's quite fitting of the metaphor and the storyline of both teams here, because it is Blank as the Australian team, their first time leaving Australia to compete internationally in the biggest Overwatch event of this entire region, and even across the world internationally, this is one of the upper tiers and one of the most prestigious events so far. And for Blank, it's about putting the first trophy up. It's about saying we're a team and this is our first victory to mark ourselves as a team. And for Flash Wolves, a very different story, a brand that has been existent in Taiwan for so long. It's about adding one more to that route.
Yeah, and it's about making a resounding mark on Overwatch as well. You're completely right about those two teams there. And really, Blank have had a dominant run in a lot of tournaments leading up to this. This is the first time it's ever really been under question if they'll be able to win it, and it really looks like they may just have to take a second place. That would be a little bit hurtful for them, but certainly you could walk away pleased as well, knowing that you came into the biggest arena you ever did, and you still got this far. Well, and I'll tell you what, it's not over, because they get into Season 2 as well. They have a chance to try and fight back.
Well, I'm not even writing that off yet, because when you say not over, I'm saying it's not over here right now, because the game is not complete. We've still got Nepal, we've still got potentially another escort to go. The action has started for Blank, do or die.
And Trill's not dead yet. That's a good start. Flash Wolves are going to be the ones who actually have to get onto this point, because Blank took the ground here. Bacon Jack trying to wheel around, and Zonda actually does get the flank, but reacted to by Trill. And they're just kind of holding this one down as Sinclair is caught out in the retreat there. And Blank holding the ground. They're not going to give it up at all. Flash Wolves aren't able to get their feet in the door. In fact, they get their toes slammed. Blank are going to get themselves a cap.
Absolutely. Blank are not walking away from this. They want that first trophy. They want to open up their own trophy room and start with the OPC Season 1 trophy, and they might still just get a good performance here, and then a win on the next map is all they would need to get into day number 3.
I wonder where they'd put it. I think they might have to kick someone out of their room.
Gumba's going to take it home with the
I was going to say Gunba's going to sleep on the couch, and his room is going to become.
No, he's going to sleep with it in his.
He's going to. It's the trophy bed.
It's the trophy.
The trophy mattress.
Waifu. Trophy waifu pillow. Yes.
I like to imagine just in a number of years, with several tournament wins under their belt, you've just got Gunba lying on the bed surrounded by trophies like Scrooge McDuck. That's going to be a good open out though. Wow, Bacon Jack cut down where he stands right as he gets his ultimate. That means K Momo suddenly finds himself up a tree without a ladder, having to retreat back to the rest of his team. Eat You Up is going to be able to stay alive, and again, Flash Wolves aren't really able to get themselves onto this point.
Not quite yet, and Blank are doing a decent job holding onto this. 60% already gone. That's a decent amount of progress, decent advantage over Flash Wolves. Ultimates rather even, as Flash Wolves about to hit 4 themselves, actually about 5, so a big fight is about to happen. It's already started.
Yeah, Deep Pulse Bomb does find RQT, which means no sound barrier, and Flash Wolves go ahead and commit theirs. Forces a lot of ultimates out of Blank, notably out of Trill, who is looking worse for wear because of it. Transcendence out now, and Flash Wolves have a lot of ultimates held on to. They go ahead and commit a self-destruct, and they do commit their own Transcendence, so it's a little bit more even, but Atar found nothing with his tac visor. Zonda, on the other hand, does, and that's going to dictate the fight, as at 86, 87%, possibly over the cusp of 90, but Flash Wolves will get themselves a regrab.
Yeah, I think 90-something plus here will be exceptionally good for Blank. They'll be put in a situation where one good fight will secure this entire game for them. They're not going to have to play the overtime if they play this correctly. Flash Wolves, they know they've got a lot to catch up on here. They know they're at a huge deficit in terms of progress. They have to hold on for so long, and Blank have done a good job economically to not use too many ultimates in a dying fight. They've actually really adapted well.
Yeah, they have the advantage coming into this. Honestly, all Flash Wolves have to go off is Jongi's ultimate, and Bacon Jack will get a Pulse Bomb up in a moment, but this is Blank's room to go, and they do indeed go. K-Momo is forced out. He hasn't got anything available. Sound barrier to keep them alive through this one, as Jongi has committed his ultimate now, and there's nothing really left for Flash Wolves to go off. Pulse Bomb did go wide, but they're all over this point now, and Bacon Jack really has to find something with this, as Kiki zones them out. Eat Up finds Bacon Jack on the retreat. They have no resources left now, as Jongi's getting hard pressured, trying to put the hurt onto Trill, but here's the one taking the hurt. Clutch sound barrier indeed, and it may swing it, but no, the Transcendence is there to keep Blank alive even longer now. Bacon Jack trying to rejoin this fight, but ATAR opening up with this ultimate. Not finding much, but it's something. Zonda once again, though, finding more with his Tac Visor, and Bacon Jack able to rejoin the fight with the Pulse Bomb means Blank are just barely getting repelled here. Eat-Up not going to be able to commit his Pulse Bomb, and even though the members of Flash Wolves are all low, in fact, actually KMO is going to be forced to ult. ATAR's still in this one. He might try and secure it, but they had to deal with Bacon Jack, and no, ATAR will get cut down, and now Blank only have one fight left.
That was a big fight win for Flash. Was 70% already gone, and the time just flies. I mean, that was a huge save on the Jongi. He was just teetering on the brink of death. You see the healing from both the supports, just keeping him in there. Then the sound barrier is so clutch, just kept him alive. And Blank put so much resource, put so much time into focusing Jongi now to not get that kill. I mean, now you're behind if you're playing. You had a good position, now you're suddenly not.
Oh no, sound barrier was committed, but it was too late to save ATAR. They had the ultimate advantage, but they're gonna have to commit for this fight anyway. Zemek and K-Momo is a good start, and now they all nearly catch the, yes they do. Gunva closes it out on his counterpart, and that's good news for Blank. They have used all their ultimates, but they are well ahead in this fight, unless Bacon Jack gets something sick, or oh dear, he may just because Zonda's getting good hurt down. No one's really answered him just yet, nor has anyone answered Bacon Jack. They're trying to get aggressive, but Flash Wolves are answering once again. K-Momo gets back in the mech, and Blank haven't capitalized on any of the space they made. They don't get the regrab through in time, and now they're just getting beaten back. Where were those kills? Where was that extra aggression? The one time they shouldn't have played measured, and Flash Wolves instead will take home that first map there on Nepal.
Yeah, and Shrine on Nepal looks like a metaphor for the entire series today. Blank have a great start, but a great start is not good enough to get the win at the end of the day. Flash Wolves had to fight tooth and nail to get control back of that cap, and they absolutely did. For Blank, that fight that lasted 70% of progress was so devastating for Blank. When Blank go into a fight, that lasts a very long time, and I'm talking about the time that Blank used to set up. They're a very kind of patient setup type of team. They use up a decent amount of time just to get things going. When it does happen, they don't lose quickly, they lose slowly if anything. So by the time we finish up, 70% gone, they only got 2 fights within 100% of progress. That's not enough.
And both of those fights as well, Blank had ultimate advantage going into that. So Flash Wolves won it from behind in both of those situations. It's really rough for Blank, but new dawn, new day, or indeed new map, new point. And we'll see if Blank can maybe put it over the line this time.
And both Traces going to meet each other in that side room, but it is Bacon Jack getting a little bit more aggressive. And Edom having to take the brunt of it, but the patient play might just pay out for him. And meanwhile, the other 5 members of both teams are playing on the side, so...
They are sort of setting themselves up on the point here, but yeah, this is Tracer 1v1. Eat-Up could use some healing, but no one's going to give it to him. He's going to maybe have to go for a health pack. Realman in trouble. They're trying to go for the dive here. This is good, setting themselves up on the point, but Zonda, if he's uncontested, will start to run rampant. So in fact, neither team can quite go for the point. Catching Jongi, though, is the open up that they need now. Blank, how will they use this? Looking to get aggressive here to set themselves up for the point, but they need to not let... never mind, it's happened. I was going to say they need to not let Trill go down on the side, because now Jongi will rejoin this, and unless they get a lot of kills very quickly, they won't actually be able to get up on this point.
Yep, and so far, both teams rather do drop the same member, but it's sort of a similar situation to what we've seen on Control in a different map. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but Eat-Up died quite early, Bacon Jack died later, but because Eat-Up got the respawn earlier on, he was able to rejoin the fight. This is now going to be the same situation where we're going to see Jongi into the fight much earlier than Trill, and that could make the difference.
It absolutely could, and we'll see once again how now Flash Wolves can react to getting that catch onto Trill, and we'll see what happens now moving forward here. We are back into it, Trill going down there. Yeah, back to where we were before. K-Momo is on the cusp of being demech'd here, so this is the one saving grace for Blank, and they need to really make this pay dividends for them. Good catch onto Bacon Jack is exactly what they need to answer back Trill going down. They need to get themselves on the point itself, though, and ATAR getting forced off is going to make it hard for them to do that as RQT is out. They finally catch out Zonda, but oh dear, bump off for Kiki on the cusp with K-Momo losing his mech as well, and now ATAR is really just stuck here as the kills come up. Flash Wolves, Gunba ulting a bit too late here. Sigler committed his one as well, and they're really in for a penny, in for a pound, but Blank just don't have the same weight. You measure them up pound for pound, and it results in a Flash win. Flash win? Flash win! Flash Wolves win.
Flash win.
A Flash Wolves fight win.
Yeah, so it is going to be Blank now, going to go for that reset. The good news here is Flash Wolves don't walk away with a lot of progress like they did on Shrine. 70% has not elapsed yet for Blank, so in terms of that, there's a lot of time for Blank to work with. Having said that, a lot of time doesn't mean you should take your time, and Blank got to make things happen a lot quicker.
even enough in ultimates. They're going to commit their sound barrier first though, which tells me they want to go. Good placement there with the self-destruct from K-Momo, but he's not going to find anything with it. Good pulse bomb to pressure out Zonda, and he goes down. Now they're getting really aggressive here. Drew out a good number of ultimates from Flash Wolves as well. Did it to commit some of their own, but they're actually going to set up on this point nice and handily anyway. Bacon Jack trying to respond there as Jongi does get a kill, but they're keeping the pressure on anyway, and now looking set to close this one out as Jongi goes down having used his ult. And now the trickle in from K-Momo. I don't disagree with this. They're trying to get more time on the point, but the cap had already gone over, and now Zonda's committing too, with no members to back him up. This is a waste. Yeah, this is really odd from Flash Wolves. Big misfire.
Yep, Flash Wolves made a mistake. Blank jumped on it again. Flash Wolves need to keep making mistakes for Blank to be able to win this, because Blank are always able and willing to jump on any mistake Flash Wolves make, and they do get the progress off the back of it. So I believe Blank should get an equalized progress of this, if not even more progress. And now it's Flash Wolves coming in, no ultimates, use the tag visor onto absolutely nothing that's going to cost them later on.
Oh, Bacon Jack able to just go straight back in to close out with Gunber, and this is rough now for Blank. He opted to not use that Transcendence, assumed he'd beaten back Bacon Jack, who is now just going to go back in for the wraparound and get more damage down. Yeah, oh, there we go. Goes down to RQT, wasn't able to get back to his team, and now the pressure onto Sinclair. Shrill too deep though, doesn't convert the kill. Blank are going to get back in control at this point, luckily, but it's not clean, it's not easy. They're going to have to send in the self-destruct to cut off the reinforcements of K-Momo, but they need to convert kills in that time as they've committed a sound barrier, and now Atar's going to get pressured by Jongi, or indeed by the DPS. Oh, not quite into the Transcendence, and Zonda closes it out. Now Bacon Jack again running rampant, D-Mex Kiki, and they're going to set themselves back up on this point in just a few moments here.
That has happened far too often, where the Transcendence or the sound barrier or whatever it supports does not come online enough, or does not get in there quick enough to actually save the DPS. And Atar, he needed to use a tag visor, he needed to find a good situation. He actually dodged Jongi. Jongi went for the jump, turned around and said, I'm actually not going to go into Atar. Atar was alive for a decent amount of time, runs into too many players from Flash Wolves, then dies before the Transcendence comes in. That's a real heartbreaker.
It really is, and now they are at an ultimate deficit. They have a few, but they need to get a lot of mileage out of them, and they need to make sure no one goes down, because honestly, Flash Wolves are pressuring these DPS members so well. Eat Up is going to maybe look for the point. They need to react to Jongi. They're going to do so as he's trying to corner trap all of these members here, and eventually they're just going to back off, losing Kiki's mech, and Eat Up realizes he has to go aggressive to answer this. The sound barrier is there for Flash Wolves, but they are converting kills. Good work by Trill. K-Momo has the self-destruct. Good stick from Bacon Jack is going to keep this one on lockdown for the time being, and Blank just aren't finding anything. He closes out on his counterpart as well, and Blank can't get any kind of regrab in. Kiki can't even get back into his mech safely. Sure, he's on the point, but he's just going to lose his mech again and give away a ton more ult charge. That's a Russian from Sinclair. Don't know if that was quite necessary, but they are respecting Blank.
Speaking of Russian,
yeah, Russian indeed. Atar, he gets one, but he goes down for it, and Gunba goes down as well. It is all in the overtime now, and there's just no members here. Bacon Jack suddenly has stopped being kept at bay by Eat You Up, and he's running rampant. If this is what dictates the closing moments of this finals, it would be fitting.
And there is only one more map potential. You can see it on the faces of Flash Wolves. If this is a pack hunting group, they've already sensed the last breath of Blank, and they want to get this kill now. They're so close to it. The finals, the victory, it's all coming down to this. Potentially only one map on the last map, or one stage rather on the last map, could decide it all.
They have to turn it around right here, right now. They haven't got a map win, even when they've had good fights, even though this is closer than yesterday. Again, closer doesn't mean anything. Silver linings don't mean anything. Saving graces don't mean anything. Wins is what counts.
Exactly, and if you're a Blank fan, this is your final opportunity. Put your spirit fingers up in the air, get your Blank faces on. This is it. One more map. Village is where it all potentially ends.
And Village was Blank's weakest performance yesterday as well. Not going to quite fall prey to the same maneuvers this time around, but not necessarily coming out the better either. They need to be very careful with how they play this. On the line here, Eat Up has to use the recall, looking to get aggressive. Now they catch Realment. That's a good start for them as they look to go big aggressive now, as they've kind of caught Flash Wolves a little bit, who aren't quite sure whether they want to commit to the dive or fully retreat. It is the reverse of what happened yesterday. They're looking like what Blank were doing, and they are going to be the ones who get cleaned up. This is very big for them. Nice work by Eat You Up, putting on the Bacon Jack shoes. Bacon Jack goes wide with his own pulse bomb and goes down to Atar for good measure. Cap through for Blank. A lot of ultimate charge too.
Absolutely. You stole his shoes, then you punch him in the face, send him back to the respawn room. Flash Wolves, their entire team went down there. The gong goes on the side of the blank for one of the few times of this entire series, and exactly right, they did to Flash Wolves what Flash Wolves did to them yesterday.
Now Flash Wolves, though, we'll see if they can react. And
Headshots
from Gunba, it does indeed have to hurt. As now Eat You Up, all he's got to do is keep Bacon Jack at bay once again, and he does indeed do that as Sinclair gets routed out as well. Gunba MVP.
There we go. Showing Zonda how to headshot there. I mean,
Yeah. Wow.
forehead to forehead, there it is.
Zenyatta does have quite a big forehead, actually. It's quite a fitting pick for Gunba. But in any case, Gunba is actually looking really good here. Indeed, the entirety of Blank is now with the ult economy up and running. Oh dear.
Sinclair got a revenge roll.
Yeah.
There's still ultimates.
Oh dear, it's eaten up there.
There's less ultimates now.
Yeah, a lot less ultimates now as they're really relying on ATAR. Zonda has his own visor. He's going to commit his and get Eat You Up off the top of it. And sound barrier's out from Blank, but it can't save these members. Trill stuck off on the wrong side of this, and ATAR is just finding nothing with his own ultimate. And that has happened so many times here. He never seems to have favorable positions. And now he's having to deal with Bacon Jack and all these people trying to dive onto him. He can't stay alive. He can't put damage onto the enemy. And this is going to be Flash Wolves getting the count back in their favor. Flash Wolves looking good now. Blank did get a good amount of progress and can cap it back, but Flash Wolves do now have what they need to win.
I've got a lot of progress. Losing Eat Up on the end is not going to be good for them, but at least, you know, Blank are going to wait for this respawn. They're going to wait. They're going to have to reset themselves anyway. They got more progress on the Shrine. They had 94% this time. They have 76%. They can't have a repeat of what Shrine was, which is essentially give Flash Wolves 70% worth of progress and then not even win the fight. They've got to do much better than that.
Ooh, that was a little bit dicey for a moment by Eat Up, but they're getting good pressure onto K-Momo. Need to make sure Trill doesn't go down, though, and never mind, it does. They do demec K-Momo. He uses his self-destruct there.
Ouch!
Oh!
What was that?
Triple from K-Momo, and this is looking rough for Blank. Rough as a muesli bar.
That is an absolutely awful way to sort of continue this map right now for Blank. This is so tough for them. 50% already gone. Waiting for Pixie to come back. It's got to be nearly 60% by the time Blank can actually attack here. And suddenly it looks like Shrine all over again. They've given away so much progress for such little progress on their own side, and they got less to work with than they did on Shrine at least. The ultimates are available. They got to do a lot with this now.
They've got to go. Oh, and the pulse bomb gets eaten once again. Now Flash Wolves just straight up have more resources here. Gunba goes aggressive with the Transcendence. They have to convert while that's running. But Flash Wolves just back up. They give it the space. Now they re-aggress, picking Gunba. Blank, they need to lose this fight quickly if they're going to lose it, and that is indeed what's going to happen. ATAR did not have an ultimate to commit, and they do get a time for one last fight, but it will be the last one, their last chance to turn it back around.
Everything, while there's so much pressure here, there's so much on the line for Blank. The difference between first and second, the difference between coming out from the series, getting another one tomorrow or not, 90%, only 10% separates Flash Wolves and the Season 1 victory.
They've got to go.
Remaining until Blank are going to have to go home.
The final fight, the final team that Flash Wolves have to take down, the last contender. Blank gunning for the point, but RQT is down, and already it's rough. Oh, they get the cap. That is a huge amount of breathing space, but they need to get the kills too, and they're just not. Sinclair's got the ultimate, and they're looking poised to get the regrab as they just destroy the members of Blank where their stand eights are down before he can ult. Kiki gets back into the mech, but loses it straight away. They haven't got the regrab just yet. Eat You Up is trying so hard to turn it around, and they're diving into Bacon Jack. Trill, though, he's all alone. He's going to go down, and Eat You Up can't save him here. They're going to get it up to 99% themselves, but they're all dead.
Oh, there's a couple of members still coming in. It's 99 to 99. Flash Wolves can still get the cap over here if they do.
ATAR,
this might be too difficult for Blank.
ATAR is contesting it, but he can't get Jongi. And the cap through for Flash Wolves. It's in overtime. It's the dying moments. And can Blank do it, Flash Wolves? This is the only fight they have left to win on the entire OPC. And they're going to do it. They're going to take down Blank. And they're going to take the OPC throne. Ladies and gentlemen, your champions, the Flash Wolves.
Out for blood, and they get it. Blank, unfortunately, they're not going to be able to secure it this season. It's all over for them, but Flash Wolves, they add that trophy to their room. That podium that sat empty, it's going to be there now. One more time for Flash Wolves.
One more well-deserved trophy to be sure. And this was the only team left that could challenge them in the entire OPC. They came into this off a huge undefeated run from very early on in the tournament. Blank, for the first time in weeks, finally took a map off Flash Wolves. They proved God could bleed, but all they did was made him angry. And it was Flash Wolves who were truly, like you said, out for blood.
Flash Wolves now collect their handshakes off of Blank for the very last time in the season 1 of OPC. The Flash Wolves, they've reigned supreme since week number 4, and now they will finally get to lift up that season 1 trophy. They will finally be the champions, the heralded champions of Overwatch and all of APAC.
Taking a well-deserved bow, and today they will be able to lay hands on that trophy. Congratulations.
Now, 13 weeks ago, we started with 8 of the best teams in the Asia Pacific region, and now only 1 remains. All competition has been ousted.
A phenomenal performance, not just today, but yesterday as well, with the 4-0 to set themselves up for today's victory. And indeed, the performance before that, you mentioned it, undefeated since week 4 of 11 weeks of grueling competition. It has been a marathon effort from all teams, start to finish. 4 whole round robins of gameplay, non-stop action, and then a grueling grand final to top it off. A best of 3 of best of 7s, but Flash Wolves, they have the grit, they have the gumption, and they have reigned supreme.
And now they get the glory as well. We're about to head into a wonderful post-match interview as well. Once again, congratulations to Flash Wolves. Here we go. All 6 members of the team and their coach, Ray, on stage now. I'll be translating this one over.
欢迎 AD 帮我们颁发这个殊荣，还有我们的300万奖金。
And the check coming out, $3 million Taiwan dollars, presented by Eddie Meng
我们先看前
of
面的镜
Blizzard
头。
Taiwan, the head of Blizzard Taiwan, Macau, and Hong Kong.
That champion written on the check says it all, and
好，那我们看右边，
look at their faces.
Absolutely.
再来我们看左边。
What a journey from start to finish for every single team involved, not just for Flash Wolves,
那我们比个
for
加油手
Blank,
势好
for
不好？这个摄
AHQ,
影
for
师
the
要求
other
的，
7 as well. I mean,
跟这个婚礼摄影师很
this
像。
has been a total ride.
好的，
You can see the
那我们
members
谢谢
are
AD
even
谢谢
tearing up here. That is how
来我
happy
们
they are.
这个
Look at
支
that.
票很重的感觉，我们
They
要
are
这样进行，我
so,
们赛
so
后跑感觉也是
overwhelmed,
不错。
absolutely rapt to have
来来，
achieved
那我
this.
们就一
Alright,
路
we're
从
going to
我
get some
们
words
的
now
这边
from
传过去啊。
the members as they pass the mic
每
down
个
to
人都来
Johnny.
讲一下这个获胜感言，我刚看起来实在是非常感动。哎，今天跳蛮多舞的嘛。
So you had a lot of jumps
讲过
today.
吗
What would you like to say? How are you feeling?
大家都打得很好，里
I
面
think everyone played well
刚
today.
刚打到最后几张的时候有很比较重要的失误，然后还是有犯了，然后像什么辛可刚刚睡到努巴尼那个原式，我不小心手痒按到，然后不小心害他死。
我真的是看到想说，哎，
Even
不
by
是
the
睡
means on
吗？
the
还是
body as
睡？哎
well.
怎么醒了？
Sleeping, getting the sleep
打死
onto Genji, so I woke him up and I felt really
大
bad
概
about
喊
that.
了快14到，我对不起，我对不起。
And I had to really apologize
因
for
为我真的
that.
很紧张，怕那
And I
那
was-
波
I
就
was-
是因为这样就死。
I was really pressured. I was really
起
panicky.
来的时候大家都吓死
请他
了。
吃宵夜嘛，请他吃宵夜。
哎，不过哎，等下有听到哈，记得要请。那其他队员要请吗？
可以啊，因为我失误上最多。
哎，请全队哦。
You're going to invite everyone to your birthday
不错
party?
不错。
Yes, I'm going to invite everyone on the
好啦，还
team.
是祝一下你昨天生日快乐，因为昨天
And
我们在
happy
场没
birthday
办法
for your
祝你生
birthday
日快
yesterday
乐
as well.
谢谢。
好，再来是刚刚一个神炸的 K Momo，来
Alright, K Momo as well.
得奖感言。
我刚刚有失误啊，所以我可以跟季总对分。
Alright, so I
然后
yeah, I feel like I matched up to Jongi today
我
with
刚
the
也
big
打
boy.
到脑充血，进去眼睛都红的。
And you know, I feel like I had red eyes by the end of
放
it.
假的辛苦都值得这样。然后也谢谢在场粉丝。
I want to thank you to all the fans.
对于最后的神表现，有没有就可以自己夸奖自己一下？
有，我刚刚有喊我一个神炸。
Yeah, when I got the self-destruct kill, I was really happy
我
about
说，
that.
哎，我刚刚神炸有看到吗？
很少神炸。
有看到我刚神炸，哎，其实迪马要神炸很难呐。
很难啊。
Actually, it's
对啊，
hard
就
to
很
get
难
the
抓到那个
self-destructs
机
right.
会。
Aces
好啦，
yesterday
再
is
来
very hard to get.
寿星出现了，生日礼物就是冠军。
So the,
我都忘记我生日了。
你忘
and
记
actually
你生日了
it's Zonda's birthday apparently as well. So for Zonda's birthday, he gets the trophy.
不小心输了2张
He。says I actually
那
I
这
forgot,
个
and
现场
I feel
满满
bad
的
for
观
us
众
losing 2 matches
我数到
today.
3，我们一起跟他说个生日快乐，好不好？
So I
来
think，for
1
everyone
2
we should
3，
sing a happy birthday
生
song.
日快乐！
谢谢。
这应该是你最想要的生日礼物吧
So？this must be the
对啊，
best birthday
对啊，
present
哎，
ever.
其
And
实
he
不
says
是
yes.，
其实不是。
其实刚才就是已经打到3比2的时候，
So
那时候
we
去
were
厕所的时候就已经在想，
3 and 2.
就是我不知道会不会就是又像之前一样，就是以前我当职业选手
And I
很多
thought
年了嘛，
I thought it might have been a
每次打比
repeat
赛都是
before.
就差一点点。
And I
就是
feel like
有时
we
候
were going to
差
lose
1
at the end. I feel like in my past history as a pro gamer, I've always missed out by just a small margin. I've never been able to get that win.
就是很害怕，
And I was very scared that we weren't going to get the win
很
again.
害怕又会失去这个
And
机会。
I'm
就是
very
对啊，
I'm
我
very
觉得
happy
真
about
的是蛮
the
辛苦的
situation. We feel like everyone's worked
走过来
extremely hard
就
to
是
get
真
here.
的支撑到现在。
To get here today and get the victory
我知道，
finally.
因为你平常就是表现的也是笑笑的样子，但我感觉出
So
来
I
你
feel like
对
you're
这个
usually
赛事
a
是
very
非常
happy
看
person,
重的。
but you look very serious
对
today.
我平常就是我们练习嘛，我就是
And when we
真的
practice,
很严格，
I'm
对
I'm
对
I'm
大
actually
家
quite serious
对啊
and
不管是对
very
手
serious with everyone else as well. And I've
有时候会
been
不太好。
kind of angry
然后
and
很谢谢就是教练啊，还有后勤，还有选手这样包容我。
I feel like
你有
I'm
什么
very
要跟队
thankful
友
for
讲
all
的
the
吗？因为你
teammates
之
for
前
sort
都
of
说你都对
being up
队友
there.
很凶嘛，但我知
Hey,
道
put up with
他
me
们
and
不认
also
真
to
啊
really
哎，
pull on
不
through
是
as
说
well.
很抱歉吗？
可是我觉得就是也不一定要这样的方式去表
He
达。
says I don't necessarily have to act like this.
以前就是有
But
好像
before,
看到默默哭嘛，
I-
我其实
you know,
也很
came
不
over
好意思啊。
came over has cried before, and I felt really bad about that. I did that. And
现在
I'm
知
kind
道，
of
现在
sorry
知
for
道
that.。
对啊，就是因为他们都是没什么经验，我就
Because
想
a
把
lot of the
那些
new members here
思想灌输给
don't
他们
have experience as a pro gamer, and I just
也不是
really
骂
want
哭可能
I
就是
really
压
want
力很大。
I
因为
really
我不
want
会
to
骂人
the team to be the
会给
best
人家压
possible.
力很大。
And I
哎
feel
我
like there's
妈
just a
也
lot
这
of
样
pressure.
讲，我妈都说我没有骂，
Not
我真的没有
necessarily
骂。
because it's not necessarily because I'm getting angry and yelling at people
不
or
然
anything
拥抱
like
一下
that. And there's a lot of pressure on the team to win, and I feel like that's what it comes down to. So there it is, hug it out.
眼眶泛泪。好啦，再传给你的这个好队友 Bacon，今天也是表现得非常的好。
So you had a really good game today, Bacon.
我自己对我这2天
I feel like
的
these
看法
past 2
没有
days.
乐观啦，就是我觉得我这2天应该是 OPC 发挥中最差的这2天。
I feel like I've played the worst these 2
但
days
仔
this
细想
weekend.
想，我 carry 队友例行赛这么久了，
But I feel like
比赛让你们 carry
but I feel like I've
好像
carried
也
the
不
team for
错
so
明明
long.
就我在
It's time
carry
for someone else in the team
啊，
to
对不
carry.
起对不起，所以这个
And Zonda says, "Well, it's a good thing I did."
应该是啦，应该是。
那你有话想说吗？
Anything you have to say about
真的
that?
你不要这样子
OK。
大家真的都做得很好。
Zonda says everyone did
再
quite
这
well
样
today.
配根要哭了哦。
Do you feel like you might cry now,
你知道，
Bacon?
因为其实
No,
今
no,
天表
no.
现非常好，但其实，在第一场比赛的时候，大家都吓到了，因为第一场比
So
赛其实
in the first map,
在第一张图的时候
everyone was
，Blank
scared
是非常快速地拿
because
下
Blank
手
had a very quick
有
3-0.
点快心态炸裂的感觉啊。
How did you feel about that?
完全没有，
想回答是不是
I didn't feel too pressured by
伊
that.
罗斯真的是蛮特别的地图。
I feel like Ilios is a good map for them.
对，
难打。
It's
那
hard
你
for
觉
us.
得，如果今天有人可以称你是 OPC 的最强闪光，你觉得
Would you feel like
可以
you're the
吗
best tracer in the OPC
应
today?
该是可以啊。
I think I might be able to agree with that
不
today.
错不错，很有自信的表现，的确也是当之无愧啦。那再来，我们把麦克风交给 Real Man。
And we're gonna go to real mint now.
我刚没听到。
哦，我说把麦克风交给 Real Man
好好，
吧
对不。起，刚刚掌声太大，对不起。
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
其实我今天自己也是失误很多，
So I feel like
真的太久没有输了，
I feel like
所以就是
we haven't lost in a long time,
是有点
and
混乱，
谦虚。
it was a little
当
bit
下情绪有点
difficult.
混乱，然后可是队友就是很燥，对啊，我很感谢他们，就是有维持住，没有就是跟我一样，就是在那边想太多。
So I feel like I was overthinking it today. I thought about too much, and we weren't focused enough, and we
哦
unfortunately
会
dropped.
担心东
We
担心
ended
西
our
的
win
然后
streak
结果
today.
就都没
刚好
过
因为我前面2张手感比较不好，
I feel like the first 2 maps I was particularly playing quite badly.
有点辛苦啦，真的。
It was very difficult to get through those first 2 maps.
的对手。
那你对中打有什么看法？他刚刚我看每
What
场
do
比
you
赛
feel
好
about
像都讲
Zonda?
非常多话哎
I。feel like Zonda's
他
spoke a
是
lot
习惯
today.
了啊，他就是每
But
次
he's
话
used
最
to
多
that.
就他了。
He's the one who communicates the most. He's the one that calls the most in the team.
对啊，
He says yes.
不小心说太多话了。
Probably maybe don't want to
就
say
是
too
有的
much.
时候没那么谨慎，有的时候太佛放了一点。就
Sometimes
是对啊，就是要很谨慎，就是要把对手当做我们练习对象最强的那个。
sometimes I'm very forward. We had to treat our opponents like
可是他认 认真起来，
they're the
我就是
hardest
失误
performance
最少
ever.
那一个。
最糟的那一个嘛，对不对？关键都会跳出来，就是我了。谢谢。
好了，那再来把麦给 Thinker。这个呢 ，Thinker 选手呢，这个分析台每次都跟我说，他是据点王，很难防。Thinker 先来讲讲你的这个赛后感言。
很开心。
Really good at living. He's very difficult to get killed. He's very difficult to kill. He's a very good player. And Sinclair says I'm very happy today.
他赶高铁。
赶高铁是不是？不行，说很开心。来，再多讲几句对队友
Would you
说
like
的
to
话。
say a little bit more than that? Thank you to everyone.
请问 ，Excuse me， 是电竞界萧敬腾吗？我真的是，你这话太少了，不行。
I feel like you're
那
not.
我要问
I
你一个
feel
问
like
题。
you haven't
今天
said
其
enough
实在
yet.
工业区的时候，大家都说陈亮很爱出害影，为什么
So
这
I
次
feel like everyone says you like run a lot sombra, but you didn't play as much today.
哦，字好多，所以怎么样？继续。
所以我们就出平常的那种阵容。
So we feel like we
那为
wanted
什
to
么
go back
你要
today.
一直据
Why
点
do
主持人
Why did you do that?
沙发区都说，Thinker 话好少，怎么办？好紧张。
Anna's saying Sinclair doesn't say much, and he says I just don't have very many
我
words.
喜欢。好啦，最后这个整个团队的大家长了，就是我们的教练，一定
And
非
we're
常
going to
多
go
话
down to the end now with Ray, the coach.
没有，我要过滤一下，免得对不对？我一开口，人家就觉得我官腔。对，就是我觉得这一季就是我之前有讲过嘛，我们最近很辛苦。
I've already said earlier,
放
but
假真的很少。
this has been a very
那我们
difficult,
做的努力
hard
也比
time
别
for
人
us.
多。
We
那
haven't
当然
taken a
我
lot of
觉
time
得
off.
今天是我们的第一个里程碑。那
This
接
is our
下来我们
first.
还会有
This is
小
our
组赛，
first
也希望
real
在座
victory.
各位在小组赛能够帮我们加油。
And I feel like very thankful to fans, and I
今天
hope
这
you
份
guys can
荣
keep
耀不
supporting us.
只有属于我们，也属于你们。谢谢。
And we owe this victory
等
to
下
all of you.
教练，我还没有要放过你的意思，把麦克风还给教练。
And I got one more question for the coach. So
教
I
练
can
其
give
实
a microphone to
一
the
路
coach.
上虽然你们的成绩都是一直非常好，但
So your results have
其
always
实我
been
知
very
道
good.，
我觉得一个队伍一直在一个最好的成绩上，其实是一个压力更大的
So
事
you
情。
must have more pressure though while you have good
是
results.
因为
Absolutely we
像
do.
之前一开始我们
But at the start-
刚开赛的时候也没输过嘛。
We didn't
那
really
自从
lose too much at the start
输
either.
给马吉。
But then we
跟
lost to
HQ 之
Machi
后那一
and
天是
HQ.
对我们来讲是一个最大转
And
变。
that was our
因为
biggest day for a
我们发
turnaround.
现到我
It
们
was our
很多
hardest
自
day.
身的问题。
And we
那
found out
当
our
然
problems
后
that
面我
day.
们19连胜
And after，
其
that-
实我多少也是会有点担心，因
And
为
I've always been worried after that
在我们
even.
比冠军赛前，我们看了大陆的职业赛。
And even when we
那
look at overseas teams,
原本 LGD 那一队他们也是零败绩的，结果
LGD
最后冠军赛是被一个
and even LGD
第
at
七
the
名的队
end,
伍给
they were
逆转
undefeated and
所
they
以其
lost
实
in the
我们
grand
也会很
finals.
担心。
So we were
说
very
实话是
concerned.
这
We
样
were going to
是因
follow
为在
that
第一的
path
时候，没有
and
人
be
可
the
以
best
超
team,
越
but then
可
lose
是
the
后
grand
面的
finals.
都想超越你。
And it
那
feels
教
like
练，就
no
大家
one
一
got
定会想
past
知
you,
道，
but
你可
even
以
at the end, someone
帮
could
你
get
的
past
孩
you.
子们一个一个评价一次吗？我们从基炯开始，要认真
Would
的、
you
感
like,
性的，
would you
好
like
吗？
to say something
来，
about each of your members?
你说评价吗？对他们评价吗？
好好的夸奖一下，不要批评，好吗？可以小批评，小批评。
批评其实平常都批评过了，其实该讲都跟他们讲过。那
So
我觉得
everything I've wanted to
我
say,
想
I've
一
already
次
told
讲
them.
嘛。
好。
对啦，我是觉得昨天跟今天每个人
I feel like
都有在
from
关键
yesterday
的时候
today-
跳出来，我觉得这就是一个最强的团队。所谓
I
一
feel
个
like
最强的
every
团队
single
就是要
player
有
is
一个
the
化
best
学效
player
应，我觉得
here.
我
And I
们
feel
这
like
两天做到了。
we've got
真
the
的
best team here.
非常的感人，是不是很官腔啊？不会保持这样的态度？那我们再次掌声恭喜闪
So
电
one
狼啦！
more time, congratulations to Flash
是的
Wolves.
那刚刚呢，因为他们是非常兴奋的，在比赛结束之后就冲过去高举奖杯了。那最后呢，乱入刷存在，
And Serenity coming in for the hug as well. And Blank coming in for the final handshake.
Sportsmanship on full display there, and Blank taking a very humble second. A second that they can be pleased with. This has been their biggest test on the international stage,
我好
but
尴尬。
Flash Wolves getting the better.
And Serenity's going to give one over to each member.
不好意思，大学同学见面是不是？
It feels like a high school reunion for Serenity or something. That's what the hostess said.
教练，我还在，你要不要讲点话？讲
Would
点
you
话
like to。say anything, Serenity?
今天大家也看了，就其实每一张图都很精彩啊，
Everyone saw today that every map was very tough,
真的都打得很厉害
and I。feel like everyone played extremely well.
也没办法，毕竟就是即
It's very difficult
使
to
这样
say,
子
but-
讲话的话，我就是只能说我现在想的现在的想法。
And
毕
I'd
竟还
like
是
to
有
I'd
第
like
二
to
季啦，
change
所以
some of the things
你
I've
们也
said
不
and
要
take back some of the things I've said.
我祝台湾跟闪电狼世界杯
I feel like
晋级
feel like
然后我们也可
I
以在
wish
世界杯
Taiwan
上见。
in the World Cup.
Okay,
the best of luck, and I hope we can face you in the World Cup as well.
谢谢 Bank 教练，非常非常的有风度哦。你要站在这吗？谢谢。
Thank you very much, Serenity.
真的是非常感人的这个战队情谊，因为我觉得两队之间虽然在竞技上的时候是对手，可是私下的时候他们还是一个互相交流的好伙
seem
伴。
like enemies on stage
最
and
后
in
我
game,
们
but off stage and
很
off
自私的到前面举起
out of
奖
the game,
杯，
they
拍
feel
个
like very
照
good
吧，来
friends.
大
Would
家
you like to
因为
come
刚刚太
forward
兴奋嘛，
for
我们现在这个
a final
这
photo?
个比较冷静一点来举这奖杯。好，那我们用掌声一起让闪电狼来高举他们的荣耀
So
吧。
for one more time, hold up the trophy, Flash Wolves. That beautiful
恭
OPC
喜闪电
Season
狼
1
获
trophy.
得这一次的冠军。那么本季的 OPC 赛事呢就到此结束了。接
The
下来
best
请大家继续
team
关注
in all
Overwatch。
of the Asia Pacific region that expands beyond Taiwan, that includes Hong Kong, Japan, Thailand, Australia. The best team among all those countries.
The first tournament of its kind, and Flash Wolves are the victors. They are unequivocally the best team of Asia Pacific. Blank have to be comfortable with being the second best team.
For now.
For now. Because there is still so much more ahead of all of these players, of all of these teams that came in this tournament. There is still a Season 2 ahead of them. The competition will be tougher. The teams will have learned. And if this was Flash Wolves flying steady, it will be turbulent skies ahead potentially. But for now, they have a safe landing, trophy in hand, and they are your champions.
Absolutely, and with that, you know, like you said earlier, it is the end of the first season, but there will be a second, and that's what we've got to look forward to, because the journey is not over. In fact, it feels like it's just beginning. Asia Pacific feels like such a breath of fresh air in terms of competition. We've barely ever seen all these countries come together at the same time to play across this entire length of tournament to really showcase the best talent here. And it's not over yet, because we've still got the promotion and relegation tournament happening this week on Wednesday and Thursday evening, where we're going to see who are the 2 new teams that will join the Flash Wolves and 5 other teams to form the new 8-team squad of OPC Season 2. And we've got 4 teams coming up in the promotion and relegation tournament, 2 of which, after Thursday evening, will be competing in OPC Season 2 as the new entrants. But with that being said, this is it. OPC Season 1 has all but included, and there's been so much we've had to go through here. We started out, we started out with a lot of questions about how everyone was going to go, who all these teams were. And now I feel like those have all been answered, but many more questions on the horizon.
It has
any final words before we sort of pass it off?
It has been an absolute joy and a privilege, I think, to even just witness these games and also to bring them to everyone as well. It is so, like you said, refreshing to see all these teams in Asia Pacific, and we're going to see so much more in the future.
Absolutely. I want to give a big thank you to the full team at Full Circle Productions, as well as our other 2 casters, Matt Smite Ross and Easy Dallas Faituri, who joined us throughout this 13-week journey. But from myself, Kevin Avril Walker, and also Matt Pixie Carroll, who has joined me for the entire grand finals and most of the playoffs as well. Thank you so much for sticking with us throughout the entire journey, and we will see you still in the OPC promotion and relegation tournament this Wednesday and Thursday evening. Good night.